it's going to be set in Vice City. Yes! And he said, when can we expect to see it? He said soon.
Saying that he's playing a character in Grand Theft Auto 6 listed as a 2018 recording, and the character is called The Mexican.
The game's map is actually going to be set, it's a modern setting, with an evolving map. Now, there are comparisons to Fortnite made here.
Now, we just have talked about GTA 6 for a decade now, literally ever since GTA 5 came out.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Jules here for What Culture Gaming, joined by Scott, and it is late in the day, but there is some breaking news for you, or rumours technically, so let's hit that jingle.
Hot dang, this news, give it all you got. I guess it's time for Jules and Scott.
Back in the room, and we are talking about GTA 6, which has had some juicy details leaked. Now, we cannot prove that these are legitimate, 100% true, but if they are, there might be some big changes coming along the way for Rockstar fans, young and old.
So, it seems that the who know things on YouTube apparently got an inside source from Rockstar.
Right, okay.
And they must have been having a bit of a word with their inside source. And we now know full details as to what GTA 6 is going to be, where it's going to be set, and when it's going to be coming out.
So let's begin with where it's going to be set.
So, it's going to be set in Vice City!
Yes! We have
Take me down!
We have Vice City is one of, if not the greatest Grand Theft Auto game of all time. I genuinely think it's brilliant. It's got the best soundtrack, some of the best characters, best voice acting. It's got Lance Vance.
It does have Lance Vance. Oh, I don't know, man. I'd make the case for San Andreas. This is a debate for another time. Let's rank these games, and then we can really get stuck in to this thing at some point.
So it's going to be set in Vice
City. I would assume, especially with the way that GTA 5 went back to San Andreas and blew it the hell up, that they would do the similar sort of treatment, and we'll get a massive hyper-detailed Vice City, which would look gorgeous. The second thing is that there's going to be a set of missions set in Southern America. Which there's no more detail other than that.
That's quite cool. Well, the GTA franchise has usually kept its missions contained, obviously, within its massive maps. But there has been a few times where it has leapt into other games. Like, for example, I think it was in Vice City Stories where you go back to Liberty City to do one mission.
You do it again. It's in San Andreas. You go to
yeah, that's the one.
I think it's in that one too, though.
Yeah. So there's a few times where it does go into other places, but for the most part, it is obviously within their highly detailed and very large maps. So going outside of that could be very good. Whether or not it's incorporated as a part that they did in Red Dead Redemption, where you go over to Mexico, maybe that's how they do it.
I mean, that's one of the things. Like, that would be an interesting way to say, like, hey, does GTA always have to be tied to the version of America that we've had before, and could it branch out to different things? Well, maybe. I mean, one of the biggest rumors, or I don't know, one of the biggest theories that was going around was that it could be set somewhere completely different, whether they go back to GTA London, or maybe even set in the East, like something like Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah.
Which I'm all for, but I mean, yeah. But as it is, it seems like there'll be some sort of set of missions that's set in South America, but who knows how that ties to the characters. But speaking of the characters, another massive bomb is that there's going to be the first female protagonist. Although,
interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting, that, because I know that a lot of people found that the mixing of characters has been quite varied. I mean, like, if you look at sort of who you've played as in the past, and then you look at people like Ballad of Gay Tony, you look at sort of Trevor, you look at sort of Franklin. And, like, the thing is, you've got a different character representing every different type of player, so it makes sense that eventually we would get a female protagonist. Does it mean, though, that we will have the option to choose our protagonist as in GTA 5?
I hope so. Because in Red Dead Redemption 2, you can potentially, well, it looks like you might be able to choose from 7 potential characters, including like Abigail Marsden or whatever. And if they take that tech from GTA 5 and you can jump between multiple characters, it will be the next evolution of it.
That makes sense.
But because that's the thing, we, from the leak, know that there's, in theory, going to be a female protagonist, but is it still going to be multiple protagonists? I would assume so.
Yeah,
because that tech was cool.
That gave them so much more scope to tell their stories by having different characters representing different facets of life, and it was great to be able to switch on the fly and instantly go from mission to mission to mission without the fear of going, okay, maybe this character's getting a bit stale or dry. It may actually, somebody, I can't remember which YouTube personality did a video, but he actually analysed all of the characters from GTA 5 and actually wrote down their stories, and then basically just said to the camera, they're pretty boring on paper. It's the mixing up of them that makes that feel such an engaging thing, and that's a really clever way to keep your story feeling fresh.
Plus, like on the gameplay side, I mean, I like when you would beam down into Trevor and he's already in a wanted mission. He's already in like,
that was very
or whatever.
cool.
Like, there's ways to sort of pepper the world with activity without you having to kickstart it. They can hint you towards different things. They can push you towards different ways of interacting with the world. The last thing is the release date, and it's not apparently coming until 2022.
That's a long time away.
4 more years.
I mean,
GTA Online.
But this is the thing. They've turned GTA Online into the thing that they always promised it would be. It is now very playable. It is very addictive. There's a lot to do in that. So I think they could probably eke that out for maybe another year or two.
I mean, right now, like GTA Online makes, I'm probably get this wrong, but it's around $5 million a day, and GTA 5 is still because you get obviously GTA Online with 5, you can't buy online separately.
That's
GTA 5
insane.
is still in the charts and has been since 2013.
Fair play.
It's absolutely humongous, and the amount of money that they make on the shark cards is like, what's his chops from Take-Two? Mr. Important Man said that they basically had to rethink the way that they approach games, and he said, like, we want to space these games out because otherwise they don't have wealth, they don't have worth.
Right,
and so,
okay.
because you look at companies like Ubisoft or whatever, and they pump out games like Assassin's Creed, he said they're going to space out their GTAs, but he also said there's a huge financial reality of how much money GTA Online is making, and we have to then rejig the way that we approach the franchise.
Yeah.
So, that to me makes a lot more sense. It means they can give GTA Online one hell of a run. I mean, at that point, it'll have been on the go for almost 10 years. Just under 10 years.
And it means we will have Red Dead 2 to plug the gap somewhat.
And Red Dead Online as well.
Yeah, so they're doing pretty smart with that. I think that while I would love a new GTA, like on my doorstep, delivered fresh like a Papa John's pizza, sponsor us,
We're not
please.
even remotely sponsored.
But I understand that I would like that, but
Yes.
you have to wait for good things, and I'm sure I won't be dead by that point. If I have died by that point, please cut back to this as a bit of irony.
Yeah, and redirect the sponsorship to me.
Yeah,
I'll have that. Yeah.
Anyway, it's been your sourdough boys, Jules and Scott. I am the garlic sauce to your deep pan crust.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think about that down in the comment section below. Are you happy with these changes? Are you excited about the potential GTA 6? Are you a bit apprehensive about having to wait another 4 years for it? Then swing by whatculture.com for more news and articles like this every goddamn day. And as always, I've been Jules.
I've been Scott.
And we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
There's no video game franchise on the planet quite like Grand Theft Auto. For proof of that, consider the fact that GTA 5 has been out for close to 5 years and still remains a constant fixture in the disc trays of consoles worldwide. That's incredible. In an era when games have a more limited shelf life than ever, the world moves fast and so does the gaming industry, people are still whizzing around San Andreas causing chaos with Michael, Franklin, and Trevor. All of this hasn't stopped everyone from playing detective when it comes to the next installment either. In fact, it encourages rumors and speculation, not to mention YouTubers The Know claiming to have the latest scoop on Rockstar's next slice of criminal action thanks to a loose-lipped inside source. GTA 6 is certainly a ways off, but with its construction coming with millions of dollars of potential in tow, I'm Scott from whatculture.com, and this is GTA 6, 9 best leaks and rumors we want to come true. Number 9, the return to Vice City. One of the biggest pieces of news from the Nose report was that Rockstar are ready to make a grand return to perhaps the most beloved city in GTA history. No, it's not Liberty, and no, it's not even San Andreas, it's the pastel suit and Hawaiian shirt covered streets of sunny Vice City. There are no details yet as to which time period GTA 6 will take place in, so don't get too excited about running around the mid-80s listening to Judas Priest and Cutting Crew just yet. There's a slight chance that Rockstar will remodel the environment to focus on the modern day, instead of producing another love letter to fans of Scarface. Still, will Tommy Vercetti be back to build up another criminal empire? Have Rockstar demolished iconic locations like the mansion on Starfish Island or the Malibu Club to make room for new buildings? Only time will tell. Number 8, Real Life Miami. VG247 claim there's a chance that Rockstar will forgo expanding Vice City as seen on PS2 and look to model GTA 6's map on a real-life version of Miami instead. Vice City was a scaled-down version of the Floridian port city anyway, and it would make sense to plunder parts of the place for use in GTA 6 to give it a more authentic feel. Maybe this means that the fictional parts of Vice City will give way to landmarks like the Freedom Tower, American Airlines Arena, Miami City Halls, and Miami Beach. It'd be upsetting to see Vespucci Beach fall by the wayside, but it would also be pretty foolish to fake apathy towards any injection of realism. Rockstar can still call the place Vice City too. I mean, that doesn't really have to change. Being able to use the Miami Metro Rail as a fast travel system is also pretty enticing. The original Vice City's map wasn't big enough to justify fast travel, so depending on the size of GTA 6's layout, catching the train and using it to traverse from city to city is a sweet idea. Number 7, a shared Rockstar world of characters. Okay, fine, this is a bit of a long shot in some respects, but the seeds have been sown for years as to a shared Rockstar universe. We know that the GTA games are linked thanks to GTA 3's Claude turning up in San Andreas, but what's even cooler was John Marsden popping up in GTA 5, both in GTA Online's character selection screen and on an advert for Pissfasser beer. Add to this the leaked map for Red Dead Redemption 2, which directly references Mafia 3's New Bordeaux, the fictional version of New Orleans. Of course, Mafia 3 was made by Hangar 13, but it proves that Rockstar are more than up for connecting some of their locations to others, even even from other games. Point being, in this age of shared movie universes and other properties continually crossing over, Rockstar have the ability to introduce older characters as residents of whichever city you're roaming around in. Whether they be mission givers or neat little Easter eggs, it'd be really cool to see them. Why not bring back fan favorites as side characters and continue forward with one huge overarching story instead of wiping the slate clean every few years? Number 6, players will travel outside the United States. Though there's no concrete details on which countries this includes, it's interesting that Rockstar are internally calling GTA 6 Project Americas. Note the plural there and start jumping up and down with glee at the prospect of grabbing a flight outside Florida to visit nations such as Brazil, Argentina, Peru, and Uruguay. Colombia is another location that would make sense. The Colombian cartel played a major role in games like GTA 3 and Liberty City Stories, so they've already played a part in that game's universe. Not only that, but Vice City fanatics will remember gun-toting angry man Ricardo Diaz also entering Vice City from Colombia. With all of this in mind, drug runs could end up being the most high-profile side missions in GTA 6. Bring that on. Number 5, a release date of 2022. Apparently, GTA 6 will be shipping within the next 3 to 4 years, and there's already a tentative release date of 2022. This would extend GTA 5's life cycle to around 9 years, and of course Red Dead Redemption 2 was set for release later this year, which admittedly would keep the gaming world talking until then. Still, when it comes to the studio's major franchises, Rockstar seem to like to take their time. There were only 2 years between the original Vice City and the release of San Andreas, a further 4 years between that game and GTA 4, and around 5 between that and GTA 5. When put like that, and realizing that Rockstar want to make GTA 6 the best thing they've ever made, maybe the wait isn't so bad. Number 4, set in London. Whilst I'd personally love a Newcastle-themed GTA, big up the Geordie Massive, the most likely candidate comes from London. And why? Because until GTA 5 went back to San Andreas, there was a subtle pattern emerging in terms of Rockstar's release process. See, in the original GTA, we had Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas, albeit in 2D. Then the leap to 3D on the PS2, and again, those 3 places saw demonstrable upgrades. However, there was another 2D location left behind from a single spin-off. London. GTA London 1961 and 1969 remain the only older games to exist outside the established locations that are yet to be upgraded to modern hardware. Hell, they've not even been made into 3D. As GTA 4 saw Rockstar rebuild Liberty City yet again, and GTA 5 tackled San Andreas, we are long overdue a revisit to the Big Smoke. Number 3, multiple playable characters and warping return. Being able to switch instantly between Michael, Franklin, and Trevor was one of GTA 5's biggest selling points. It was seamless, kept the action rolling, and Rockstar even found time to insert funny little cutscenes showing the characters in various situations that suited their stories and individual personalities. Now, although at the time of this video it's unconfirmed, it looks like Rockstar are carrying this idea into Red Dead Redemption 2, as multiple trailers have shown Dutch's gang riding as all 7 characters together. Now that might be a bit too many to build a cohesive story around, but if Rockstar make multiple characters a staple of their games just like mini-maps and open worlds, it makes sense to expand this even further into GTA 6. Number 2, a female protagonist. Up until now, female characters in Grand Theft Auto's universes have been either used for comedic relief, Catalina, Mallory Bardas Bellick, or as eye candy, Mercedes Cortez, Candy Sucks, and the various girlfriends available throughout the series, but that's set to change with GTA 6. For the first time ever, Rockstar seemed prepared to develop a serious female protagonist who doesn't rely on bitchy behavior or sex appeal to become an important part of the story. That'll become even more true if GTA 6 ends up featuring a solo protagonist. The childish scripting of females in the past makes it difficult to see Rockstar sticking to a newfound moral code that casts a female as inspiring, but hey, I never expected to be fighting waves of aliens in GTA 5, so who knows. Number 1, play as cops and criminals. Considering the incredible potential of being able to hop across the map and embody different characters at any point in their daily routines, Rockstar need to expand this to cover way more thematic potential. Point being, Rumours have discussed playing as a cop before, but swapping between a police officer and a criminal on the fly would change gameplay considerably. Just think of something that's rooted in the idea of Point Break or the first Fast and the Furious. GTA's signature chases would be way more tactile if you had to maintain your cover as a cop, switching to the criminal for the sake of attempting a getaway, then occasionally flicking back to divert attention or lead the chase in the wrong direction. Incarceration would no longer be the end, as you could infiltrate any police station and spring your other character from lockup before escorting them back to freedom. This kind of dynamic between protagonists put the movies that I mentioned on the map, and combining it with GTA 5's character switching mechanic would be the way to go. When it comes to GTA, we've had the medium-shaking, generation-defining delights of the PS2 trilogy, the tonal-shifting GTA 4, and the almost apologetically ridiculous, all-wounds-healing GTA 5, but GTA Online? Now that became something else entirely. Rockstar as a company have been so utterly blown away by the success of the multi-million-dollar making online component to GTA 5, they've all but stopped making games. Where once we had everything from Bully to the Warriors, Manhunt to table tennis, the 2010s have seen only Red Dead Redemption, Max Payne 3, and a lot of GTA Online DLC packs. Going into GTA 6, clearly both Rockstar and Take-Two are crunching the financials on multiplayer versus single player, dynamic player interactions versus sandboxes filled with AI. Whatever GTA 6 ends up being, it can't just be a glorified expansion to GTA Online set in a new environment. I'm Scott from occult.com, and this is GTA 6, 8 Unexpected Risks Rockstar Must Take. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 8. Release GTA Online as a standalone game. There is one home truth to GTA Online. Those who play it only play it, and those who don't could not care less. There is no such thing as a casual GTA Online player, and to a good half of GTA's fanbase, the idea of playing online just isn't why they come to the franchise. Instead, they want missions, incredibly fun scenarios that come from various AI scripts bashing into one another at random. In short, they want the GTA that was established back in Part 3, done in new and increasingly fun ways. For the others, and some substantial financials do back this up tenfold, they're more than happy spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on shark cards, amassing digital collections of cars, homesteads, and everything in between. You can live an entire digital life inside GTA Online, and these two contrasting approaches to essentially one game should be separated going forward. Let GTA Online be its own behemoth. Give it the Battle Royale modes and maybe even release it as a free-to-play game. Shark cards make millions a day in microtransactions no matter what. Only then can we have a dedicated team of Rockstar's finest putting their all into the narrative side of the franchise. Number 7. Cast the whole game with A-listers. Rockstar have noted in the past that they moved away from identifiable voices because an audience would only hear the actor, but I respectfully disagree. Something that used to exemplify the older GTAs, we haven't had a celebrity/star-studded voice cast since San Andreas. Yes, GTAs 4 and 5 had the occasional cameo, but it was nothing on everyone from Samuel L. Jackson to Shawn Ryder popping up to voice some lovable individuals. Put simply, there's no major reason not to make GTA the biggest franchise in town when it comes to production. All-star voice casts give us scores of lovable characters, padding out the worlds that they're in and making their respective installments all that more fun to get through. At this stage, GTA is big enough that Rockstar could get anybody, so let's see some legends of cinema and the small screen make an appearance. Number 6. Embrace the Eyes of the World controversy. Once the world's most dangerous franchise, GTA almost neutered itself coming out of GTA 4. Following Rockstar's maturation of the series' direction to tell a more traditional tale of how manufactured the American dream can be, GTA 5 had a much talked about torture scene, but that was it. Even this torture scene felt forced, like some aging punk band trying their best to reconnect with those anarchic roots that once ensnared them a fanbase in the first place. Thankfully, it resulted in a formula for financial success like nothing else. And yet, something's been lost. GTA's entire appeal is voyeuristically indulging in the darkest desires of humanity's preternatural bloodlust. It exists as a black mirror to Western society, a way to act out, say things that shouldn't be said, and do anything that simply isn't acceptable in real life. GTA 5 let us do all of these things, almost in a cartoon fashion, but with more narrative weight, specific scenarios that reflect real-world woes, and characters with real motivations. GTA could be the politician scaring behemoth it once was all over again. Number 5. Take major influence from storytelling heavyweights to write something truly great. Another ongoing facet of narrative design in gaming is self-reflection. GTA 4 attempted to write a full story about the allure of the criminal life to an ex-soldier looking to just get things done and move on, and GTA 5's Trevor was absolutely a comment on how the average person plays GTA. But to be honest, neither of these really landed. Nico Bellic's character was undone by the very actions we were allowed to partake in, his cutscene dialogue portraying a different person to everything we did in between. And Trevor, he was so unbelievably over the top, doing everything from making comments about eating people to butchering friendly characters just trying to help him, that any comment he could have made on GTA as a franchise was completely obscured. Now look, GTA absolutely doesn't need to do anything in the way of Uncharted 4's family life-loving Nathan Drake or God of War's self-reflective Kratos, but if Rockstar could make their own franchise a focal point for millions of future conversations on violence in games and its appeal, that wouldn't be half bad. Number 4. A custom-voiced protagonist with a variety of roles to play. Perhaps the answer to GTA's never-ending problem with believability and ludonarrative dissonance, where a character's actions in-game betray how they act elsewhere, is to have a completely custom character from the beginning, but with a fully voiced performance backing them up. Comparisons would be the original Mass Effect trilogy, which, discarding the ending, made our choices feel impactful throughout, alongside Fallout 4, both in terms of fully voiced and yet custom protagonists. Both these games came with myriad dialogue options and branching paths, and though GTA doesn't need to upend its cutscenes or general pace, many will remember how in GTA 3 you could choose to kill mission giver Kenji if you accepted a hit from someone else, changing the way that plot played out. Things like this would give GTA such a great sense of immersion, letting Rockstar get away from writing specific characters and instead just a blank slate that we can then draw on whatever we like. Number 3. The entire story played from a cop's perspective. Okay, so hands up, what is the craziest thing GTA could do that no one would expect and yet it would still be insanely cool to see? I'm gonna go with flipping the entire setup of the franchise and letting us play as the police. From multiple protagonists letting you approach situations from a variety of directions at once, to taking part in cop chases with a full array of spike strips and deployable items, it would work perfectly. Older GTAs have routinely let us do vigilante missions already, where the latter was playable. And games like The Getaway, Black Monday, or Sleeping Dogs showed how great rule-bending / undercover thriller stories can be incredibly engaging. Because let's be honest, if there's one thing GTA has never had, it's a truly great story the game is worth playing to see through. Number 2, a drastically different animation set for movement and gunplay. Think about movement and gunplay in GTA. I mean, it's serviceable at best, right? From spongy cover systems to lock-ons or manual targeting mechanics that never quite feel as tight as they should, this extends to just how we interact with the world overall. It's almost what you put up with for the sake of everything else. Back when San Andreas dropped, we all remarked in amazement at the ability to mantle over a fence, or in The Warriors, how you could maintain a sprinting speed while vaulting over a variety of objects. All that seems to have gone away in GTA overall, but a system not unlike Uncharted's blend of climbing and aiming in all directions while on the go or mantling / dangling from ledges would aid tenfold in combat. Games like The Wheelman, Pursuit Force, and Sleeping Dogs also gave us the ability to jack cars on the move, a gameplay mechanic that helps immensely in getaways, but of course it might be a little bit too over the top for GTA. Regardless, moving and shooting in GTA should feel as good and fun to play as its worlds do look to explore. Number 1, ditch the numbers and soft reboot the franchise. At what point do you ditch the numbers and start all over again? At what point do you acknowledge that GTA is so huge it serves multiple audiences all striving for different things? Right now we can say that GTA is 1, for those who like offline single-player AI sandboxes, 2, the same again but in a more mature sense like GTA 4, and 3, for multiplayer gamers who want to live digital lives inside an entire metropolis of transactions and shared wealth. Maybe GTA can be all of these things, or maybe it would be better off soft rebooting itself, ditching the numbers and going with either a definitive Grand Theft Auto label with a new direction, or GTA Retribution / any plot-related buzzword. The latter lets Rockstar flex their storytelling muscles as they once used to, whilst the former establishes GTA as a platform not unlike FIFA or Madden or even Call of Duty. We're seeing Call of Duty Black Ops 4 ditch its single player for the sake of testing the waters on Call of Duty as a platform, rather than a series of sequels. It's this approach that could actually be way healthier for GTA in the long run. Hey everybody, welcome to Our Culture Gaming. I'm Scott. Let's talk a little bit about GTA 6. Now, the state of GTA 5 continues to be kind of insane. It makes something like $5 or $6 million a day, and the success of it kind of forced Rockstar to rethink what GTA even is. Even the cultural positioning of GTA as gaming's bad boy has dissipated, with 5's torture scene receiving nowhere near the same coverage as something like San Andreas' hot coffee scandal. Because right now, GTA 5 is still in the charts. We're 5 years later, and it's still selling enough to be one of the best-selling games of all time and of every week. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of its own phenomenon, and I don't really know who the hell hasn't played GTA 5 at this point. But with all that in mind, where does GTA 6 even go from here? I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is GTA 6, 10 things it must do better than 5. Number 10, strike a balance between single and multiplayer content post-launch. Now, a few people might remember that way back when GTA 5 first launched, Rockstar actually talked about doing a whole bunch of single-player DLC. It was planned, it's been talked about by the developers, and it was gonna come out. Yet over time, as the online component gathered a ridiculous amount of steam, we saw members of their own design team discussing how development had shifted towards multiplayer, rather than anything more narrative-focused. To be honest, GTA has nearly always had a bit of a problem with its story content, one that we don't tend to talk about that much, but I guarantee that the vast majority of us that have played them have only played through each one of them once, simply because the average GTA campaign comprises hours upon hours of cutscenes, missions, and side missions. Once it's in the bag, that's you done forever. Now, Kotaku actually published a report years back on how only like 10% of all players actually finish their games, and I would hazard to guess that Rockstar are more than aware of that. A huge amount of their budget must be dedicated to making single-player stories, and the vast majority of us either only see them once or never even finish them at all. Combating this would be something like bite-sized story packs, picking up on where characters like Michael, Trevor, Franklin, etc. are post-credits, if they're still alive. But it stands to reason that in focusing so much on GTA Online, the story/character side of things has all but been forgotten about. Just have a think for a second. When you think of GTA now, do you think of the story, the world building, the tone, or do you think of GTA Online and the anarchy and the online dynamic multiplayer sessions and all that kind of thing? They can keep going forward with something like GTA Online, but give those of us who want stories and characters and narratives and all that kind of thing bite-sized little chunks, maybe 5 to 6 hours of a worthwhile progression to go through that just ticks the box of something more immersive and memorable than just another multiplayer match. Number 9, make property and playing the stock market matter. Walter White once claimed he was in the empire business after expanding his meth racket in Breaking Bad, and it's a sentiment carried into GTA 5 yet only a sentiment. Though you can purchase all sorts of property from around Los Santos, there's not really any point other than like 100% completion or just for the sake of it. The same goes for the stock market. After it gets introduced in one of the story missions, you can go into it and start balancing figures and get different payouts, but nothing in regards to the way that the world interacts with you is actually dependent on that. You're not meeting up with characters who look at your stock price and offer you specific weapons or specific items based on how you're performing. It's kind of just a thing that you can go and do if you want to, and for me, that meant that I just didn't. All round, both of these systems resulted in more money to invest in random property or stocks that do nothing. It's like two parts of an equation without the result. To remedy this, why not gate certain cars, weapons, or items behind particular high-end moguls that won't even entertain your presence if you're not balancing the books? At least this has a gameplay benefit rather than just something relating to arbitrary completion. Number 8, give us more innovative ways to interact with the environment. Considering how much money has been put into making GTA 5's world one of the most intricate and overblown, dripping in wealth video game worlds ever, the actual way that we interact with it is very basic. Climbing, jumping, mantling, etc. are all in there, but there's almost a bottleneck of conflicting animations if you ever try to climb a ladder after sprinting head-on. We saw in 2005's The Warriors how Rockstar nigh on perfected locomotion and traversal, but it didn't carry into GTA 4 and 5. I mean, look, GTA doesn't need to become like Assassin's Creed and have some sort of in-depth parkour-style system, but if you really think about it, how much is our movement actually advanced going from GTA 3 all the way through to 5? A bit more time put into fluidity and how animations overlap, and getting rid of things that glitch out and result in ragdoll left, right, and center might just improve gameplay overall. Number 7, not one gimmick mission. Now I'm going to refer to these things as gimmick missions. We've all got our names for them, from what the flying f is that to really we're doing this. But I mean things like the dockyard level that we had, scouting the port. Why put that much money on it and time into making a level that's literally just the player moving shipping containers around? GTA has always had this kind of weird off-kilter sense of humor, but this was one of the first times where we just kind of didn't have fun with it. It seems that with the rise of GTA as a cultural touchstone, we've seen Rockstar embrace its memeability, the decision to create entire missions that are more like interactive comedy sketches. Michael's Life Invader Infiltration, where you spend a good 20 minutes just wandering through offices, seeing Rockstar poke fun at the Apple-worshipping tech nerd elite. It was fine, but it could have been done with more gameplay-intensive stuff in the background. You need only look to Watch Dogs 2's Limp Noodle mission, which was basically their way of skewering Google, but they maintained a healthy amount of gameplay alongside the narrative. That's how this stuff should be done, even though none of us are ever going to admit that GTA should learn from Watch Dogs. Basically, no one is playing GTA for the comedy. It's a side effect, and a brilliant one. But this balance needs to be addressed going forward, as GTA 5 occasionally had the scales tipped way too far in the wrong direction. Number 6, mission design needs to play to the game engine's strengths. Now, it's another point about missions, but how many of the story missions did you actually enjoy playing? Like, a lot of them were set up to be set pieces that we would enjoy playing, like stunting Trevor's bike onto the top of a train, but the reality of that is that the physics don't necessarily land very well, and 9 times out of 10 we're about to line up a jump, not really knowing confidently if we're going to land, and as much as you can argue that that's part of the in-the-moment intensity, the reality is that you bounce off some cliff or part of the environment, or just don't land properly, and it's back to doing it again. GTA's set pieces have nearly always felt very awkward, and it's something that they need to address going forward if they're going to put so much focus on them. For example, look to the Humane Lab stealth infiltration. It felt like Rockstar were playing to the game engine's strengths, those being gunplay and a methodical pace to the level itself. Headshots felt satisfying, and the cover system worked in tandem with some ace corridor sections, all wrapped in the guise of slinking around undetected. Contrast this to the Mad Dogs Rhymes mission from San Andreas, which was also a mansion stealthy infiltration type thing, and you can see just how far Rockstar have come. The problem is that they need to keep going. Number 5, unlock the full map piece by piece. This is mostly down to how the open world genre has evolved over time, mainly just seeing a whole bunch of developers go, here's everything, go spend 500 hours finding every last question mark or collectible or whatever. It's just, it's all there. Just get lost in it. It's profitable. It works. But if you go back to the likes of GTA 3, we unlock the map piece by piece. Now, I kind of think that this is a more beneficial way to enforce gameplay in regards to the open world itself. It means that you have to study the island that you're on. It means that you learn all sorts of intricate secret paths and ways that the roads line up or ways that you can get away from the police. It kind of just means that you're prepared for the next island when you get there, the next stage of gameplay. Rockstar kind of need to start treating these like levels again. GTA 5 almost got this across when you first flip over to Trevor up in Sandy Shores / Blaine County, as your surroundings looked completely different. But then you're back to the city again, and the overwhelming nature of just trying to memorize anything and everything is, well, overwhelming. I would wager that the vast majority of players could actually draw a pretty accurate map of GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas from memory, and it's because we spent so much time in their individual portions, gradually connecting them all together. It's just a better way to roll out an open world rather than here's just the whole thing. You knew the secret routes, the stunt jumps, the parts of the world geometry that you could just fling yourself off to cover distance in quicker time. When it came time for a change, you were ready, but it was never a knock on the environment itself. All of this goes away when we're asked to take in a ludicrous amount of space at once, and actually going back to the island by island design would benefit gameplay tenfold. Number 4, make clothing and gangs/factions matter again. San Andreas was the only game that got this right. If you look to wearing clothes and what it means and factional disputes and all that kind of thing, San Andreas meant that if you were wearing appropriate clothing, certain gangs would leave you alone, whereas others would actually come and back you up in firefights. GTA 5's approach to this was to kind of make clothing not matter at all. You could change what you're wearing, but the second you switch to a character and switch back, they'll be wearing something else. It's supposed to get across that, hey, these characters do live in this world and, you know, they're going to change their clothes. But what's even the point in dressing someone up and trying to live a certain role-playing life if you're going to wipe it out again? If you fold in the aforementioned idea of certain high-end dealers of weapons or items, etc., only being accessible depending on how you're dressed or if you're in favor with certain gangs, again, it relays something back to base gameplay. This is how GTA 6 could make clothing matter again and ostensibly give us a progression to unlocking better clothing or better styles or just different ways to dress. The only downside back in 2003 was that Rockstar forced us to take back and defend different territories every few hours. So remedy that with a mechanic that ensures they stay yours for longer, and the overall idea is already much more appreciative. Number 3, return of the mute protagonist. There's a case to be made that the only way GTA can truly work is if you have a main character that's completely devoid of personality. It needs to be someone that we can project all our most ridiculous, anarchic, wanton, destructive tendencies onto, and that kind of gets negated if we're supposed to be playing a person or a character or a specific role. Case in point was GTA 4. The more nuanced and rounded off that Nico was, discussing how he didn't want to lead a life of crime, contrasted entirely with every action he then took. The same goes for John Marston in Red Dead, as he would acknowledge the stupidity of what he was being asked to do, only to do it anyway. GTA 5's answer was to make Trevor a complete psychopath from moment one, but even he didn't work because that approach is entirely one-dimensional, and no one wants to control an actual piece of shit. That's how you get games like 2015's Hatred. Overall, we need a character like Claude, someone that's just literally a walking blank canvas, and it lets us go into all sorts of scenarios, whether they be destructive or mission completion or whatever, without worrying about would this character actually do this, or even having to bring that into the conversation at all. GTA is wish fulfillment, it's escapism, nihilism, and the exploration of just how twisted our own minds can be. It can't be any of those things if the guiding hand is anything other than our own. Number 2, use celebrity cameos/voices to make memorable side characters. For GTA 3, we had Joe Pantoliano, Michael Madsen, Frank Vincent, Michael Rappaport. Vice City and San Andreas gave us Ray Liotta, Gary Busey, Sean Ryder, and Axl Rose. The list went on and on. GTA 4, though, it was a complete slate wipe, as Rockstar noted that people were hearing the celebrity rather than the character, which is somewhat fair. By GTA 5, though, we've got no notable celebrity voices whatsoever, and I think that is a really poignant negative. Part of the fun and overall bluster of that original 3D trilogy came from this fun mentality of seeing a ton of known names all pile in to embody a range of personalities. This made for a great mix of great missions, radio banter, and tone that overall allowed Rockstar to poke fun at the very society it was trying to bounce off to make GTA what it is. Simply including a whole host of recognizable voices and actors would make GTA feel old school, nostalgic, memorable, and lovable all over again. And number 1, establish an identity for the future. So the biggest issue that I found with GTA 5 was how it kind of walked back the maturation period, or whatever you want to call it, that GTA 4 started bringing to the table. Minus Brucey in 2008's release, we had far less over-the-top characters, a way more nuanced story about immigration and the failure of the American dream. Sure, you can argue that the tone was a little bit too serious in comparison to the aliens and jetpacks of San Andreas, but next to GTA 3, it looked to establish Rockstar as more of a Naughty Dog than what Volition would then do with Saints Row. Because of the way that GTA 4 went down, it made Rockstar try to make a game that appeased to those sort of rowdy fans or the people that didn't really like the direction that GTA 4 was going. That is completely fine, and there's probably a way to do both, but I think that the way that GTA 5 came together kind of betrays the identity that Rockstar wanted it to have for the foreseeable future. GTA Online is by very definition a sandbox. The single player a mix of SNL skits, terribly framed comments on subjects like torture, and characters you couldn't even enjoy as anti-heroes. It showed that the once punk rock garage band feel Rockstar used used to exude had become mass market and targeted. GTA 5 is almost Sex Pistols Johnny Rotten doing butter adverts. Above all, GTA 6 needs to re-establish the franchise as the bastion of Black Mirror commentary it always was. Take risks, piss people off, don't keep chasing the dollar so nakedly. Essentially, rediscover the reason you wanted to make a game called Grand Theft Auto in the first place, or hire a team of people who already know. I mean, hell, it worked for Sonic Mania.
With the knowledge of GTA 6 being in production comes a mix of trepidation and excitement. On the one hand, you've got another installment in the most lucrative video game property of all time. Literally, it makes a few $1 million a day, but on the other, there's an assumption that Rockstar will rely on certain formulas. There's a need to ensure that although GTA 6 will sell more than the gross income of a small continent, it continues to justify GTA 7, GTA 10, GTA 100 somewhere down the line. Now, with the very idea of prodding the beehive that is criticizing GTA whatsoever comes the potential backlash of 1,000 angry voices. But with the series being the cultural phenomenon that it is, the very idea of a single product being at the heart of so much financial success is fascinating from all angles. We all know how fondly GTA 4 isn't remembered, and it marks the one time Rockstar attempted to flex their creative muscles in a different direction. The brown and grey realization of a more mature and story-focused GTA going down about as well as unlocking Nico's fingerless GTA 5 was a notable course correct, but how do you even attempt to create GTA 6? Following formulas and bankable ideas only gets you so far, as Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty have both shown, and in the long term, we gamers need something truly special to avoid the series going stale. Quite honestly, there are certain things that it would be very easy for Rockstar to do, but they actually need to avoid them. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 ways Rockstar could easily ruin GTA 6. Number 9, an increased focus on online components. The lasting legacy of GTA 5 was not the controversial torture scene or nihilistic Trevor's various ridiculous outbursts. Instead, it was the proof that GTA can be truly immortal online. Whilst old-school fans who favor story and single-player will scoff at the nature of taking the entire experience online, GTA's online component earns close to around $5 million a day, a figure that more than justifies Rockstar doubling down on the idea in the future. Don't forget, Rockstar were one of the first developers to pioneer the Season Pass as a method of delivering DLC, and look where that's gotten us. Thankfully, they're yet to segment off meaningful chunks of their games into mandatory online components, and GTA 5 is one of the only games with a sizable online mode that still feels more than worthwhile without it. However, the state of the industry has drastically changed since 2013. 70% of all GTA 5 owners have played GTA Online according to Rockstar, and various games as a service like Destiny, Warframe, Fortnite, etc. prove that constantly connected worlds, currencies, and daily quests or missions is a money-making formula all its own. Rockstar's financial analysts will be screaming for the creative department to embrace this model in full. The only question is how much they will. Number 8, forced controversy. GTA 5's torture scene was hollow, a scene emblematic of a company that had the world's attention and could have delivered a message to stand the test of time, yet chose to go down the most controversial route possible. Trevor remarks after the fact that torture's for the torturer and that it's useless as a means of extracting information, but considering how the character is set up, a potential cannibal who slaughters his friends' friends at will, it doesn't even remotely make an impact. Think about it. Across the 2000s, Rockstar went from being the scrappy underdogs with one idea that managed to take hold and go stratospheric. They'd then roll out Manhunt, a game implicated in a murder before being acquitted, and Bully, the title that riled up parent groups and Fox News mouthpieces no end. They were the industry's bad boys, but underneath it all, they were a studio that had the mentality to challenge stereotypes and provide really solid meanings to games that had controversial face values. Then they became millionaires off the back of it, and that worldview changed forever. It's hard to produce edgy and impactful material when you've got nothing left to say, which is precisely the reason why bands like Metallica or Guns N' Roses will never truly be great in the same way again, and why sequels to out-of-nowhere landmark success movies never seem to work in the long run. GTA can never hit home in the same way as GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas did back in the day, and shoehorning in the likes of the above will only reinforce that. Number 7, a lack of direction and identity. GTA 4 was an attempt to tell a different kind of tale that fell flat. Coming off the back of Bully and Manhunt, Rockstar had the potential to write a truly memorable story, which we know they can do, just look at both Red Dead Redemptions. But instead, they were hamstrung by having it be a GTA game. That meant that for all the talk of Nico wanting to break away from a life of violence and the option to branch the narrative in key places to create more positive outcomes, you could still break the whole thing by shooting a few thousand people in between. This formed a huge disconnect on behalf of the player, birthing the term ludonarrative dissonance in the process, where a character in cutscenes behaves differently to how we play. Ultimately, it forced Rockstar to re-embrace the ludicrousness they tried to leave behind with GTA 5. What
What GTA returned to was already what Saints Row was nailing better than ever, a thoroughly fun and self-aware ridiculous take on the open world genre, replete with hilarious writing and gameplay possibilities that reinforced that tonality. Granted, Saints Row has petered out since then, but Rockstar are still struggling to truly restore GTA's identity as it was across the early 2000s. Number 6, boring mission designs. You kinda have to wonder just how many thousands of dollars were spent creating the dock worker tech used in the god-awful Trevor mission where you moved shipping containers around, or why the choice was made to pilot a slow-moving submarine across a huge expanse of ocean in the second heist simply to get to the part of the mission you actually wanted to play. It goes without saying that the heists themselves were a pretty big letdown, a base framework for a mission that was supposed to involve planning every possible entry method before executing and exfiltrating in a wide variety of ways. This came to life more online as constant communication gave the process more of an edge, but when the single player's most memorable option was where to place your getaway car, it truly failed to live up to some otherwise exhilarating trailers. Add to that the bog standard travel here, see cutscene, maybe shoot thing, travel back template that's been in place since GTA 3 and was still a thing across Red Dead Redemption 2, a lack of new character moves or animations outside of 3 arbitrary special powers, and only a handful of memorable narrative setups, and you've got a story everyone only played through once just for the sake of it. Number 5, using America again. We know Rockstar have ruled out Tokyo thanks to its intricate road systems not being workable for GTA-style car chases and speed, but at least that shows they're looking to alternatives instead of using America yet again. Since the original GTA included Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas, the 3D universe of games updated them accordingly. GTA London sat in between the two, but when GTA 5 was announced, it seems like Rockstar are going back to the drawing board yet again, redoing San Andreas as a starting point and potentially moving into Vice City or another Liberty City. There's always that question of whether the wider world even cares about setting a GTA in London, but it remains the most overlooked part of that original plan. My point is, it really can't be America yet again. The whole look how ridiculous America's politics and social hierarchy is shtick is a fairly limitless resource, especially with the current state of political discourse, but for the sake of gameplay and breathing life into the series, plus giving us a break from the drudgery of taking sides in real life, GTA should take a chance on somewhere entirely different. Number 4, characters nobody wants to play as. To truly do the GTA formula right, you need a character that approaches the world of crime from the outside, has some ancillary goal they must accomplish, whether it be wealth or reputation or whatever, and gets dragged further and further down the rabbit hole in the process. You work your way up the criminal food chain, eliminating reputable leaders and claiming territories along the way. Claude, Tommy Vercetti, and CJ all had varying degrees of criminal intent in them from the beginning, but it was the contrast of where you began and ended that made them work. Just think to CJ's Las Venturas bank heist, the juxtaposition between his origins to the super shiny casinos and drippings of wealth, it was truly something special and memorable. In GTA 5, Michael was a hot-headed father, Trevor a total psychopath, and Franklin was the nearest we had to a relatable figure, but like Nico and John Marston or Arthur Morgan, was far too up for indulging in criminal behavior despite protesting it in cutscenes. Rockstar finally wrote a character that at their heart was a good person in Arthur Morgan, but it makes you wonder if that's even possible in a title called Grand Theft Auto, where criminality and wanted levels are by definition the key appeal. Characters that are just as dark and depraved as the world itself doesn't represent the audience. We need someone to be the stick we're prodding GTA with, someone to yell, "What the f***?" when things go sideways, even if they're a mute blank slate. We need someone that represents us as the outsider, especially at the beginning of every story. Number 3, pointless minigames. Branching off from having mission structures purposefully designed to make you giggle for a second before realizing just how pointless they are, the inclusion of GTA's minigames has gone from, hey, that's pretty cool, to why would I ever do this? See, in the infancy of the open world template, we yearned for things that would flesh out the ideology of another world on the other side of the screen. San Andreas included managing your stamina through trips to food outlets, buying clothes, working out to change your physique, and even learning different melee attacks to personalize CJ. Rockstar wanted you to live in San Andreas, and we did. The very reason it's so fondly remembered is purely down to each of these figures being completely original for the genre and being executed in a way that enhanced immersion tenfold. Fast forward a few years, look to how Assassin's Creed, Red Dead, Anthem, The Division, etc. tackle their open worlds, and you'll notice everything that gets included as a side activity now has a defined purpose. GTA 5 had stock trading and property buying as a means to accrue wealth, but you never needed to do it. Likewise, tennis, golf, bicycle races, and taxi fares are fun distractions, but what do they really serve? We need a link between these activities. Even if it's just a tongue-in-cheek, playing sports increases your sprint duration or jump height correlation, as it stands, they're ultimately pointless. Number 2, including character abilities you don't even need to use. If there's any indication a given developer is struggling for ideas, it's including a rage mode as a character perk. Both this and Michael's bullet time are as standard as they come, and save for Franklin's unrealistic driving boost that turned your car into an on-rails tram, there was never any impetus to actually use them. them. Yes, Trevor had the occasional side mission that put you in this rage state from the beginning, but there were never any encounters where it would have genuinely saved your skin. A situation where only Trevor could have survived. Most of the time, we just used it to minimize fall damage when flinging ourselves off Mount Chiliad. In future GTAs, if Rockstar are going to continue giving characters individual powers for the sake of differentiation, we need a reason to use them. A reason for each person to be playable in the first place. Number 1, a piecemeal story and a rushed ending. Crafting a story that fits the open world template and therefore both individual missions and vastly experimental, aimless exploration is one hell of a tough ask. Even in The Witcher 3, you could ponder why Geralt was off adventuring when he was supposed to be tracking down Ciri, and although it's more linear overall, Mass Effect 3 suffered immensely by framing your earth-shattering exploits as time-sensitive, only to then let you indulge in a good 50 or so side missions. For GTA 5, Rockstar stepped away from the overarching narrative of 4, and instead posited many of the missions as individual set pieces, such as the Life Invader one or any of the heists. This got away from the need to have pace or thematic elements carrying from one mission to the next, but it also meant that come the final mission, it felt like someone just slapped a full stop on a conversation that was still in full flow. Suddenly, Franklin was being asked which of his friends to kill from a phone screen as every major player in the story was swept up in one quick motion, executing characters that were thought to be untouchable simply because now they could be tracked through GPS data. GTA 6 needs a proper story, something that lets us indulge in the various strands of characterization or side missions whilst having a through line that pays off at the end. Red Dead Redemption 2 proved this is possible by having Arthur's inner thoughts represented through his own journal, key conversations with specific characters, and a branching narrative that came with real consequences. GTA would benefit from something just as weighty and meaningful. A criminal getting dragged further and further into a life of crime, going on one hell of an arc and coming back out the other side. Just like Rockstar have done across their own history with games focused on rule breaking, gore, and wanton destruction. And that's my list. What do you want to see Rockstar not do in GTA 6? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the What Culture Gaming podcast. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.
Hello everyone and welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Josh, joined as always by the great man Ewan Patterson, because today we might have the first GTA 6 news, which sounds ridiculous, but there has been a leak over on Payspin, which was then picked up by Newsweek and Dexterto. That's the one.
Dexter's Laboratory.
Dexter's Laboratory, that is an official thing, but apparently the first details are kind of interesting because it's not just going to have one map. GTA 6 apparently is not just going to take place in one city. It's going to take place across potentially 3 cities, Ewan. Liberty City, Vice City, which has long been rumored, and parts of San Andreas, but apparently the main focus is on the first 2 cities because, you know, we haven't seen them in a long, long time, and so far the rumors have pointed towards the Miami-like Vice City returning. This kind of makes sense because Rockstar have mentioned in the past that they do want to create a game that sort of blends multiple cities together, and they already did that to an extent with San Andreas, obviously on a smaller scale. So to me, this makes loads of sense, and I'm actually quite excited for it.
Yeah, there was rumors for a while regarding GTA Online that they were going to do some sort of stuff. What is the Las Vegas analog? It's not Vice City. That's Miami. There's another one. Is it Las Venturas? Is that it?
Yeah, I don't
even
remember. Part of San Andreas, though.
Yeah, there's one. There was rumors for a while that they were going to do something with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously that would be really cool if we could go to different places, and obviously that means longer term microtransaction stuff for Rockstar, which they tend to love. So get those shark cards coming, baby, because you're gonna need more.
God, no. This is a positive video, Ewan. What this kind of reminds me a little bit is before when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, and we heard a lot about Red Dead Redemption's one map being a part of it, which obviously eventually came true, even though they didn't quite use that in the story mode. I hope that if Rockstar do go down this route and do include all of these iconic cities, that they actually integrate it properly into the story, because it's all well and good having a trip down memory lane and going back to Liberty City for like the first time since GTA 4, but I want that integrated into a story somehow, and that would make it expansive and potentially unweedly, but I don't know, how would you think they'll actually do it?
Yeah, I was going to say it's really interesting because I could just imagine people having stupid road trips across, like have some sort of...
Stupid?
I mean, great road trips. I mean, I enjoyed you ferrying me along the bloody coast along in Los Santos. That was fun.
Yeah.
But imagine that, but for 8 hours of just nothing but incessant chat.
Well, actually, that's a pretty good segue, because I was going to talk about next. If they do this, you would assume that they have some kind of fast travel option, which would be a first for the series, because you kind of take that for granted in games now. But GTA has always just sort of encouraged you to learn the roads, essentially, and drive from one point to another, obviously because a lot of the story and character development happens on those long road trips from mission to mission.
I like them. Everyone's there like, oh, anyone else driving sucks. I'm just there like, no, I enjoy hearing tales of Rusty's old police brutality in the 1930s. Thank you very much.
A quick complete tangent, but playing that game again, I didn't like Rusty as much as I used to. No, he's a bit of a craphead.
Bit of a bad man.
Yeah, so I think you might potentially lose something if you do implement a fast travel system, because one of the best things to me about Rockstar's kind of open worlds is the way they feel lived in, and you come to sort of know these streets and learn the geography in a way that you don't in a lot of other games where you just like zip from one point to another. I'm playing Days Gone at the moment now, and now that I've unlocked sort of more fuel and can fast travel all over, I'm less inclined to actually explore every nook and cranny in a way that I am in GTA 5. I know GTA 5's roads better than I do my own street in Newcastle at the moment, I would genuinely say.
I completely agree. I always enjoyed the idea of having to get into a vehicle to then go somewhere, and one of the things that I think maybe they could make that a part of gameplay, you know, maybe if you're going on a long flight to Liberty City or something, you could have like a mini game where you're in like the business class lounge of like a big old like business plane. Yeah. So I know when GTA Online got towards like the zenith of its popularity, they had like luxury gold-plated jets so you could drink champagne on while your pilot at the front was just flying around.
They'd only cost you £1 million in shark cards.
Millions in shark cards. But if they could not do that for this one, that'd be cool. I think if they still, because the technology is obviously there now, they're talking about doing so many different places. Could you see this potentially being a thing where we don't have to load into these new places, or is it going to be kind of, you know, segregated based on fast travel options?
Well, that's it, because apparently the reason that we haven't heard anything about GTA 6 officially in such a long time is because it's going to come out on next-gen consoles, and apparently the reason that they're just now kind of attempting to mesh all of these iconic GTA worlds together is because of the lack of memory limitations that are currently on the current hardware. So when we jump to the PS5 and whatever the next Xbox is going to be called, let's call it the Xbox Scarlet just for, you know, convenience here, that'll free up the memory to be able to shove these places together, which could give you those I don't know, like long highways between cities.
That's why I would just love to have just complete banter along those roads, because it makes sense as well, because I literally had to kill like Red Dead on my PS4 the other day because it's just like taking up so much memory.
It is a beast.
So I had to get rid of it. Like, it was basically as traumatic as the ending of A Mice and Men. Taking Red Dead out to the back and then shooting it. But, you know, that makes sense. You know, I'm more than happy to wait for the next gen and get the next GTA. I think, you know, following them all that they've had, it's been one GTA per generation since the 360. So, yeah.
Yeah. What do you sort of think about them returning to these locations, though, in a way? Because obviously these are locations that we love and have been into the series before, and people do want to see them return. But obviously, every time a new GTA comes around, there's talk of maybe setting it in London, and maybe we are biased because we are from England. But I don't know, is it interesting to you to keep the heritage there, or would you want them to do potentially something new?
I would like to see them try and apply the GTA formula to a different setting. However, I do understand the point where, you know, we associate these games with like just this big satirical take on the United States. So I kind of definitely understand that. And also people have a lot of nostalgia for places like Vice City and Liberty City. So I'm totally, you know, I'm there for that. Do we get any story details?
We certainly did. This has been since deleted on Pastebin, but apparently you will start as a small-time guy in Liberty City doing odd chores and small-time thefts, and eventually will work your way to Vice City, where you'll join a famous gang and end up as a drug lord, which to me, just lost the script there, to me that sounds kind of uninteresting, to be honest. That sounds like something we've done before. We started doing odd jobs and small crimes in GTA 4, and then we worked our way up. It seems to be the kind of classic Rockstar formula, and you assume obviously this is just a skeletal template, even if it's true, but you'd want them to do sort of more with it. They do say later on in the leak that it will have elements from Red Dead Redemption 2, like the ability to talk to all the strangers and stuff, and if you expand on that, you could make it kind of more immersive, more expansive, and less of the regular GTA sort of progression that we've come to know. Are you excited about this at all, if this turns out to be true?
I definitely see your point about it being a little bit generic and rote, and, you know, you're kind of working your way up the ranks. However, I do remember there was something in the story about you being given your own business to manage, and obviously when GTA Online got towards its kind of end game, God, Avengers are everywhere.
Always.
There was loads of business management there, and obviously it was really bad in that because it was predicated entirely around the randomness and inane kind of gameplay of the online formula. However, if they were to maybe apply some of that business managing kind of stuff to this game, kind of like how they did it with Mafia 3 or maybe even the Godfather games, that would add a whole new wrinkle to GTA's gameplay rather than you kind of doing the story-driven stuff. Maybe they found a way to, oh god, I'm basically just doing this, I'm GTA Online-ifying the single player.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
But it could definitely happen if that's like, you know, if the end goal, if the end game is you to become a mob boss, that totally gives them a way of doing that.
Yep.
So ruining everything again, but you know, and I'd look forward to that until the inevitable introduction of the terrible economy.
Well, that's it. Like you said, like in GTA 5 Online, they've introduced a lot of those business elements. There are so many businesses you can run in GTA Online, and they aren't sort of the most deep businesses. They don't provide loads of sort of gameplay opportunities. A lot of it's kind of repetitive and copy and pasted. But if they kind of choose one and double down on that, the precedent is already there for them to expand upon that in this next game, and that would sort of also play into like their simulation habits. They love simulating things and simulating a real living world, and that would play into that massively, I think. I think GTA 6 inevitably is going to be, this is just wild speculation on my part, but considering that they're potentially bringing Red Dead Redemption 2 systems in, it sounds like it's going to go down a more realistic route similar to GTA 4, because I think at the time, that was such a great experiment, but the world and myself wasn't quite ready for it. It was such a departure from the tone that had sort of come before. But with that in mind and Red Dead Redemption 2, I think the precedent has been set for a more realistic GTA 6 in that sense.
I definitely think that would be an interesting route to take GTA because it's so hyper stylized and over the top. If they were then to make ground that and maybe, you know, maybe actually do contribute a serious story for once, because every other GTA story has been very inane and very silly. But if they manage to make it along the lines of Red Dead, then I would be very excited about that, because the main staying power of GTA 5 to me wasn't the story, it was actually the online until it got really bad. But whatever, if they can make it like Red Dead 2 story, I am definitely very much in.
Me too. I mean, but if this rumor is true and it does come out holiday 2020, that is 7 years since GTA 5, which, how has time gone that fast for one? And that's 2 years removed from Red Dead Redemption 2. So the time frame you would assume was about right, and I know what you're thinking, Josh.
7 years.
I just called you me. Why do you want to believe this leak? Why is a deleted post and paste bin compelling evidence? It's because back in 2018 there was another leaker on the forum who leaked some details saying that it was going to take place across Vice City and Liberty City, that it would be out in holiday 2020, and they also correctly guessed the PS5 soft reveal with Mark Cerny and Wired.
There we go.
They revealed the specs, and that something was going to come in April. So there is potentially some validity to this, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you buy these rumors at all, or do you think they're a load of old bull? And if you do, will you be happy to go back to Vice City and Liberty City and have this one massive, dense, open world? But even if you don't, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day.
Perfectly executed.
Even if you don't, though, I've been Josh.
I've been Ewan.
You've been watching What Culture, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Oh god, bye. Boy.
In a post that's since been deleted on Pastebin, one user has dished some details on Rockstar's much anticipated GTA 6. It'd be remiss of anyone to claim these are 100% authentic, because Rockstar, as per usual, are saying nothing, and they must be taken with a pinch of salt. However, that post has since been deleted, and in video game leak and rumor circles, that is our smoking gun. I'm not saying believe everything I'm about to tell you, but I will say that 9 times out of 10, the posts that get deleted tend to be for a reason tying into authenticity. It happened with Fallout 4 being on a voice actor's CV, Spider-Man being worked on by Insomniac, and Devil May Cry 5 being in active development. All of these being years before the public was supposed to know. Regardless, anything GTA related is going to turn heads and get people talking, and I'd be remiss not to dive into the latest of what's on offer. Thankfully, various sites have taken up the mantle and managed to copy the deleted post before it disappeared. That's where the majority of the following rumors and leaks in this video come from, but I'll also pull together some things Rockstar have said over the years that we can take as more official. Combined, we have a somewhat blurry picture of GTA 6, forever coming into focus. The latest rumors deal with GTA's story, the size of the map, an approximate timescale for release, and what the future holds for GTA Online. If rumors are to be believed, this could be the biggest Grand Theft Auto yet. Plus, Rockstar's familiar tale of rags to riches gangster could follow Red Dead Redemption 2's lead and present a more serious tone. For now though, let's break all of this stuff down. I'm Scott from whatculture.com, and this is GTA 6, every confirmed and leaked detail we know. Number 9, it won't be released on current gen hardware. If you want to get hands-on with Rockstar's next helping of GTA, then you'll need to invest in some new hardware. According to the Pastebin post, GTA 6 is just too big for the PS4 or Xbox One. But if we're being honest with ourselves, nobody expected Rockstar to release the next GTA on current systems anyway. This does mean that aside from the touched-up GTA 5 release, there hasn't been a newly released Grand Theft Auto on current gen. GTA 5 might have its best version on PS4 and Xbox One, but it did release on PS3 and Xbox 360 first. The Pastebin user's exact wording was, and I quote, "This game can't come out for PS4 because of memory restrictions. There's more on why later, but for now just brace yourself to drop some cash on the next series of consoles released by Sony and Microsoft." The PS5, or whatever Sony end up calling it, is expected somewhere between 2020 and 2022, with some touting 2020 as being the most likely launch date. That would mean that GTA 6 is coming out 2 years after Red Dead 2's release in late 2018. That almost fits the prior release gap between the first Red Dead in 2010 and GTA 5 in 2013. Number 8, GTA Tokyo was considered, but Rockstar have ruled it out. I'm just quickly going to dive into an older comment from a 2016 Tech Radar report that noted GTA 6 had begun preliminary work, but that in the spirit of exploring a GTA world outside of America, Japan, or major eastern metropolises in general had been ruled out. The idea to do an eastern GTA dates all the way back to between GTA 3 and Vice City, where Rockstar sent various staff members over to Tokyo to take a bunch of reference photos and research the area in general. They reportedly canvassed the area and talked to locals to get a good feel for the environment, but the thing getting in the way was the city's overly complex road systems. This is apparently the key reason why Rockstar will continue to focus on the West. City blocks, right angles, and minimal overlapping flyovers make for more exciting and playable car chases, the bread and butter of GTA. Though the thing screaming it can totally be done is the immaculate sleeping dogs, it seems GTA's very lifeblood is rooted in the West. Number 7, it won't be set in the modern day. Speaking to GQ in October 2018, Rockstar co-founder Dan Houser commented on the socio-political reality of discourse today and whether GTA can even exist in such a hyper-reactionary time. And I quote, "It's really unclear what we would even do with GTA, let alone how upset people would get with whatever we did. Both intense liberal progression and intense conservatism are both very militant and very angry. It is scary, but it's also strange, and yet both of them seem occasionally to veer towards the absurd. It's hard to satirize for those reasons. Some of the stuff you see is straightforwardly beyond satire. It would be out of date within 2 minutes. Everything is changing so fast." Houser makes a very good point. Something like South Park is only able to stay on the pulse of entertainment and politics by having an episode turnaround time of less than a week. GTA 6 is already taking years to make, and narrowing down a contemporary feel is nigh on impossible in an ever-changing media climate. Don't worry though, because if we go back to the newest leaks, number 6, Liberty City and Vice City are the main maps. As insane as it sounds, the newest leak notes that your character will begin in Liberty City before eventually making their way to Vice City. This means that all the years of speculation were true, and Rockstar are ready to once again bring their pastel-soaked vision of Miami back to life. Pair this with the previous point and we'll likely be getting a version of Vice City still set in the past, most likely the 80s. It's quite simply exactly what the majority of fans have been clamoring for, and with this decade seeing a major 80s revival across synthwave music and general pop culture imagery, it also makes the most sense. If this is the case, then it seems we'll all be gallivanting between multiple major cities in GTA 6. There's no word on whether or not we'd be able to return to Liberty after fleeing, or if there will be some sort of fast travel mechanic between locations, but it makes sense to believe that there would be. After all, it would be kind of weird if Rockstar presented interstate storytelling without a back and forth travel mechanic being available. Also remember, various Rockstar games have experimented with new and past locations before. GTA San Andreas let you return to Liberty City for one mission at Marco's Bistro, and Red Dead Redemption 2 features the entire Red Dead Redemption 1 map located to the southwest of the main environment. Also note that the multiple cities rumor has been doing the rounds for years now, and though it used to sound too insane to be true, following Red Dead Redemption 2, I totally believe this could be the case. Number 5, you're in the Empire business. Let's go back to the leak, and I quote, "In the title, which will make you kind of a drug lord, you will start as a small-time guy in Liberty City doing odd chores and small-time thefts, then eventually work your way to Vice City, where you will join a famous gang. You will be tasked to look after a business in Liberty City until you are brought back to Vice City and soon become a drug lord." This somewhat sounds like standard GTA, albeit done on a far larger, more rewarding scale. Again, take all of this with a pinch of salt because it's not exactly hard for someone to whip up a plot synopsis that's in keeping with Rockstar's tried and tested story formula. Small-time gangster works his way up the criminal ladder until he's eventually on top. It's been done many, many times before. A familiar tale isn't out of the question though, as almost every Rockstar epic has charted a rise from squalor to splendor, with a few twists and turns thrown in to keep things interesting. That plot summary could well be bare bones, but taken with a multiple city backdrop featuring Vice City, this could be Rockstar tapping back into their love of something like Scarface to do a bigger and more faithful tribute better than ever before. Number 4, another male protagonist. Just a very quick note, but the leak using the word guy does hint at GTA 6's main protagonist once again being male. That may grab the attention of anyone wishing Rockstar would introduce a fully fleshed out playable female character, pushing the series into new waters, or you might just not care. Personally, I would be very game for a thoroughly badass female protagonist making her mark on a world of gangsters and criminal comedy, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Number 3, San Andreas could be there too. Back to the multiple cities idea because it's more ingrained in GTA's franchise ideology than you might think. Back in 2004 San Andreas, players were allowed to travel between Los Santos, San Fierro, and Las Venturas. Back then, that was a massive deal, and those cities were based on real places, namely Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Las Vegas. This is something Rockstar might be eager to try again on a larger scale. After all, GTA 4 was rooted in Liberty City, and GTA 5's two main areas were the city itself and the Baco Beyond wilderness up north. If Liberty City and Vice are included, then it makes logical sense to predict that San Andreas will be there too. Having all three beloved GTA locations in the same game sounds incredible. You can practically envision fans salivating over the thought of going from Liberty's skyscraper heaven to Vice's hedonistic beaches and then bouncing back to San Andreas's hillbilly roads. The Pastebin leak also talks about a multi-location map too, and that would surely be bigger than two major cities. If this is going to be the largest GTA game of all time, which it probably will be given the newer hardware, then I'd wager that at least one more locale will be added. Number 2, there's a lot of countryside to explore. Multiple cities means many linking roads and mountainous countryside to tie everything together and make traversing from one location to another seamless and enjoyable for players. The leak states that a vast stretch of highways and Blaine County-like countrysides will be in the middle of the various cities. Another key thing to note though is that there will also be some kind of timed era between the missions using flashbacks. Whilst I'm not quite sure what that's meant, timed era between the missions with flashbacks could just be a typo, the first part of the paragraph is the most interesting anyway. It claims GTA 6 will have tons and tons of link roads and map to explore between the more built-up locations in-game. All of this makes me think of Just Cause's variable maps, and that starts to make more sense for GTA considering the array of vehicles on offer. The leak also claims that different shops in different areas would sell different unique items similar to Red Dead Redemption 2 stores, and that Stranger missions would also make a comeback. On the latter, that was kind of expected as Strangers and Freaks missions, as they used to be called, have become a popular means of providing side missions across Rockstar's worlds. And number 1, Rockstar has big plans for GTA 6 Online. GTA Online makes Rockstar a ludicrous amount of money, and a steady stream of updates on the service have helped prolong its appeal almost 6 years after the game was first released. That is astonishing business, and even those who have been soured by GTA Online kinda have to admit that. Given GTA Online's importance to Rockstar then, it is no surprise to hear that they've got, and I quote, big plans. Those plans include major content like newer towns that will be drip-fed post-release. Maybe this is where San Andreas will come into things, as if it's not in the main game proper, then it could be implemented through DLC. Of course, there's also the reality that these newer towns could be fresh locations entirely. According to the newest leak, Rockstar are also keen on working closely with Microsoft and Sony on cloud gaming, which will help them enable online to be a continuous process. This is exciting for anyone who wants a more enhanced experience as opposed to the whole always-on thing that results in a whole bunch of disconnects. Fingers crossed they don't focus too much on online though, as GTA's single-player campaign should always come first.
The wait for Grand Theft Auto 6 is agonizing, even though it's easy to forget considering the 5th title is still selling ridiculously well and hasn't really left the conversation thanks to GTA Online. It's been nearly 6 years since the last game dropped. Even for Rockstar, that's a long time between installments. And with no announcement looking imminent, fans have been left to speculate just what form the inevitable next entry in the franchise is going to take. Unsurprisingly, there have been so many apparent leaks and rumors doing the rounds over the years, ranging from the convincing and reliable to the outright outrageous. Others, however, are enough to spark fear about the franchise as a whole. Rumors that, if true, could take the world-conquering series down the point of no return, or removing the hyperbole for just a split second, at least result in a game that doesn't live up to over 6 years worth of fan expectations. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and this is GTA 6, 8 rumors we hope aren't true. Number 8, multiple protagonists, again. When GTA 5 introduced not one but 3 new playable protagonists, many fans worried that it would become a staple Rockstar would include across all of their games. Thankfully, despite early reports, it didn't make its way into Red Dead Redemption 2, but some rumors have suggested that it will return in the next Grand Theft Auto. The feature wasn't a total misstep, and for a single game, especially one with the narrative of GTA 5, it worked to offer a bunch of different perspectives on Rockstar's anarchic world. It also fractured the storytelling, however, and made the overall plot a little more meandering than it could have been, with each character's arc being limited for the sake of the expanded scope. A focus on a single protagonist going forward could benefit the storytelling massively then. Rockstar's previous titles have worked so well when there's a singular hero or anti-hero, and the detailed character work they're able to deliver, whether it's on Grand Theft Auto, Max Payne or Red Dead, is always a highlight of the experience. That's not to say you can't still have a huge cast. RDR2 proved that you can keep a single protagonist and still feature a bunch of compelling characters in major roles, but rather that they don't all have to be playable at the same time. Number 7, it will take more RPG elements from Red Dead Redemption 2. The way Red Dead Redemption 2 engrossed players into its world was one of its best features. You really felt like you lived in this environment, with the methodical mechanics being complemented by strong world building and the ability to interact with every single NPC you came across. Just because these simulation elements worked for that game though, doesn't mean they'll work in Grand Theft Auto. Not only were there a bunch of players who didn't enjoy the slow, immersive nature of RDR2, but GTA 5 has persevered for so long in part because of how accessible and fun it is to play. Likewise, some of the RPG elements from RDR only really worked in that context. Being able to interact with everyone was fine there because there were far fewer people populating the plains of the Wild West than in a dense, bustling modern metropolis. Of course, GTA can still focus on telling a mature story and use its mechanics to inform that, but both the distinct styles of RDR2 and the more accessible fun of GTA should still exist as separate entities. Number 6, interconnected cities from past games return. For a long time now, Rockstar have always mentioned how they want to extend the scope of GTA beyond just a single city. San Andreas took place across 3 fictional US cities, but the limitations of the hardware resulted in the developers pursuing bigger, more detailed single areas for future games. However, recent reports have seemed to all but confirm that the next game will indeed take place across a bunch of different locations, with both Vice City and Liberty City being accessible alongside parts of San Andreas. In theory, this is cool, and incorporating the maps of previous games into a sequel is something Rockstar is no stranger to, as most of the original Red Dead Redemption map is included in the second game, but it might be a wrong move here. As I know quite well, bigger isn't always better, and so far Rockstar have excelled at having detailed, realistic worlds that feel lived in. Where games like Just Cause strive for scale over everything else, including areas that reuse textures, architecture and layouts, every nook and cranny in GTA's world feels unique and memorable. By going bigger though, you risk losing that intrinsic part of the developer's charm. And then there's the issue of all of these locations being familiar to fans of the franchise. We've experienced San Andreas and Liberty City many times before, and while an upgraded version of Vice City could be more welcome, it would be similarly exciting to see a location unique to the series. Number 5, GTA Online will be far bigger. Depending on who you talk to, GTA Online either killed or saved Grand Theft Auto 5. Though it got off to a pretty piss-poor start, the multiplayer suite morphed into its own phenomenon as the years ticked by, with Rockstar constantly supporting it with extensive free DLC packs. But this did come at a cost. Unlike other entries in the series, supporting GTA Online meant that the single player received no substantial updates or expansions, essentially alienating everyone who came to the game for the solo experience. Worryingly, parent company Take-Two have always said how they plan on doubling down on online's monetization aspects, and rumors suggest the mode is going to have an even larger focus in the next game. Though we shouldn't start getting furious about GTA Online supplanting the single-player experience, a larger focus on the former element could tip the scales a little too much for comfort. These games have always had extensive single-player stories, but their quality should never be compromised for a more ambitious multiplayer offering. Likewise, there's no guarantee that the next version of GTA Online will have the longevity of its current incarnation. Even now, Take-Two's monetization practices have alienated so many players, and the launch of Red Dead Online was a bit of a mess, to be polite. If this element is indeed the focus of GTA 6, then its reception may not be as warm as the developers are expecting. Number 4, it won't release until 2022. There have been plenty of touted release dates for Grand Theft Auto 6 over the years, and the worst part is, well, they're all believable. We have no idea how long the game has been in active development. After all, you'd assume Red Dead Redemption 2 took up a whole bunch of Rockstar's time, which makes anything from a surprise release next year to 2022 equally likely. The latter date has been brought up a few times though, with industry analyst Michael Patchter throwing it out there as the most probable window for the sequel. A release that far off could be a mistake though, especially if Rockstar are hoping to deliver a game that can meet expectations. A 2020 launch date would make it nearly 10 years between installments, and with that comes an impossible level of hype. The gap between Red Dead Redemption and its sequel was 8 years, but that had the benefit of not being an established series and, although it is massive, it doesn't have the same earth-shattering appeal of a GTA. The wait arguably hurt that game as well, as while it was still well received and I personally loved it, the many delays sapped out a lot of the excitement, while it made fans closely consider just how much it changed mechanically and structurally in the 8 years of innovation between the two titles. After such a long wait then, GTA 6 wouldn't just have to be a good game, it would have to be the best damn game in the entire franchise to not be viewed as something of a disappointment. Number 3, the plot will be about building up a drug empire. Though it's far from confirmed, there is a vague synopsis floating around the internet which offers a little insight into how the game might be structured and what you'll be doing. It reads, quote, "In the title, which will make you a kind of a drug lord, you will start as a small-time guy in Liberty City doing odd chores and small-time thefts, then eventually work your way to Vice City where you will join a famous gang. You will be tasked to look after a business in Liberty City until you are brought back to Vice City and soon become the drug lord." And that all sounds very... well, it sounds very GTA, doesn't it? Don't get me wrong, Rockstar might be able to spin this into something completely original and compelling, but at a glance, the narrative feels a little too familiar. With the repeated locations and a plot that could very easily stick to the formula previous games have already perfected, there's the worry that the 6th main release might not be bringing all that much new to the table. Number 2, a setting outside of America. Every time a new GTA rolls around, the biggest question always surrounds its setting. And while Vice City is the one location that's remained in the conversation in regards to the 6th game, it's followed very closely by London. For years, a good chunk of the fanbase have wanted to see the franchise leave its American roots behind and tackle the UK's capital. After all, there has already been one older game set there. While that would indeed be novel and daring, and as a Brit it would be undeniably cool to see a city I actually know in a big game like this, although I guess I have Watch Dogs Legion now, the heart of Grand Theft Auto has always been in its spin on American culture. Everything about this franchise lives and breathes Americana, with the entire ethos of the brand being built around this warped, exaggerated version of the American dream. Fortunately, the series probably won't be leaving the USA anytime soon, as the lead developers have similarly commented how the setting is intrinsically tied to GTA's themes and ideas. Number 1, there'll be a time travel twist. Now, this is easily the wackiest rumour on this list. According to some incredibly dubious rumours, the next game will allegedly lean on sci-fi technology and throw players into a story built around futuristic tech. Not only will this include time travel, but teleportation as well. Now, this thankfully is almost guaranteed to not happen, but it's actually not entirely without precedent. In its later years, GTA Online went completely nuts with the weapons and vehicles it added into the game, giving players the option to buy things like flying cars and take part in activities on Tron bikes. Now, transferring those things over to the single player would indeed be a bad move, but who's to say these more outlandish features couldn't be present in the next iteration of the multiplayer suite? As long as they're kept there, I think I'm okay with it.
Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Now we don't know if this, we don't know how much to go with this, but it seems as though GTA's own Trevor Phillips, I was going to call him.
Very good.
Mr. Stephen Ogg, the Ogmeister General, has come out with a quote. When he was speaking at the Brazil Game Show 2019, and he said, people were asking about GTA 6, and he said, when can we expect to see it? He said, soon. And then he said, I'll read this exact quote, games take about 7 to 8 years to make, so do the math. Now that math puts it on 2019 to 2020.
I've done the math. Does it? I thought it would put it on 2020 to 2021.
Well, maybe. I guess GTA 5 originally was 2013, the remastered one 2014.
Yeah.
So whatever resources went into that could delay it by a year or so.
Yeah.
And it depends how much they went straight into GTA 6. But either way, his soon refers to the next couple of years.
Well, this is the thing, right? I've been in this industry long enough to know that soon can mean anything from it's coming out next month to it's coming out in 5 years.
Remember when Rockstar's Agent was coming soon?
Oh
And that
my
was
God.
12 years ago.
It's still coming soon now.
Everything is always coming soon.
I guess the sort of 2020-ish time frame does line up with previous rumors and what people have said before. It does kind of make a lot of sense from a development standpoint. Obviously, you know, like we just said, GTA 5 shipped back in 2013, which is crazy considering it's still in the top 10 best-selling games of each month, almost every
never
single
left the
month.
top 10.
It never left the top 10. I'm sure maybe even maybe in September. I'm pretty sure it was like third, at least in the UK. It was number 3, which is crazy. But it wouldn't make sense because I feel like GTA Online is starting to wind down a little bit now as Red Dead Online starts to sort of, you know, start building itself up. That's much more robust and bigger than it was at launch. And for me, it makes sense for it to be about them because like we just said, it's been a long time away. It's freed them up to actually develop the game because a bunch of them jumped on Red Dead Redemption, which obviously took up a lot of time.
Yes.
We know that Bully is now being cancelled for a little while, and they are starting to hire people for our next game. Should be GTA 6, hopefully. I want to see
It's
it, Scott.
weird, right? Because there are so many different leaks and tidbits and things that have come out across the last few years. There's the whole thing with the Project Americas thing that we did a whole video on, this sort of substantial leak that would involve going like to various different places and kind of being in part of like the Empire business, building like a drug trade and sort of kind of taking lots of leaves out of Narcos or Breaking Bad or whatever. And that kind of lets them do like a Vice City adjacent story because that was very much about like their lampoon of like Scarface or whatever. So I kind of like the idea of that. But GTA, like Mr. Ogmeister says, is so big that like it's like how you'd have to have been working on this for so long at this point to even come close to replicating the size of a game like GTA 5, unless it is something smaller. But in terms of GTA Online, Strauss Zelnick from Take-Two said that you know, at some point they'll have to wind that stuff down, otherwise they're just going to end up making GTA Online forever. And they always said they never expected it to be this big. And that's kind of indicative of the fact that GTA 5 was originally meant to get DLC, and it just never came. So I'm curious whether any of those plot ideas or whatever have maybe rolled into a whole other project entirely.
Well, I have no idea. I mean, you would assume so because even though GTA Online is this big thing, and that's undoubtedly the reason why it's been even longer between installments, in my opinion, I feel like, you know, they were at some point at least planning on working on some single-player DLC. I'm pretty sure the voice actor for Michael dropped a few hints back at the time.
Robert De Niro.
Was it? Yes, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Young Robert De Niro. The age of
The king of comedy himself. That's who he reminds me of.
But I don't know, for me, considering the reports that we've had, the rumours that it's going to include a bunch of different cities, not just focus on one, that to me kind of sounds like it's not just going to be, you know, leftover material from 5 that's been repurposed as a full sequel. It does seem like very much, at least, again, if the reports are to be believed, like its own brand new expansive project that undoubtedly will take a long time to make because if it is true, and they are bringing back Liberty City, parts of San Andreas, Vice City, and stuff like that, and setting it across decades and time periods. That's a whole lot of work, especially when you're a team as of, you know, a perfectionist like Rockstar.
Also, what do we think about Mr. Oggy Oggy in terms of like an actual dependable source? Ogmeister General, because you know, obviously he doesn't really have any sort of like, well, he has loyalty to Rockstar, but he wouldn't have signed any NDAs unless Trevor reappears as a character. So assumedly he wouldn't have any sort of, he wouldn't be beholden to say that there's not another game coming. It reminds me of when Nolan North completely let slip that Last of Us 2 was happening a good sort of 3 years ago. He was being asked at a talk at a panel thing, you know, what do you know about the future of Naughty Dog? And he just off the cuff said, well, I know they're doing another Last of Us 2, but I know that's in there. And he moved on to something else, and it was like, oh, okay, you totally, you know the thing. Excuse me. I think in this case, you know, the way that he's been quite candid about it, like either he's doing a band and it's all a big sort of thing. I only know him from GTA, and then he was in The Walking Dead?
He was in The Walking Dead.
Right,
yeah.
and he's done sort of like
Better Call Saul a little bit.
Yeah, Better Call Saul. Like his reputation is kind of like, you know, he seems to be quite a playful sort of dude, like away from the screen. So like he knows the fervor around GTA, but at the same time, he wouldn't be beholden to contractual stuff. So he assumedly would still have contacts that would know the game is in development.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more legit than we think.
I don't know. I like Stephen Ogg a lot. I think he seems like a really cool dude, but at the same time, I don't know how much a former actor from a previous Rockstar game would know about Rockstar's current highly top secret projects. You know, I mean, I love the actor, but would you trust someone who's not directly related to the project with that information that they might end up giving away like this? I don't know. I think to me, Rockstar is way more secretive than that. But I don't know, maybe it's just an educated guess.
It could be. I mean, what do you think in terms of like the amount of time it's been since GTA 5? Because for me, like GTA 5 as a story, like as a story entity and like a thing that I played through, does feel like a long enough time ago for a sequel to come about.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's always been in the charts, and GTA Online's been this consistent thing.
Yeah.
Like I know you played a lot more GTA Online than me. Like, are you ready for more?
Well, this is it, because I think everyone's going to be different. At this point, I am now, because I haven't played GTA Online properly for about 2.5 years or something.
Right.
But there was a time 2.5 years ago when I was thinking, there's no way this can be so soon, because it doesn't feel like GTA 5 ever left. And I imagine there are millions of players out there who are currently still feeling that same way, who are still playing online regularly, who are still jumping back in, to the story mode, whether it's via mods and stuff like that, keeping that community sort of, prosperous and thriving. But there's going to be a point where Take-Two, 2K, sorry, just calls time. They could let it ride off forever, but at some point they're going to need a new game, especially with next-gen consoles coming out.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the big kicker, because they can't port GTA 5 over to next-gen machines after already porting it over. I feel like one GTA per generation might be what we're looking to going forward.
What if it's a launch game for the next Xbox?
It might be. That would be really good.
Remember when I forget the dude's name? The guy that ended up working for EA and he rolled his sleeve up to reveal GTA 4.
I can't remember that. Did I?
Phil someone. I totally forget his name. Peter Moore. He back in like 2006 or 7, before GTA 4 was fully out. Oh, sorry, it was after the game came out. But then he got on stage at E3. It was back during the age of tattoo reveals, because there was one for Halo as well.
Was there an age of tattoo reveals?
There was
Am I
two.
too young for this?
Maybe you weren't here, but there was a Halo one and there was a GTA 4 one where he got on stage, big old Peter Moore, back when he was with Xbox, and just slowly rolled his sleeve up to reveal the GTA 4 logo. And he was, I don't think it's a real tattoo, although he did prove that his Halo one was real. Anyway, and so he got on stage and revealed that, and that was because he was working for Xbox at the time. That was their way of saying, hey, look, we've partnered with Rockstar and we're going to release the DLC on Xbox first. Obviously, all the stuff, Ballad of Gaytonian, whatever, came across to PS3 later. But Rockstar have done exclusivity stuff before, and Microsoft need a massive win. If this is somehow some stealth project that's real El Camino style, and it just drops fully formed, by the way, here's GTA 6. The thing I was going to ask alongside that, though,
Come on, then.
is I wonder what the player numbers are for the overall amount of people that play GTA 5 and play the single player, like play GTA overall, versus the player base that continue to play GTA Online. Is it more profitable to do a new GTA, or can they subsist off GTA Online?
I'm sure they can. Whether they want to, I have no idea, because I'm sure that still makes a lot of money, and it does make a lot of money, but just imagine the money they're leaving on the table by not creating a proper sequel. They could come out after so long with GTA 6, it would sell like hotcakes, and then you get a brand new, you win back lapsed GTA Online players with new features and sort of a new online suites. People like me who haven't played it in a while because they've sort of fallen out the economy or whatever, get a fresh start and get a jump straight back in, and hopefully try to repeat the success. I do think it's sort of it's absolutely a matter of when rather than if. It's just when they want to finally call time on GTA Online, in my opinion, anyway.
Speaking of when and not if, it is now the thing that we're getting Devil May Cry 6, or a continuation of Devil May Cry after Devil May Cry 5. And this comes from Capcom's official website. They put up this thing called it was a corporate briefing that they wanted to tell all their employees about, motivating them for the future and whatever. And there was a quote from there which said, if the employee is highly capable, they might be assigned to the development of major brands such as Resident Evil or Devil May Cry in the early years of their career.
I just assumed these were big brands already, Scott Tilford. Why is this big news?
It's been DMC4 was like 2008, and then the reboot of DMC was 2013 or 2012, and then it took ages before we got DMC5, which is kind of this weird sort of pretended DMC never happened, let's get this back on track thing. And Capcom haven't released the numbers in terms of how much money DMC5 made overall, especially with its microtransactions. Ugh. But at the same time, assumedly it made quite a bit, and I remember DMC5 alongside Monster Hunter being like one of the highest selling, had the biggest opening weekend in a long time. Or something like that.
Monster Hunter absolutely smashed it. I'm pretty sure DMC5 was like very quickly the fastest selling game in the entire franchise. I think it might even be the best selling game in the entire franchise, but don't quote me on that at the moment. It was certainly the fastest, which means obviously there's hunger there. My question is though, is that if it starts becoming a sort of every 2-year thing that we get a new Devil May Cry, does the sort of magic disappear? Because like you said, there was such a long wait, not only from DMC to DMC5, but DMC4 to DMC5, like a proper continuation of the storyline that everyone was invested in like a decade ago. That's a trick you can't really repeat twice without, going back to the drawing
It's true.
board
I mean, it was weird. After DMC4, there was a lot of talk, if you like sort of delve into the development side of it. They thought that those kind of action games were mostly done. Like God of War had run its course. DMC had obviously had a whole bunch of installments, and it took like a good few years before they like risked the whole reboot thing with DMC. Obviously, a lot of fans, it didn't land very well. I used to hate that thing, but I kind of came around on it growing up and going back to it. But I still love what they came back to with DMC5, and I think 5 makes more sense in the current climate because Platinum Games have proven that that genre isn't dead at all. And you know, the likes of like Nier and Astral Chain and whatever, like they're brilliant third-person action games, one of my favorite genres. And clearly, like, it's a very bankable genre too. Like I said, Platinum have made a whole career on it with someone who used to be a Capcom employee. I think he's called Hideaki Itsuno, who went across to sort of like helm Platinum's games. So I think it makes more sense for them to sort of go, hey, actually, as Capcom, like we started this before Platinum. We should be the name in third-person action gaming, not Platinum.
And I feel like they're trying to get, well, at least with Devil May Cry 5, I haven't played it yet. I know you have. It seems like they made huge strides in that direction. They proved that, you know what? Is it Game of the Year?
Game of the Year,
Is
mate.
it that good?
Might be Game of the Year.
When it comes to Capcom, though, I feel like they've just made some great moves this past year. I was thinking earlier on that, you know, the publishers that we look to now as being kind of the villains of the gaming industry, your Activisions, your EA.
I mean, they definitely are villains.
Oh, they absolutely are. But at one point, Capcom was right up there with them with on-disc DLC and stuff like that.
And the Street Fighter 5
and the Street Fighter 5 stuff and the Resident Evil 6 stuff. But now, over the past 2 years or so, I really think they've tried to turn it around, go back to the franchises and experiences that people like us really resonated with in the first place. So it's good to see that DMC and Resident Evil is back on top. But like you said, if that means more microtransactions in there, that might suck. That might not be good.
The general reception to that was utterly horrific. And at the time, I think I mentioned it in my review, but it was just like, it didn't play any part in the game whatsoever, which I'm obviously glad for. But then it was like, well, what's even the point in putting them in?
Yeah.
And they sort of like, it was under that bracket of like, oh, it's time savers. If you want to just buy XP instead of earning it, you can do that. And like, blech. So like, it was a weird sort of pivot. It was Capcom sort of like putting their toes in the oily water and seeing how many people responded to it. And the general sort of reception was, what's even the point? But also, please don't do this.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how they go forward. They seem to be, I mean, there was that whole thing from Capcom's director on Twitter who said Capcom's back with Monster Hunter, Resident Evil 2, and DMC5. And I don't think they'd want to sully that. But at the same time, like you said, like the industry tends to have the baton of hate that they just sort of pass to each person at the minute. Like Activision seems to have it, and Bethesda at the minute, or Blizzard, sorry, but well, Bethesda as well.
Yeah.
All of them, to be honest.
To be fair.
And sort of at the minute, Capcom's doing all right, but at the turn of the generation, they might snag that baton back and go, actually, we're monetizing
my turn.
Dante's white hair and red coat.
He is Project Resistance, you know. It's going to be filled with microtransactions. Go do it. It's Operation Raccoon City 2.
Remember that?
That's what you want, eh?
Umbrella Corps thing.
I remember that,
A bit
Scott.
of shooting for you,
I remember that, Scott. Ben Roy probably hears this from wherever he is, and he's suddenly saying that it's not as bad as you thought it was.
He says that about
it
everything,
is.
including all the Resident Evil movies. But not to worry, yes. Let us know what you think down in the comments below of GTA 6 and potential for the future of Devil May Cry. For now, though, this has not been the What Culture Gaming podcast. I'm used to saying that, but it's been What Culture Gaming. Hello, everybody. Welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
With some good news in regards to Rockstar and GTA 6.
Well, kind of. It seems that we've once again got a report that GTA 6 is indeed in development because as the tax year is coming to a close, and I know that sounds boring, but it is really important.
The only time tax returns are cool when they confirm things are in production.
Yes. Screen Rant picked up a report by TaxWatch UK, who was essentially talking about the tax relief that Rockstar Games had filed for, and it is, quote, by far the largest for video games tax relief granted by HMRC, which is the UK's tax firm.
Right.
But apparently it's so big because it confirms that the production of the next edition of GTA is rumored to be scheduled soon. Apparently they've essentially asked for all this tax relief because the next Grand Theft Auto is in production, and that was like a throwaway line by the TaxWatch, the report that they've done. So that's another confirmation that it is in development. We've had a few across the years, but that's not the most important thing for me this morning. It's that how essentially Take-Two and Rockstar are going to tackle GTA and Red Dead and all the other franchises they're working on going forward, because there was another thing over the weekend by, and I want to get this right because I've never watched this YouTuber. It's a popular GTA YouTuber, I've been informed, called Swegtier.
Where are we looking at?
Swegita.
I'm going to go with Swegta.
Swegta, that's much better.
Swegta?
I'm so sorry. I'm sure it's really good.
If it's Swegita and he's a Dragon Ball fan.
That's what I thought. That's what I was going on. They released a tweet saying that Take-Two is reportedly pressuring Rockstar Games to return to their more frequent game release schedule. Although this probably would be bad for bigger franchises like GTA and Red Dead, it could incentivize them to continue focusing on smaller titles like Bully and Manhunt.
Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm 100% behind that.
Right.
Not in regards to, I don't want them to start started crunching out GTAs every couple of years. I remember when Strauss Zelnick, who works for Take-Two, was asked about that, and he said a lot of the value of GTA is in staggering it across so many years. They don't want to overdo it. They don't want to make people get sick of it. And like that was coming around the same time that Ubisoft were cranking out Assassin's Creed 2 in a year, and etc. But I miss the Rockstar of old. I miss the 2000s Rockstar when you had Manhunt the Warriors, Bully, alongside all the different GTAs. Like, I would love them to flex more creative muscles and bring Agent back or something.
Well, this is it, Scott. You make a good point there by mentioning Strauss Zelnick, because he's the CEO of Take-Two. He did mention at E3 last year when he was talking to Games Industry Biz that he said, quote, "We believe in resting titles as a great thing. I was a real outlier 12 years ago when we said we don't think it makes sense to annualize non-sports titles, and now most people would agree." Then he went on to say, "But I think 8 years is probably too long to develop a game," which is kind of fair enough, and it does back up this claim that they are pressuring Rockstar to make more games, because like you said, if you look back at what Rockstar both developed and published during the 2000s, they had multiple games a year, and that's just sort of gone away over the past, like, what, 7 years?
Well, this, if you contrast it to the 2010s, we had Max Payne 3, they published L.A. Noire, they sort of helped get it over the finish line, and then are you going to read out what they've done? I have a complete
list of what they've done this year.
Bring it on!
In 2010, they did Red Dead Redemption 1, then in 2011, they did L.A. Noire, then in 2012, they did Max Payne 3. Quite a good run, you know, one game a year.
Very good.
Then GTA 5 dropped.
And that was it.
And then there was a big break until 2019 when they dropped Red Dead Redemption 2. And that's presumably because GTA Online was so lucrative that they didn't need to spend money on these other games. But I wonder how that works from a sort of, you know, top-down publisher level, because they're making a lot of money off one title, but presumably they're missing out because they only have one title to make money off.
Assumedly, over time, you can start to shrink that amount of personnel that are working on GTA over time. Assumedly, goes drastically smaller because you're not trying to get the campaign over the finish line. You're not trying to get this entire game finished, and it's only really supporting the online aspect, which in itself is like sort of gets new content at least every half a year or so. So assumedly, they have a whole bunch of people they can reallocate to something else. Now maybe they roll over onto. I mean, I know Red Dead 2 required every single one of their studios to get finished, but maybe all those people then roll straight over to the next full GTA. It just seems like a waste of personnel and talent considering how much they used to do.
Yeah, I think that's like a very salient point, because obviously Rockstar Games as a whole have so many studios that were previously working on their own unique franchises. You know, you had people on Grand Theft Auto, you had people on Red Dead, you had people on Max Payne, you had people on Manhunt, Bully, all these other titles.
So good.
But like you said, after GTA 5, all of them were on Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was a complete and utter, like, holistic Rockstar Games production. So I wonder whether they wanted that to be the precedent going forward, and they wanted these massive games that take, you know, millions of dollars to produce, but that, from a publisher standpoint, that's not really financially viable.
No, Zelnick did once say that they took them by surprise, that obviously they knew it was going to be a big deal, but they didn't see GTA Online as being this massive, like, platform for content, and that kind of, like, this is going away from his quote, but that lines up with the way the industry's gone this generation, or at least the way that a lot of the top tier publishers thought it was going to go, by just going, here's this platform for content, we'll plug stuff in. Everyone then does that, and we all go, well, we can't have dailies for everything every day.
Yes.
So there is, like, GTA Online has managed to maintain a hardcore fan base, but for Rockstar themselves, I honestly don't know what they're doing with that many studios, and they're only putting out 5 games in a decade.
It's I'm conflicted on this, I'm not going to lie to you, because on the one hand, I actually don't mind that we have to wait a long time for a new Rockstar title, because I always feel like they're pristinely polished in comparison to, you know, any other open world game. And to me, it's sort of like, you know, waiting 7 years for a new David Fincher movie or something. I see I see these studios as I see directors in, like, films and stuff. Like, I don't see them as, like, big production companies. And I think it's sort of, I'm not missing much by having to wait, even though I'm a fan and obviously I love their games. There's so many other games I could be playing at the same time, and they are so big that they, for me, GTA 5, for instance, that's sustained at least five years into its lifestyle cycle. I was completely, you know, involved in that community then, and I was kept on playing it. I'm a bit out of it now, but I feel like those games are games that you can play for a long time, and they would perhaps lose something by you know, more frequent release dates. But at the same time, I don't want Rockstar or any real big publisher like Take-Two to become another Activision, where you have essentially 3 main franchises, 3 main games, and then you just milk them for all they're worth. That doesn't, you know, facilitate creativity or imagination or anything like that. It's just, these need to be the biggest successes ever, and if they're not, you're getting absolutely bumped.
It's strange, because one of the only other, because you think of the top tier game studios in the business right now, you've got like CD Projekt Red, Red, Rockstar, and I would say Naughty Dog are sort of like some of the top three. And Naughty Dog managed to turn things around way faster than Rockstar do.
Yeah.
Even if they are reusing some game engines like Uncharted 4 to Uncharted Lost Legacy, and obviously they're about to do Last of Us 2. Now they're doing, or they have done way less games in the 2010s than they did beforehand. Just a reality of games getting more detailed and things like that. But I just think that for Rockstar, like I said, 5 games in a decade compared to, and plus, like, you know, when they were turning things out on a faster rate, it's not like they had any misses. Like across the 2000s, like, you know, Bully, Manhunt, The Warriors, they were all phenomenal. They all reuse a lot of the same game engine, but they hit so many times. Like, it's not like they work themselves into the ground like Ubisoft. Like, for me, it's just like, go back to doing that. Like, get more things out there.
I think I would agree as well in that front, because when it comes to sort of these big releases like GTA and Red Dead, you look at the main franchises, and we every time we do a news on Rockstar, we always assess how long it takes to create a Rockstar game and how they can fit anything else in there. So you presume if a game's going to take 6, 7, or 8 years to make, they're going to focus on the ones that are guaranteed to make money, which is where the likes of, you know, Bully, for as popular as it is, it's not another GTA, so you can imagine them having to put that on the back burner. But then it becomes a question of, well, when do they get around to doing it? Because it's sort of, you know, like a chicken and egg thing. Whereas I do think they would benefit from putting those other studios that they have on other titles. But I don't know what the sort of reality of game dev is over there, because when they were doing that, games were getting delayed all the time. Like Max Payne 3 was a disappointment for the company because it kept getting delayed so much, and they brought that Rockstar perfection to it.
The marketing was terrible for that, but the game was phenomenal.
True. Yeah, that's it. The game was phenomenal. It was so pristinely polished again, but because it wasn't, you know, GTA or Red Dead, it didn't hit those same sales numbers and didn't justify the amount of time and resources pumped into it.
It's never going to land as much as the next GTA, but I think it is just as much of a pull saying this is the next IP from Rockstar. I mean, that's just a natural way that, I mean, we, like, for the longest time we were waiting on the next thing from Sucker Punch, and then it was Ghost of Tsushima. Like, if you see the Rockstar logo pop up at E3 or any sort of, you know, Game Awards or whatever, and it's something completely new, maybe they do end up resurrecting Agent. I know they eventually discontinued the IP, but something completely different. You know, you pop up the Rockstar logo at the end of that trailer, and all of a sudden the world is like, oh, like, it's this new thing. I remember when that was every couple of years, and it was like, what are they working on now? And as much as like Dan and Sam Houser and Leslie Benzies, and they've kind of like, that initial dream team is sort of fractured a bit. I think both the houses are still very much involved. And like, you know, you can go delve into how much impact Leslie had before he left and things like that. Maybe that's why they've slowed down as well. But I just want more ideas from that team. They were on such a hot streak, and I think they've kind of calmed down a bit.
It is sort of, see, because on the one hand, there is like that hot streak, and you would get games more often, but at the same time, like, leaving the gaps, does that not make the Rockstar brand even more like mysterious and give it extra significance, so that it's been a few years that you do see the Rockstar logo,
it's
then
obviously
you get
worked,
even more excited.
But I don't know, for me, as someone who loves their work and like, loves everything that they've done, you know, from Smuggler's Run all the way through to Red Dead 2, like, I look at everything that they're capable of, and I think that I want more from that talent, that like clearly talented pool of individuals. And looking at, me and Jules just did some news that you'll be able to check out as well on how Ubisoft are apparently diversifying their output going forward, bringing back the Splinter Cell.
I know, I'm excited for this.
Maybe that.
Yes.
But also, you know, even EA are going to DICE and appointing Respawn's Jason West to be like, look, change the studio, don't call it DICE East or whatever it was anymore, DICE LA I think it was. Give it a new name and make sure you're doing new ideas. I would hope that Rockstar next generation don't flip and become, you know, the one game studio.
Yeah, I mean, like, even, it's weird how we're seeing these restructuring from like an internal perspective from all of these different studios. Like you mentioned Naughty Dog, who obviously are still releasing games frequently, but even they're less frequent than what they used to be. We're getting a restructuring in Ubisoft. We've got all of these great Rockstar studios, and we do know that people in the industry, whether it's the Sony bosses or Strauss Zelnick, even he's talking about, you know, that you need to have fewer but bigger releases. That's what they're on about, and that is like great, but only if you can continue to keep having different studios release things, so you get like a steady, you can't just go 8 years, you have to have like multiple people at least publishing games. And I think that's what Bethesda does quite well, for as much as, you know, they've completely jumped down the toilet over the past few years.
Just fall on the floor for a little bit. So
when we're waiting for new Bethesda, like, is it Softworks, the people who actually make the games, when we're waiting for those games, Bethesda as a company is still publishing things like Doom or, you know,
they're still out there,
and Prey. They still have the name out there, and what the strangest thing for me is that Rockstar aren't even doing that. They're not really publishing games anymore. They're only publishing what they do internally.
They did start, they put out there that PC launcher thing, and it seems like they're trying to get into more sort of Valve territory where they make the transition from game dev to being publishing house, kind of what Devolver have done. And like, I'd be interested to see what sort of games they then greenlight. It's been, because I love the way that Devolver have gone, like, okay, we give this the blessing, we allow this to come to fruition. I think someone like Rockstar, they'd be a good fit. But for me, you'd always be missing out on that. Like, I want to know what the houses want to do. I want to know what that creative team want to come up with. What's next from the people that gave us Manhunt and Bully and the Warriors? The Warriors, like, out of nowhere, randomly 2005 or 6 it was, like, oh yeah, we're just going to do a sequel to this movie from like 1979.
Yeah, it's going to be really
phenomenal.
Good as well.
Yeah, and it was brilliant. And like, they designed a really cool melee system that they never used again, and it was great. And so for me, I'm always going to want that. But I think it is interesting at the turn of the generation where they think they are.
Not to keep yabbing on, but that's also a very good point, Scott, because in the run-up to, say, GTA 5 and even Red Dead Redemption 2, you had all of these other games like Max Payne that were sort of, focusing on one style of gameplay or one mechanic. Like Max Payne 3 obviously had that really weighty, physics-based shooting mechanics where you were holding weapons, you were moving around. And all of those elements trickled into those big releases like GTA and like Red Dead Redemption, and it made them better games. I don't know how you have those big marquee releases without the other titles that inform it, where you learn and act as a playground for innovative mechanics.
Well, when they were developing the Rage engine, the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, they literally put out the table tennis game to show that what it could do. Just as like, we spent this long developing it, we might as well cash in and get something out of it, so we released some table tennis, and then it ended up factoring back into GTA 4. So there's a way to do the side stuff alongside the big ones. I just want to see more from Rockstar, basically, which is kind of my overall thing.
You've convinced me here.
Good! But yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below. Are you a fan of old school Rockstar, or would you rather they sort of waited and released their big games every sort of few years, maybe even a decade in between them? For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Josh, my friend, let's talk some more about GTA 6. Now, it's not coming today, even though I totally believed that for a while. I think we all did. You as well, back at home, you totally did. It was convincing. The next thing up is the next most credible leak. There seems to be a different one every day, from a voice actor called Jorge Consejo, which sounds badass anyway, who apparently was working on the Mexican version of the game, and a listing has popped up on his CV saying that he's playing a character in Grand Theft Auto 6 listed as a 2018 recording, and the character is called The Mexican, which makes me think that it's a placeholder name and not... I mean, GTA could have a character just called The Mexican, but I think that maybe, it's an embargo thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be fair, I wouldn't put it past them to just have a character called that. It is kind of very, for my money, in keeping with, characters that they've had before, but it sounds almost too stock to be real, if that makes sense. Like, it's of course GTA 6 has a character called The Mexican, and of course this guy's playing him, but yeah, like, the GTA 6 Rumours mill has been going mad over the past month. If you go on the Reddit or if you go on the Twitter, it's just popping off all over the place, but this does seem legit. More often than not, when something pops up in a resume, like, it's there for a reason. It's not just something someone can kind of fabricate or pull out of thin air. And the fact that this guy, this actor, did a follow-up tweet, essentially not confirming it and not denying it, just saying, look, I've got contractual obligations and I can't talk about it. But,
so this follow-up thing was him saying, "Dear friends, while I read every message from you, please know that because of contract stipulations, sometimes I'm unable to comment on certain projects. Please don't feel ignored or unseen. I appreciate and value every single one of you." But with that tweet, 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, if it's not true, they'll just say so. It's always a smoking gun if they dodge or take something down or whatever. I mean, we know that GTA 6 is in production. Like, I think Take-Two have stated that, like, as of a good few years ago. They always said that there was going to be more. I'm curious about the recording session in 2018, because that puts it back in line with those original rumors about, like, Mexican drug cartels and the idea that they were taking some influence from Narcos and doing empire building type stuff, which they also flirted with in Vice City stories, and obviously Vice City had the whole Scarface analog. And so, like, where do you come down on that? Do you think that they're actually going to go down that route? And I'm literally going off the word Mexican, but do you think they're going to do something based on that?
I mean, yeah, they could, you know what I mean? Like, it does line up with rumors that have come out before, and there was quite a few around that same time saying the same thing, that you would be building an empire, as it were, across a bunch of different cities. Like, that idea and the fact that Vice City is going to be involved somehow, they're the two rumors that constantly keep showing up. So, like you said, there's what's the phrase? There's no smoke without fire, or there's no fire without smoke. One of them, one of those applies to this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like there was also that whole massive leak, which we did a separate video on. There's articles on it too. It was just kind of under the umbrella of Project Americas, which was just the idea that it wouldn't just be one big city. It would be more of multiple land masses. And like, I mean, 2013 was a long time ago. March was a long time ago. But it's like, you know, they've done various rumors as to how they would expand GTA going forward. And maybe you need something as big and overblown as this and to go outside of America. And considering how much Rockstar didn't hold a single thing back with Red Dead 2, I kind of wonder if something as big as this, multiple, you know, America and Mexico, and then trying to do a GTA 5 size landmass in both, if that's the kind of thing that is the meaningful next gen step for like GTA overall.
Yeah, and I think it is genuinely, like, if we do get GTA 6 and it doesn't include multiple areas like that, I will personally be a little bit disappointed, just because they make such amazing worlds, and it makes sense to kind of stitch those things together to make a sort of, you know, a larger tapestry. For as much as I love the detail they put into their games, like they can do both scale and, you know, detail at the same time. It's never a case of one or the other with them. It's not like they're making small, detailed open worlds. All of them are massive. Even, you know, Red Dead Redemption 2 has most of the areas from Red Dead 1 in there, even though they're barely ever used in the single player. Like, it feels like they've been flirting with this idea for a while, because they've always had, you know, connected parts of different cities. They've obviously wanted to have a scope that is bigger than just one location and try to make you feel like you're moving from state to state or country to country. So hopefully with the, you know, the ability of next gen technology, they can finally realize that in a Grand Theft Auto game, and that would, to me, like, the playgrounds are endless. My favorite part of GTA 5 is moving from the dense city into the more, you know, wildlife-driven areas of the north. Like, it felt good to transition from one section of that map to another. And that's just a small scale. Like you said, that was 7 years ago. That was like the limitations of tech then, and we've come a long way since then. So I definitely want to see this multi-city approach.
I'll tell you another thing as well, because I remember when just after Trump took office, and they said that they didn't want to do stuff that was necessarily like real world analog stuff anymore. They kind of want to get away from that a little bit, because they said that real world was kind of getting like so close to the sort of world, the sort of pastiches that they do, so they want to do something different. And I kind of wonder about if they did something like this, then that's, you know, they can do a more grounded, more serious, like, I wonder how much of Red Dead 2 is in GTA 6 basically, and I kind of wonder how much they're going to do something that isn't the funny, you know, like renaming different buildings and being all like kind of comical and like sort of South Park adjacent that they've done in the past, and whether something like this is the biggest sort of change that they need. Because I mean, that was the whole question when Bethesda were debating whether to take Fallout out of America, and could you even do a Fallout if you set it in like China or somewhere in the East. And I wonder about like if how much of GTA's like DNA is like set in America, or whether you can make it work outside, because they've never done GTA London either. And like, I would welcome something that was this big of a change, but I don't know how much of like Red Dead 2 do you think will be in it? Do you think they'll do like the more, like if they do the Empire type stuff, like you'll be packaging up your drugs and you've got to fly it and you've got to knife the top of it and have a little sniff, make sure no one's ripping you off?
Yeah, man, like I think obviously when it comes to Rockstar, all the games they make have a knock-on effect of their next project. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is essentially an amalgamation of, you know, GTA 4, Max Payne 3 and Red Dead Redemption, like all of the good stuff and all of the lessons that Rockstar learned from those games put together in one massive experience. So I think this next title is going to be heavily influenced by Red Dead, but I don't think they'll go all in on the simulation elements. I do think we'll see a more mature story and probably more, you know, attention to detail in the realism of the world. But I think, I don't know, after GTA 4, when they really tried that, people kind of were a bit iffy on it. I wonder whether they worry about making that same mistake twice or whatever. Because GTA 5, I love it, but it is very much a course correction, isn't it? Like the characters I think are great. Yeah, but it's certainly a return to the wackier elements of the previous games. But I do think you're right, like, for me, the satire in GTA has always been, it's been quite good, but it's never been the thing that I'm drawn to, if that makes sense. I think the way Rockstar makes characters, even the sillier ones, like Michael in GTA 5 is a silly, daft character, but he works, like, even more so than Trevor, who was, you know, this larger-than-life person. And I think that they can make you believe in people like that without having to do, you know, the real-world analogs or anything, you know?
Yeah, my thing was, like, when I was growing up, I always loved how, like, it was just when you're younger, you think that, like, GTA is, like, the pinnacle of just sort of, like, social harpooning, and it's, oh, man, like, oh, yeah, like, you know, stick it to them, like, yeah, call the the MetLife building, the Get a Life building. Like, yeah, that's great. Like all that sort of stuff. But I don't know for how much that's kind of like had its time, had its day. And like Rockstar themselves are such a different company as well. Like how the hell did they even approach this stuff? And how much is Dan Houser leaving affecting this? Because there's only the number crunchy Sam Houser is the one that's left now. The creative juggernaut has gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to, you know, like the rumor, if these voice sessions were taking place in 2018, that means like Dan Houser was on board at the time, but then he was also involved with Red Dead Redemption at the time. So I wonder how much of a hand he's had in the development of GTA 6, because we know it's in development at this point. It's just a case of how long, and this points to, you know, it being in development for at least, what, 2 years at this point, and considering that voice acting, you know, sometimes that comes later in the day after pre-production's done and stuff. I think the voice sessions for Red Dead lasted like 5 years or something.
Oh man, that game's script is like 50,000 pages or something. Like, is it, what do you call the dude? Like Roger
Clark, I think he's
Clark
called
Morgan Arthur Bois.
Roger Clark.
Yeah. When he's talked about the recording sessions, yeah, they were absolutely mammoth, and they have to try and account for every single permutation of those conversations when you're in the world. I don't know how many times they would have gone back to the drawing board on GTA to try and make it this next gen thing. But yeah, like you said, the recording session lines up with when that full staff was still there. I think Leslie Benzies was still there as well. Like, I forget if he left.
Actually.
In my mind, I think he might have left in 2017. But either way, like at least they had the houses back then. So that's kind of something. But yeah, I just, at this stage, I kind of just want them to get out there and say something. We're in the 7th year now. You know, it's been this is the longest we've ever waited in between GTAs. And either that's because they're waiting for something absolutely ginormous and oh my god, or there are problems with like the writing and what GTA even is after GTA 4 was in one direction, GTA 5 was back in the other direction. I guess on a personal note, what do you want from GTA 6? Is it this type of stuff, or do you want more of the same?
It's hard, like, because you said, like, the expectations on this sequel are so massive that, to be honest, I don't even know what I want, because I feel like anything that I do want, I might end up being disappointed by, just, you know, because of the sheer expectations that are on the shoulders of it. I would like to see some kind of, you know, empire building thing to be involved in that. I think Rockstar recently has been excelling when they have a larger cast of characters as well. I don't want them all to necessarily be playable, but the interplay between the 3 protagonists in GTA 5 and the entire camp in Red Dead, like, I got such joy and such satisfaction from seeing those little interactions, and I think Rockstar is one of the only studios that can really put the time in and the detail into realizing those. So I want to see those transfer over, just essentially what they've been doing but on a bigger scope. I want to see these multiple cities, I want to see a bunch of different characters, I want to see a bunch of different perspectives on what Grand Theft Auto actually is. And I want to see GTA Online come back. I don't want to see the focus, but I want it to be there. What about you?
I think they'll keep plugging stuff into GTA Online, but like, yeah, for as much as I thought Red Dead 2, like, for me, was a bit hampered by just the animation priority and how long it took you to just kind of do anything. I do love how much that makes you invested by proxy. Like, you do care about everything on this other sort of VR without goggles level, because you are like living day to day as that character, and I kind of want them to bring that stuff across. But yeah, in regards to this stuff, it does seem like they're going again, going off the word Mexico. Maybe this seems that that's what they're going with. That's all you've got, scraps at the minute, because Rockstar won't put out anything official.
Well,
so,
this is it, right?
You know.
We have literal scraps, and this one seems way more legit than the idea that it was going to be announced last week, which even in the video, we got a lot of crap for that, but in the video, me and you made it very clear that you needed to take that with a massive pinch of salt. But I think everyone's just, like I said in that video, everyone's so ravenous. And again, if you look over on the Twitter, if you look over on the Reddit, there are people following these scraps, because there were other reveals that the websites that Rockstar have been using for Vice City and GTA 6 have been updated, and they've been updated again since they were previously updated. There are things like they've removed their pinned tweet, which suggests something is coming. All these tiny little breadcrumbs that are hopefully leading to something, and
well,
yet
that's the thing.
It just keeps getting pushed back.
That's the thing. When we ran with it, it was because like all the GTA 6 leakers on Twitter were freaking out. The GTA 6 Reddit was freaking out. Everybody was saying like, hey, you need to be aware that this date's gonna matter. You know, and when something like that comes along, like you said, when there's nothing else official other than them tweaking a couple of their websites, you either go with it or you don't. Pretty much everybody is in the same boat in regards to GTA 6. I think that Rockstar could do with putting something out, and I don't know, at this stage it seems like if the recording session was 2 years ago, they have something to show, but they don't play by anyone's rules other than their own, so I don't know whether that'll come in the E3 slot or whether it'll just be later in the year.
Hello, everyone.
Jules, my friend, my voice is wrecked, but it's not the only thing that's shot to bits. According to Rockstar Mag's Chris, a reliable GTA/Rockstar leaker, and this is a leak notice by DSO Gaming, written up as well by Dexerto, GTA 6 is apparently in development hell, and the project has been restarted multiple times, with the most recent one being just last year, because Dan Houser's departure was last year, and apparently him being lead writer, man who brings things together, and him departing the company apparently left one hell of a hole in development, which the team are struggling to bring back together. I do have a couple of quotes, but what do you think of that?
Well, the thing is that when this morning, I usually do this thing with Scott where he has the headline news and I'm just here to react to it. I'm the color commentator. The problem is that when he said there's GTA 6 news, I was like, oh, fair enough. What new fantastical thing will be going off to new vistas, going off to space? Are they going to go like the Saints Row route and go even crazier, just over the top? But no, hearing that it's actually delayed and it's sort of fractured and is stalling, that's kind of it's a bit of a wet fart, this news, isn't it? What's going on, mate?
Well, so apparently it's in development hell. The quote from whoever Rockstar Mag Chris has been talking to is, to date, this is the most chaotic project of Rockstar since their creation. He goes on to say that Take-Two were planning to announce GTA 6 last year, and they apparently wanted to get the initial announcement out the way last year. Obviously, all the stuff happened across last year into this year, but Dan Houser leaving seems to be the main thing, because he was the lead creative on almost every main Grand Theft Auto, including the Red Dead Redemptions. He's pretty much their shining star. You can also go on our channel, What Culture Gaming's channel, where I put together a video looking at Red Dead Redemption 2 through the lens of this seems to be a commentary from a lead writer about the death of Rockstar over time.
Right.
He obviously departed anyway, and he set up his own studio. But Grand Theft Auto 6 will be the first main GTA without his involvement since like GTA 1 or something. It's just he's going to be a big miss.
When did he jump off of GTA 5 to go work on Red Dead Redemption? I assumed that it was as soon as that project was done, he was on there, because let's just say if we're to look at GTA as what it's like to be helmed without him there, then the GTA Online experience, the intense sort of microtransactional heavy storefront, the zero lack of single player DLC interest in there, that does speak to a mindset that is more money orientated than maybe any of the previous Rockstar entries have been. Red Dead Redemption admittedly did go down the same route, but he got to tell that amazing long form story throughout its campaign. So if we don't have Dan leading this project, and we've got that going forward, I'm very worried about where things go. Because, no offense, where can GTA go from this point? You and I have voiced this like so much. Like GTA 5, for all of its flaws and for all of its controversies that it had surrounding it, it is a great game.
Oh yeah.
And it's very hard to see where they're going to take it from there, because all you can really do is more of the stuff that you've already done.
Well, that was always the thing with GTA 5, because I think that it is the most opulent version of that blueprint, and and GTA 5 is the one, like me and Josh just did a whole podcast. Go subscribe to the What Culture Gaming podcast on the different eras of Grand Theft Auto. There's like the old school stuff, which is going to be coming back in the definitive edition, and there's obviously the GTA 4 onward stuff, which is more cinematic and it's a little bit more grounded. And then GTA 5 was kind of splitting down the middle. It was sort of like you kind of had chaotic stuff, you kind of had playful, experimental, sandbox stuff, but you also kind of had the cinematic side of it. And I feel like you said, it's like, where did they go from here? And if you don't have the guy on board who helped helm that over time, then I wonder how many of those wider business interests start to take precedence. Because even Take-Two Strauss Zelnick said that they've talked about annual releases before, and they said that the reason they don't do that is because they want the brand to rest. They said the value in it is taking the time, but they also said that they didn't expect it to be this successful. So I wonder what that is going to be like. If there was a GTA every year, it would still sell.
Oh, I would hate it if there was a GTA every year. I tell you what, that formula would be done into the ground. It's like the Ubisoft, like Far Cry formula. Like it's the same thing over and over again, and just even their own games have like elements that are lifted from it. I would utterly despise that. So I'm glad that they do give it a long time to rest. But my problem is that we're just going to look at the sales figures. I know that they are. I know that the devs and the people, the higher ups, they're going to look at it and say, well, this works. And we want this to keep working. So let's just do exactly this over and over and over again. But the problem is that you're not expanding the brand in any way. You're actually killing it by releasing the same game. I can't speak for what this game is going to be like. But the fact that it's had several restarts from what you've just said there, that is a totally worrying sign, because it means that they're reacting to stuff that is happening now. They're forward planning by going, okay, right, this is working now. We can't do what we did before. The vision that we had just doesn't work. Maybe because it will not make enough money because GTA 5 is being held up on this massive pedestal of being, this is what you need to achieve with GTA 6.
It's kind of fascinating just how much of a behemoth GTA 5 is. Like, we obviously grew up with the entire franchise. GTA 5 sales numbers eclipse every other entry in the series. And it's that whole thing of, if you were the number cruncher at the top, it's like, we'll just let this keep going. But like, it becomes their Skyrim. It becomes the thing that or their Minecraft, for example. It's always in the top 10 charts, and it always just keeps selling. But if if you need a creative mind at that studio going, we can't just rest on our laurels, we need to do something else. And if that person has gone, then I wonder who steps in to be the next Dan Houser. But judging by the very light comments that are here, it sounds like the team, that they were almost blindsided by Dan Houser leaving, that they maybe didn't have someone that was ready to step in to be the next Dan Houser. It's like the way that Rockstar were always built as a company was always around the Houser brothers. It was around the producer Leslie Benzies. It was around Laszlo Jones. Like, they had that core team. When that whole report came out about the 100-hour work weeks, that was about that team, that specific group of people who would wait until the closing months of development and then crunch their asses off to get everything done. And if that whole team has gone or dissipated or whatever, then that throws everything out of whack.
There is one thing that we might be able to look at and maybe glean a tiny bit of positivity. Maybe the reasons that the project has restarted so many times actually might be to do with reflections in the work culture that they was dragged over the coals for. Maybe it's the case of they weren't being treated properly, and the fact that we're restarting, maybe they're giving more time to the team, maybe they're giving more things, and a restart in that sense might just be in terms of a work ethic program. I severely doubt that is, but if I was to try and spin a bit of positivity from it, that's what I'd say could be taken from that.
I would hope so. They have enough money to do that. It's not. I mean, that's the thing. You look at games that keep selling that we get annoyed by, like Skyrim or GTA 5, and it's not that they're not selling. I don't know anyone who's not played that game at this point, but you could.
The fact that it's coming out on the PS5 and the new Xbox.
That's the whole thing. But it's like you could just sit back and let that stuff continue to sell. If you do want to give the dev team more time, the appropriate amount of time, let that old game keep selling. And just let that sort of roll out. A wider question, though, is what do you want from GTA 6? Because I wonder how much. Say Dan Houser was still there. He was the dude who obviously helmed a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2, who's the lead writer on it. And a lot of the comments a lot of the tone in Red Dead Redemption 2 is very serious. It's very self-reflective. It's all about the sort of death of lawlessness in the West and all that kind of stuff. I wonder if they would do a Grand Theft Auto that is as laden and is as simulation style as Red Dead. It's like, would that work if a really serious, weighty Grand Theft Auto?
My question to you is this: what is the most played aspect of the GTA 5 experience? It's GTA 5 Online.
Yes.
And what is the GTA 5 online experience at the moment? It is chaotic, over the top.
It's wacky banana time.
Utterly ridiculous. It is airing, and I know that fans will be pissed off at me saying this, is airing on the Fortnite hello my fellow kids route. Like, it's trying to be too cool and edgy for its own good sometimes. And that's not to say if you enjoy that, that's absolutely fine for you. Sometimes I look at it and I just go almost, like, I'm in the wrong age demographic for this.
Yeah, so I mean, like, almost all multiplayer games over a long enough time will get some sort of neon-based skin or a neon car or whatever it is.
So therefore, do you not think that they'll just lift from that and just be like, well, this is what is kind of reflective of the GTA experience, let's just take that. So maybe will be set in like a cyberpunk future where it's all like GTA 6 is far flung into the far distant future, flying cars, robots, sassy quipping, like laser guns, pew pew pew.
Maybe. I mean, I think they'll go even more banana sandwich with GTA Online, but the leaked stuff that's out there for GTA 6 in the main, if it's true, which has been corroborated by a few more known leakers on the inside, is a map of Miami. It is their sort of new age take on doing the Miami Strip and all that kind of stuff again, which isn't very detailed, but it seemed like that would be the route to go. Like, you had GTA 4 was a redux of Liberty City, GTA 5 was San Andreas. The only one that was left was Vice City. So assumedly that will be where they're going for the main, but I think the evolution of online will be even more crazy.
I do think that might be the one area where they can still invoke some freshness within the series is by using the time period of a different era to sell it. Like, I think we all felt like it was part of a living, thriving world in like LA Noire when they took us back to like the 1920s and stuff like that. It felt I like the fact that they can do period pieces like this. And I think that if they chose Miami as in the heyday of the 80s or late 70s, again, like letting you like tear down the Sunset Strip with like those open top convertibles and stuff like that, that is a feeling like that I got from Vice City that I can't wait to play in the definitive edition, and I would love to play more of that in the future.
It's interesting because Vice City is obviously going to remind people of how much they love that time period, but it's interesting in regards to how much wider media has done the 80s thing at this point, from Guardians of the Galaxy to, I mean, well, like I said, re-releasing Vice City, but like the latest Guardians soundtrack has tons of songs from Vice City. It's almost like all of the 80s is just this one playlist, and I feel like that might be the thing that they channel to sort of try and get people back in their good graces.
Do you think it's going to be very weird when we move into the era of the 2000s? Like it's going to be
Limp Bizkit comes back in. Yeah.
Well, they already are. They got a new album.
The new album's pretty good.
The thing, don't.
It's a good album, Jules.
This is different news story.
Snacky Poo, mate, carry on.
Sorry, is that a name of the title?
That's one of the, no. The album's called Still Sucks. There is a song called Snacky Poo.
Oh.
Snacky Poo. That's what he says over and over again. That's the chorus. That's all you need.
Is this the end of the news?
I've got one more thing.
You're killing me here.
To throw in Snacky Poo is just in amongst this leak stuff, which we're going to skirt over because it's nowhere near as important as the GTA stuff, is that the Red Dead Redemption remaster is apparently going to have the upgraded feature set in regards to the GTA Definitive Edition, i.e. they're taking the original Red Dead Redemption and assumedly adding Red Dead 2 controls, GTA 5 controls, whatever it is, whatever you think of in terms of modern, Rockstar feeling games. We'll have to wait until the Definitive Edition comes out, but that is the thing that's being compared to for them revisiting the Red Dead Redemption remaster, and apparently that will also be coming to PC. So that was something that wasn't mentioned before.
I wonder if the DLC will make the jump to it, because Undead Nightmare still retains to be one of the best DLC expansions that you can get in gaming. If they manage to do that with the GTA 5 or the Red Dead Redemption 2 controls and graphics, I will be playing the ever-loving piss out of that. The Horde mode stuff from that, absolutely love the explosive shotgun.
Bring it all back to Mr. Dan Houser making one of the best games of all time. Red Dead Redemption is up there in possibly the greatest thing ever made by a set of humans. But yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below of GTA 6 being restarted so late in the day. Can you stand waiting another 5 years or whatever it is for the next Grand Theft Auto when GTA 5 has been out since 2013? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And I've been Snacky Poo.
He's also been Snacky Poo. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hello everybody, just very quickly before we dive into the main news. Now we did report this as a combination of the GTA 6's shifting release dates alongside David Hayter's tweet, which in the time of recording to then that being edited, David Hayter has now posted again saying to avoid an internet incident, he was only suggesting the idea of Toronto being a location for GTA 6 or that he had any involvement whatsoever. It's not like us to run with, a legendary voice actor putting up a tweet and, people assuming things. There's hundreds and thousands of comments already doing the rounds online as to what that might have meant. But not to worry, the main news here is about GTA 6's changing release date, but you can also enjoy, me and Josh just in retrospect being two absolute maniacs thinking that Solid Snake might be joining GTA. So have fun with that and on with the show. Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello Scott.
Josh fam, GTA 6 news is a brewing. Let's dive right in. So industry analyst Daniel Ahmed recently put up on Twitter a whole bunch of details from Take-Two's managerial reports, talking about their fiscal year and what they had planned for the rest of this year and 2021. Now the fiscal window is April 2020 to March 2021. And they detailed all the stuff that's coming for the rest of this year, referring to it as a light new release year, which already kind of hints at the whole GTA thing. But they mentioned, the Bioshock collection on Switch. They've got a Borderlands collection coming on Switch. There's Outer Worlds coming on Switch. There's NBA 2K21, WWE Battlegrounds, the Mafia remaster, and a couple of other things like a Sid Meier's game or whatever. None of them are GTA 6. He then says, or part of the report rather, was them saying that they have the strongest development pipeline in Take-Two history, with an array of titles set to launch in fiscal 2022, which puts it directly after March 2021. So I guess immediately we can get onto this David Hayter thing in a second, but what do you think of waiting even that much longer for GTA 6?
Yeah, at this point, it's going to be done when it's done, isn't it? We keep getting reports about, it's 60% finished. It's going to be out in 2024. It's going to be out in 2021. As long as I think they get it out before the 10-year mark, it'll be all right. We waited 9 years for Red Dead Redemption 2, and obviously GTA is bigger. So I think they only start taking the piss with it when it's beyond a decade. And from the other rumors that have been leaking over the past few months or whatever, they seem to be building a platform for content. And I hate saying that. I hate referring to GTA as a platform for content, but it is.
It?
All the leaks point towards them making GTA 6 a kind of built to last another 10 years, so that would make about sense for me. So yeah, 2021 at the earliest isn't surprising considering how little we've seen and how well GTA 5 has been doing.
Do you remember when we thought GTA 6 was just going to be revealed on like an afternoon?
Dude.
I mean, not just us. Like there was a whole Reddit thread. There was a whole social movement because of one rumor that morning.
I felt like I was going stir crazy because everything felt like it made sense that day. I knew it probably wouldn't happen. We mentioned that in the video, but obviously it sounded like it was going to. But yeah, like we haven't since then. The GTA stuff has been quite quiet. So this and the David Hayter thing, which blew my mind this morning, has kind of thrown it back up. But yeah, like I can't think of what else they would mean by their other big franchises. I can't think of what else they would have ready to go. Maybe another Borderlands, but when you use those words, you have to assume it's Rockstar stuff.
Well, it's like there is meant to be like another Bioshock that's been in development for years now. Kotaku leaked it years ago, but like, yeah, they're referring to the strongest development pipeline ever. They mentioned new IPs as well, but all of that stuff is set for fiscal 2021, which means it goes into 2022. David Hayter, though, my friend David Hayter, popped up on Twitter not a few hours ago, just tweeting two hashtags. One was GTA 6, and the other was Toronto. So I don't know what that is, to be honest. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, my initial thoughts were, I'm half asleep for one, just checking Twitter in the morning, looking for news. And then because I followed David Hayter, and I just kind of saw it and was thinking, what? And I was going through the replies, trying to get to the bottom of what it meant and what this cryptic thing meant. And I do have a few guesses, because obviously he's not elaborated on it. He's just dropped that little bombshell in there, like the first official thing we've heard from anyone talking about it. I don't know whether it's just a joke. Is he? Because he's from Canada, he's from Toronto. I think he lives there. Is he just kind of joking with us, saying that I love GTA 6 being in Toronto, or has he seen or learned something that indicates that it's going to be there?
Yeah, like he knows what this is going to do. Like tweeting something like this is going to result in people going, David. I mean, it's not like he's not a legendary voice actor. Like, you know.
That's it, yeah. It's not like he's not a legendary voice actor who has a large following on Twitter. You do something like this, you do it so cryptically, then he gets people like me and you talking about it and making videos about it. So I don't know whether that means it's going to be set in Canada. I don't know whether that's going to be a part of it. I don't know what's going on, Scott.
I guess we should talk about, because the thing is with David Hayter, like obviously he was in, the last Metal Gear he was in was like Peace Walker or something. Wasn't in Metal Gear Solid 5, went back to doing more script writing stuff. He's reprised the role of Snake a couple of times in like Bomberman and My Birthday Message. And apart from that, he hasn't really done that much stuff. So if he's going to return to voice acting, like that's a big deal for him. But also on Rockstar's side, like they made a whole move away from celebrity voice actors or recognizable voice actors back with GTA 4, because they said that you end up just hearing the voice and not the new character, which that seems totally anathema to why you would cast David Hayter, because I mean I know he can do a variety of voices, but the main one you get David Hayter for is Solid Snake, or it's like a gruff voice, which is quite close to his actual voice now as well. If say this is true, what do you think of a GTA with ostensibly a Solid Snake type man in it?
That would be weird. That would be very strange. But I can see them kind of sending up that kind of, like gruff hero. You know what I mean? GTA is all about satire. It's all about taking down these established tropes. So if you get one of the most iconic hard men voices in the entire video game canon and kind of get him to take the mick out of himself, that would be really fun. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't buy for a second that he's actually in the game. I don't think anyone gets a role in GTA 6 and then immediately tweets it out. Imagine the iron fist of bloody Rockstar coming down on you after that. Like that would be a crazy thing to do, but I would be here for it. And I do love David Hayter, your friend David Hayter, so
I can't think what else would be. Why the hell else you would tweet this? It's probably something really simple. Like you said, he lives in Toronto and he's maybe just seen some sort of casting call or something in the area, and that's why he's doing it. But like I said, he has to know why this, like putting a tweet out like this is only going to result in a million videos, probably way more confirmed sounding than the title that we'll end up going with. But like, it's going to be a big thing. It's going to start like this conversation around it. He's going to become the center of it. And he's not someone who would randomly stir up this. I don't think he's, randomly wanting attention. So it's just, I hope that it means something more. Alongside that, though, what do you think of a potential GTA that isn't set in America? Like you said, it's got so much of this like pastiche, like black comedy approach to it, all this satirical stuff. If they did set one in Canada, I wonder if that's just one of the ways forward. Like you keep a lot of the Westernisms that make GTA, but you can then lampoon the sort of stereotypical, overly nice Canadian tropes instead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to show my ignorance right now because I don't know much of anything about Canada. I've never been there. The only media I consume is TV shows that are shot in Vancouver, but they just double for America anyway. So it would be interesting to see them kind of move away from, you know, like the core of America itself, because they've always said that, you know, GTA is an American series. When people talk about taking it to London or whatever, they say, well, you know, that would be good, but it wouldn't necessarily be Grand Theft Auto, because it's so much of its DNA is in, like we've been saying, satirizing, you know, like the American dream, or, you know, American tropes, American culture, stuff like that, which is weird considering that it's kind of led by two British dudes. But I think there's, yeah, Scottish, sorry, well, British, I think it would moving it to Canada, or at least partially moving it to Canada, would be, I've always wanted to see GTA break out, and I don't think they would just put it in Canada without, you know, feeding back into cities that they've already established, because the idea is they're going to make this kind of one super city thing where you have links between Vice City or Liberty City or whatever. So for me, that would be a cool way to kind of add something new while still retaining the kind of central setting that we expect. Because for me, as much as I love those iconic GTA settings, I'm kind of sick of them. You know what I mean? I don't need another version of Liberty City or you know, San Andreas. I could probably go for Vice City, but I wouldn't want it to be the whole game. Even if that's what they did next. As much as I would love it, I would be like, come on, there's other things you can do, especially if we're going to have to wait, you know, 10 more years for another game.
It's true. I mean, the thing is, if you've grown up with GTA, if you've been there since the beginning, then yeah, you've seen Rockstar sort of roll out this initial set of cities like Liberty, Vice, San Andreas, and then revisit them in 3D, then revisit them in HD. And it is that thing where like the only one that exists alongside those sort of iconic cities is the London stuff, which they've said they don't really want to devote that many assets to doing a big, you know, AAA GTA 5 size London. So for me, like you said with Vice City, that's kind of the last one. That's the last thing that ties off that mentality that they started like almost, I guess, 20 plus years ago. You do your big blockbuster version of Vice City, and then you eventually move on to something else, whether that's taking GTA out of America or whatever it is. But yeah, if this stuff was true, and again, we're not even, I just think it's a hashtag. We're not running with it that much, but if it somehow is a GTA set in Canada or somewhere other than America, that means that the next GTA wouldn't be Vice City, which I think would be I think that'd be the wrong way to go based on how much stuff's being amped up at the minute. I mean, like, yeah, do you kind of agree the same thing that they do one last one that fits in that mold and then do something else?
It depends how long it's going to take them to make the next game, you know what I mean? Because I would say, yes, it would make sense that they would finish it off with Vice City because it's the one that they haven't revisited. But I would also feel a bit miffed if I have to wait, you know, 13 more years or whatever before I get to see them do something else. I'm going to be old by then, Scott. But you do make a very valid point in that.
How dare you, Josh Brown?
I'm sorry. But you do make a very valid point in that, you know, a lot of people buying into GTA now won't have played Vice City, you know what I mean? Like, people will be picking up Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2020 who have never played through San Andreas, never played through Vice City. So to them, it would be new. And obviously, Rockstar would flesh it out anyway. They would expand on things that were already there, make it much bigger, make it much more detailed. So it's going to ostensibly be a new map, just it's going to have the same name and dabble in the same themes, which, you know, could be all right. I'm kind of talking myself back into it now. I would like it because I would pop for it so much because I love Vice City is my favorite old GTA, but you know, we like to see them try something new. But maybe if it's slotted in with a bunch of other cities, that would be a way to go. I don't know why I'm getting so caught up in it because I'm not going to get to play it for another 4 years or whatever anyway. So
I know there was that whole other thing about like it's only in the beginnings of development anyway, or whatever. They're in the initial stages. So who even knows? But let us know what you think down in the comments below of the potential inclusion of Mr. David Hayter in a GTA game. Who would you like him to play, and what do you think of the potential of them setting it outside of America and maybe even in Toronto? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye. Josh, my friend, another month, another leak for GTA 6. Now, this one you need to obviously take with another big pinch of salt, a big sort of mound, Tony Montana-sized mountain of salt. But it seems quite promising, and it'll be everywhere across the interweb, so we might as well talk about it. this is a new image, a top-down image of what looks like GTA 6's map, to the point where it's in so much detail that it seems to be convincing a lot of people that it isn't just fan-made, simply because of the amount of resources you would need to bring together to be able to create it in the first place. And over on GTAforums.com, there is a user called Arthur Bell who's put a hell of a lot of time in to comparing it, to sort of legitimizing it and trying to vet it and make sure that it does seem legitimate. And they were, one of their things that they've done is compare it to a satellite image, a top-down satellite image of Miami, being that the leaked image seems to purport to be Miami Vice City, and say that, look, they're not taking from this real-world image. It looks like it is it looks like it is legitimate simply because of the amount of detail that's there. Now, this originally leaked, the original leaked images, there was some back in 2018, but they were a hell of a lot more cartoonish, and they leaked on 4chan. A lot of fans just went, yeah, whatever, we see them all the time, as we do, and it didn't really go anywhere. This new leaked image, the shape of it, the topography and everything matches up with those other leaked images from a couple of years ago, which is one thing that also lines up with this dude from 2015 who was an ex-Take-Two employee, at least according to this image that he put on Twitter, saying that he was fed up, he's looking for a career change, and it was then assumed that he was the person that put the leaks out in the first place. But even if you discard that, if you literally just go from the top-down topographical side of it, you do have a new map that is hyper-detailed that lines up with the one from 2018. And it does look pretty promising. There is a little bit more to legitimize this, but what do you think based on the images that you've hopefully seen?
I don't know, Scott Elford, right? Because I used to think I could find patterns in things, jumping on this leak bandwagon, whether it was GTA or Batman or whatever in the past. And I might have believed a bit too much in them. And just because I can see some kind of correlation or some kind of potential proof, like you said, this proof in inverted commas goes back to like 2015, which does sound promising. But at this point, man, I just don't know anymore. I just, like you said, I'm taking this entire thing with a big Tony Montana style, mound of salt and not the hard drug. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm snorting up all of this salt because I don't really believe it, man. Even though it does seem legit, like, I don't know.
Well,
one or two images is not enough for me to go off, so I need more convincing from you.
Well, so the two things that Arthur Bell's write-up on GTA Forums boils down to is the one thing is, like I said, it's the detail. It's the amount of detail that is in this. If it's a fan render, it's one hell of a fan render. They also compared it to the scale of GTA 5's map, where if you looked at that, and top down, when Rockstar first put out the picture of the entirety of GTA 5's map, it's the same scale as what this new leaked image is. And so, Bell or whatever, Arthur Bell is saying, like, look, if Rockstar are still operating under the same scale, which why wouldn't they be? That's another thing that lines it up as being legitimate. It does also line up with the Project Americas leak from a few years ago, the idea that, we are revisiting Vice City, because one of the original dates that's on the leaked images from 2018 says 1985. The Project Americas leak said that we'd be doing this, like, drug empire building stuff across the 70s and the 80s, and then it would be sort of taking place in multiple locations. And with these new maps being a cluster of islands, one of which being this giant, it's this huge island that has Miami on the side of it, obviously different to real life. It's like Rockstar's take on it does seem to be to sort of separate it, so you've got this island that has Miami on the side of it, or Vice City on the side of it, and then a cluster of other islands that you can sort of travel to. All that stuff seems to quote-unquote line up, and does make sense. I think if they were going to go back to Vice City, they would do something that is larger scale in this way, where you have multiple land masses to travel to, and they could, maybe have you doing missions in Liberty City or whatever. These are all things that were part of the Project Americas leak, that you would be traveling, doing sort of drug deals or whatever. You'd be traveling to different cities, going back and forth, building your empire that way. All that stuff makes sense to me, but obviously we're in full-on banana sandwich, huffing the puff territory, so I'm just whatever.
Totally, man. Like, when it comes to the idea of like Vice City being included in somewhere, that's been a rumor since as long as I can remember. Since I was but a bairn, there were rumors that Vice City was going to come back in some form, and I've always kind of championed that only if it's part of a larger whole. So this leak, should it be true, is appealing to me because you do get that kind of remastered, recreated, reimagined version of Vice City, but then you also get all of this new landmass that we potentially haven't seen before. This expanded, cityscape, these expanded towns, this expanded, the waterways going through the islands and stuff. Like the sheer scale of it and the variety in there, like that is promising to me, because one of the things I love about the GTA 5 map is that you do have that dense, city, but then you can go out to the wilderness up north, you know, and you get like this sort of completely different play experience with this completely different environment and a lot of new activities, a lot of different characters, even like the police interceptors change. And I love the idea that you're really connecting a bunch of different locations, each with their own distinct identity and cultures or whatever, and you're traveling between them. Like, the scale doesn't have to be, you know, realistic. It doesn't have to be the biggest map ever, but that feeling of distinct areas, variety and stuff like that. That's what I love out of a GTA map, because it means it never really gets boring, and every single street more or less has its own individual stamp. Like, I mention every single time we cover GTA 5 that I know those streets better than the streets that I grew up on. I know which routes to take, which you know, which rights to take, which streets are going to get me a shortcut to the next place without having to use the map, and that comes from just how well they're designed. Like, I think, you know, I'm not the first to say that Rockstar designs these maps with the kind of geography in like the authenticity of the geography in mind first, and then the gameplay comes second. For me, that's always been a big win, so I want to see that kind of transplanted onto this new map, should it be real.
Well, my thing with the map size stuff, because I'm the total opposite for you. Like, for me, the maps that I know like the back of my hand are like Liberty City, Vice City, San Andreas. Like, I could sketch them out for you right now. Whereas GTA 4 and 5, more so 5, I thought was too complex. Like, I've always found that it was they skewed a little bit more towards realism than what I wanted, whereas like in the original 3D GTAs on PS2 and everything, I knew exactly where every stunt ramp was, where every shortcut was, like, you know, that like you said, that whole way of getting around, and maybe it is just sheer exposure to that map. Like, you need to just live in it for longer, even though I put a hell of a lot of time into GTA 5. But I like the idea of them approaching, you know, you have one massive city, one big island that's sort of, even on, if you take this top-down new image as true, then you do have this sort of horseshoe of a city, like around the island, and then everything in the middle is more like jungle, like tundra and sort of dirt roads and things like that. Stuff that feels a bit more like Just Cause, like you're sort of having firefights amongst some sort of sweaty jungle or whatever as you sort of do drug deals and things like that. I like the idea of them shaking that stuff up. Obviously trying to memorize an entire forest would be pretty hard, but I hope like by minimizing the city amount overall, that maybe means that it would become more memorable. For me, there was a almost arcadey sensibility to the way that they designed the old maps that I found like played into, like I said, like stunt ramps left, right and center, and like sort of more overblown ways to like experiment with the vehicles that I thought GTA 5's more, like I said, realistic, quote unquote realistic take on LA or whatever just didn't like click for me. But I don't know, I'm curious what the hell they do, because it's like at this point GTA 5 is still the biggest, it's the biggest selling entertainment property in the world. You know, GTA 5 has like sold more than ever or whatever, and it's like, well, where do they go from here? Like, Dan Houser has left Rockstar, their lead creative writer, so it's like, you know, do they sort of rein stuff in and do like a more focused thing? Was he the guy that wanted to do big overblown? Red Dead 2 was like this crazy over the top thing. You know, do they sort of bring it back in again, or do you just keep going bigger and bigger? Like, for me, I would rather they brought it in and went a bit more old school and had a map that I can, like I said, memorize inside out, play into, like I said, the more overblown stuff, and then play into the variety that you get from jungle to city to, you know, flying between different places and things like that.
It's going to be fascinating, man. Like, this is going to be such a turning point for the series, regardless of whether or not this map is true, in my opinion. Because like you said, it's been, how many years now? Every single year, every single time we do news, it feels like a different year. But I think it's been,
well,
what, 7 years?
Since GTA 5, yeah.
7 since GTA 5, and this game is nowhere near in sight. I think some of the previous rumors that we heard, like, only suggested that it's still in pre-production and not full production yet, which means it's going to be quite a ways off. But yeah, like you said, with the amount of personnel, key personnel that have left Rockstar over the past few years, even over the past few months, like, this is going to be a very different Rockstar making the next game, and presumably with very different design principles. You know, the success of GTA Online isn't going to go unnoticed, because that's what made GTA 5 like just this behemoth that refuses to go away, for better or worse. That's going to have a huge impact on how the next game is designed. Hopefully, you know, without Dan Houser, we still managed to retain that story-driven single-player focus that gets a lot of people into these games, and it's not entirely sacrificed for an online experience. But like, I'm just fascinated. I'm fascinated to see when they're going to actually announce it. I'm fascinated to see how they're going to try and top GTA 5, because we've gone an entire generation, which is absolute madness. Without a Grand Theft Auto game, yeah, we had the remaster, and it only came a few months before the next-gen consoles, but it's crazy. It's so crazy, in fact, that something outside has started jackhammering away. Like, that's how crazy this news is.
That's the GTA rumors knocking on the door. It's like, talk about the fact that it could be real. I think, yeah, I mean, Rockstar in general, like, you know, they did Red Dead Redemption 2 the entire generation. They bought more people as well. They just bought a Crackdown 2 studio to sort of become like Rockstar, and it was another location name. So they're really getting bigger, but it's like, so far right now they're putting all their resources into GTA Online, but assumedly alongside that they've been building this other thing. The Project America's leak said that you know, GTA 6 has been in development since 2012, at least in regards to planning what they would do after GTA 5, and all this stuff seems to line up. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you like the idea of returning to Vice City, and would you take on this sort of Narcos-infused drug empire building version of GTA? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time. Josh, my friend, another day, another GTA 6 conversation. This comes from an official patent filed by Take-Two that seems to relate to GTA 6. It was invented by Rockstar's Associate Director of Technology, David Hind, and lead AI programmer, Simon Parr. It was noticed over on Reddit by Element Number 28, and was wrote up by Games Radar. And it seems to be that the patent overall focuses on the idea of expanding NPC AI, and the way you interact with them, the way they also react to whatever you're doing, whether that's a shootout, a high-speed chase, or whatever, and just making the world seem, I guess, more realistic, which is one of the only directions I think Rockstar could go at this point, like flesh out the NPC stuff when everything else is so like laboriously detailed. So inside the patent, you know, they sort of talk about AI. Take-Two mention as part of this patent that the AI that exists in GTA right now is deficient, and they want to do a bit more with it. They want to create a realistic virtual world that is not limited by hardware or software limitations. And then part of that, and this is sort of semi-translated by Games Radar's write-up, because if you go into the patent, it's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of referring to roads and islands in the game as nodes, and then saying that, you know, when node A is being accessed, this will happen and whatever. But according to Games Radar, you know, they were saying that the patent focuses on the ways in which in-game NPCs move around and react to their environment. The overall point being that there'd be different types of NPC AI, and you'd have a far bigger pool of overall characteristics for NPCs. The examples that they gave are, you know, if there was someone driving like a sports car with the top down, they'd be flying through the city, versus if there was like a delivery driver or someone in a van or something, they'd be a lot more cautious, fleshing out that side of things, alongside them reacting to high-speed chases, or maybe they would all just avoid a certain part of the city if you were doing like a big old shootout or something like that. What do you think of Rockstar taking it in that direction?
Scott Telford, right? Again, not to make yet another What Culture Gaming video about Cyberpunk, but I was watching the Croby Cat video last night about, you know, obviously it was diving into the glitches and stuff like that, but what intrigued me the most was the comparison between Grand Theft Auto's world and how it reacts to you, and how lifeless kind of like Cyberpunk's is, and having seen how you can create an open world that doesn't really react to you and doesn't feel believable in how the pedestrians react. It made me appreciate Rockstar's games that much more. Like GTA 5 still holds up in terms of its interactivity and how traffic works, and how, you know, each individual NPC has its own little you know, mini life or whatever. So to see that fleshed out even more, that, like, I love Rockstar's worlds because they are believable and I feel immersed in them, and I feel like they have a great sense of place. And these little details, while they might not make, you know, the big press events, or they might not be put on the back of the box like, I don't know, the addition of a jetpack would, for instance, I do think that they're integral in innovating on what the studio has already established in their previous titles, and just growing that for the next generation, like they say. Like, it might sound silly, but the fact that you could bring more character to a city by having someone in a convertible flying around, compared to, you know, delivery drivers being more careful and sticking to their routes more, like, it does add to the lifelike unpredictability of the setting you're in. And I lap that stuff up, man. Like, I really enjoy all of those little details in these games, and it makes me appreciate, like I said, just makes me appreciate them so much more. So the fact that in a world where everyone's moving towards multiplayer, everyone's moving towards live service, I like that Rockstar and Take-Two's focus, at least in part, seems to be on making, you know, these worlds believable, making them as most detailed as possible, and we're not losing that element.
I'll tell you what's really weird, because like Hitman 3 is out very soon. I think by the time this video goes live, our review will be up, so please check that out. But
I've been replaying Hitman 1 and 2 in prep for this, and I would honestly say that I've had better GTA-style experiences messing around in Hitman than I have GTA 5 was in 2013 anyway, but in terms of the last few years, or in terms of just giving you a play space full of AI that will react to everything that you're doing. I just remember going hog wild postal in the original Hitman, picking up a fire axe and just chasing down my target, just being this insane, I'm a silent assassin. If you kill everybody, it's still silent. And but my point being that all the AI in those, clockwork mechanism levels, all those overlapping AI scripts and everything, results in people running for their lives. Some people will try and return fire to you. Like there's loads of different variations on NPC dialogue that will come out, and it feels like you're poking and prodding at this, specific set of like coding that's going to react to you and give you memorable moments and dynamic interactions and things like that. Stuff that is in GTA and has been in GTA 5, but I feel like if they really went down this route, the idea of you're in the middle of a cop chase and some random dude with his hair slicked back with his top down and his like fake Porsche just comes flying in and takes out the guy that's in front of you, or there's like some roadworks going on, there's some guy trying to deliver a package or something, and that also gets in the way. It's a level of city-based dynamism that I feel like they've kind of always hinted at, but it's the next level for that. Maybe.
No, I mean, Rockstar's games, they've always excelled in their story-driven approach, their scripted sequences and stuff like that. But it's also, undeniable that a huge part of the appeal to some is just having this reactive world and indulging in that emergent gameplay, the anarchy of just, like you said, going into these streets and just going absolute ham with a rocket launcher or a fast car, piling things up, exploding them and stuff like that. It's obviously not going to be Just Cause level, but the difference between a Just Cause and a GTA is, in my eyes, how the world reacts to what you're doing. So the fact that you could have those scenarios, those unpredictable scenarios where you get into an action set piece that looks scripted but just isn't, and it's just how the NPC AI and the police AI have kind of adapted to what you're doing. Like all of that stuff is so incredibly appealing to a huge number of the player base, and you can argue that you might have lost that with Grand Theft Auto 4 a little bit, but I think Grand Theft Auto 5 was a sort of course correction and a kind of admission that, okay, we can do our story-driven stuff, we can do our character-based stuff, but also we need to make sure we have this great sandbox that feels fun to mess around in.
One thing to mention as well, because it's in that big blurb at the bottom of the patent when they're talking about all these different applications of this new AI, and they just refer to a lot of things as nodes, like being on the road nodes, and then they talk about island nodes, and I've seen a few people sort of run with that like the idea that GTA 6 takes place across multiple islands, which we kind of know because they had that leaked map, so there's that idea too, but sort of putting those things together, I assume that you would get certain parts of certain islands, or maybe entire islands where people literally drive differently, like you would have a certain, well-off district where everybody's in sports cars and they're all flying around, and having a cop chase or doing something in that area would feel different than doing it somewhere else. I don't know, like I said, it's a level of interaction with the AI in GTA that I've just never really thought about. I sort of treat all of the AI in GTA as the same. Like, I'm going to be able to steal this car, I'm going to be able to go and fly through this area. Like, if you start mixing with that, then that's like a core overhaul that I'd probably welcome.
100% is what I was trying to say there. I mean, across GTA and even like stuff like Mafia, I think one of the biggest strengths has always been the distinctive nature of the different parts of the map. For instance, in GTA 5, going from the dense cityscape up to the northern area, which is far more, deserty, I guess. And even the differences in the design of the police cars, like between the different parts of the map, like all of that stuff to me really cemented my feeling that I was in this big place. Yeah, in terms of, actual play space, it might not be as big as some of the biggest open world games, but the variety in there, it felt like you were coming out of a city and going to a different location, you know what I mean? So if we're going into this next game, where you have a bunch of different islands, a bunch of different cities perhaps, like making sure each one feels distinct, not only in the way it looks, but in how the people occupying those areas and the population reacts to you, reacts to the world itself. Like, that's important in selling the different personalities, the different characteristics of these different locations. And I mean, if you look at something like Mafia 3, for instance, like the way that handled police was really fascinating, because if you were, in theory, if you were in the more affluent areas, the cops would be absolutely on your ass. But if you were in the poorer areas in that game, you wouldn't have that fast response. So little things like that, they make a huge impact. In the case of Mafia 3, obviously that was a game about like racism and about like how the police respond to you as a black character and stuff. So that really drove home the thematics there, and you could do something similar with the different districts in GTA 6 by boosting the NPC behavior, by boosting how police work, by boosting the complexity of the AI systems in it.
Well, because that was one of the things that like Red Dead 2 was sort of, I think it was on Kotaku, they did a write-up on like how sort of static it can feel. It can feel like you're walking through like a theater production, and that everything is going to trigger for you the first time you walk through a certain, street or whatever. You're only going to see those things once. Like, the very first time that you go into Valentine and you see everybody working on different DIY projects or taking care of their horse, or someone's getting kicked out the saloon or whatever. That idea of these sort of like half-scripted, half-open world segments that are triggering as you walk past them. That's something that Hitman's done loads of too as well. But if they can kind of bridge that gap and give all those AI separate scripts that would generate based on all sorts of different things, like what other members of the NPCs are doing or what you're doing and things like that. I don't know. I look forward to seeing what they could do, considering how much of a mess Cyberpunk is in. It's only made me look back at Rockstar stuff, Red Dead 2, GTA 5, and go, oh my god, they actually pulled off this thing that is increasingly seems like a miracle. The fact that just, I don't know, the state that Cyber's in compared to how proficient and ridiculously perfect Red Dead 2 is on a technical level, you would hope that if anyone's going to be able to do this, it will be Rockstar. So yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below of the idea of GTA 6 overhauling its NPC AI, and what else do you want to see from GTA 6 overall? Joshua friend, it's been a good few months, which means it's time for another GTA 6 thing. Now this one actually comes from someone who's a bit more reputable in the industry, one Tom Henderson. Dude who's responsible for a lot of Call of Duty, a lot of Battlefield leaks. He got out there ahead of Battlefield 2042 and said that was coming, got out there ahead of Call of Duty World War II, said that Sledgehammer were going to be the developers on this year's Call of Duty. Dude has a lot of history of getting things right when it comes to leakers, so whoever he's been talking to seems like they know some stuff. And the recent update from him is something completely different. He dove into a bunch of GTA 6 stuff. Let's just break these down. I've sort of crunched this stuff down to 4 main points. The first one being that the game's map is actually going to be set, it's a modern setting with an evolving map. Now, there are comparisons to Fortnite made here. The idea being that the map itself will change over time. A whole bunch of DLCs, a whole bunch of add-ons will change it because Rockstar are very much factoring in the popularity of GTA Online. They want to make sure they have as much freedom as possible in regards to adding all sorts of different things to it over time. So it's not going to be set in the 80s. There's Vice City stuff is mentioned in here too. That Vice City will come to the game at some point in the future. So I wonder if the overall map is actually just going to be their take on Miami, like a wider chunk of Miami, because we've had that whole other leak of different portions in between cities being in there, more countryside stuff, and maybe they'll just add Vice City itself over time. What do you think of this madness?
Funnily enough, Scott Telford, we've talked a lot about GTA 6 on this channel, and specifically Vice City, and I feel like my opinions on what I want this game to be has evolved the further away we get from GTA 5. Like, initially, I was all here for an 80s-inspired return to Vice City, but that said, I've kind of already had that. Vice City, the PlayStation 2 game, is my favorite of that era, so if they're going to go back to Vice City, I don't just want them to retread what they've previously done, so to adapt that and to see how it has been updated in the 3 decades or whatever it is since that game was set, that sounds cool. Like, I think we've talked about it before, like the idea of updating it, seeing what's changed, seeing what's being built, seeing how Rockstar might expand upon it, and then, like you said, make it this evolving thing that you can plug things into later. Like, I am here for that because, for as much as I love these maps, and for as much as Rockstar returns to these maps, I do like it when they do it through a different perspective or through a different lens. We saw San Andreas, that was set in the 90s, and we got GTA 5, which was, that blown out to a much bigger level in the modern day. So I'm here for that with Vice City. Like, that's something that makes sense, it's not surprising, and has turned up in a few other leagues, but is something that I think feels like a natural progression.
Yeah, the whole idea of like doing the modern day setting and like doing a modern day take on Vice City ostensibly, or a modern day take on their version of Miami, that stuff sounds cool. The evolving map thing and the Fortnite comparisons, I think are going to make people run for the hills, because for the longest time it was, what's that divide between mainline GTA before GTA Online became a thing, which only came in GTA 4 and was obviously maximized in GTA 5. But it's that whole
thing of how much of the developers then focusing on the online aspects. There's a whole wing of the GTA fandom, including me, that doesn't give a hoot about GTA Online, that's only going to play the single player stuff. And so I'm not fearing for it yet. I'm not running for those hills, but I am curious about what their split is and whether they're designing a map that, maybe they plug in, they add some, new city-based content to it or whatever for the online mode, and you also have a single player story alongside that. Try and do it both simultaneously. That might be a way to tick both boxes at the same time.
Oh, dude, undeniably online is going to be a huge component of this. This game is getting built around that. There's just no way that's not going to happen. I don't necessarily want that. I still think they will focus heavily on single player because, like you say, that's a reason why it makes so much money, like, in the first few weeks. But online is why it makes so much money, like, 7 years after it came out. That's what gives it the legs. That's what gives it the longevity. And this idea of an evolving world, if you look at something like Fortnite, you don't want that to be brought over directly to GTA and have it dominate GTA Online. That said, Rockstar have been focusing on evolving worlds over their past few releases. You look at Red Dead Redemption 2, you wouldn't class that as an evolving world. But as you move through time in that game, you can see the world evolve around you. There are some buildings that are under construction and then they're fully formed when you get to, like, the epilogue, for instance. So if they treat it similar to that, but on a bigger scale, I think that would be really cool to just showcase the passage of time, keep the online suite interesting with new add-ons. Like when they opened the casino finally in GTA 5 Online, if they can do more stuff like that, have it feel natural and have it feel distinctly Rockstar, I don't think it's an issue. In fact, I think it would be quite good. It is only when they take if they did take the direct Fortnite approach of, oh, hey, there's been a nuclear bomb, the entire place has changed, we're going back in time, there's zombies, that stuff is when it starts getting dumb.
It's Claude, it's Tommy, it's CJ, they're all coming through the wormholes.
There's been a wormhole.
Just watch out for it.
I do want to do that, but yeah, sorry, go on.
No, the next big point is that it's actually, in very early stages of development, and the release date is pegged for 2024 to 2025. Now, the reason for this, actually, I'll get onto some other stuff because there's some platform stuff as well. But I will throw in another point alongside this, which is that they are going to do multiple protagonists again, like in GTA 5, with one of them being female, and the female character will be responsible for technology and hacking. And so they'll be sort of the brains of the operation. But Henderson doesn't mention whether that's a gameplay ability, because I kind of half forgot that GTA 5, the main characters have abilities. Like Michael has the slow motion aiming, Trevor has the rage mode, and Franklin has the driving stuff where you can turn tighter, like Need for Speed style. And I kind of wonder if they'll bring that in. But yeah, they're going to bring back the whole idea of multiple protagonists across the story, and they're going to do the GTA female protagonist. Let's freak out, sound the klaxon. It's been a long time coming.
Totally. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of the multiple protagonist kind of approach that GTA 5 took. Yeah, I love it too. Like, I thought it was really cool. I thought it shook things up. I thought you got a bunch of different personalities in there. I think as long as the personalities and characters are well written, which in my opinion they were in GTA 5, they were at least very interesting and I enjoyed spending time with them. Like, that's cool. I think that's really interesting. Yeah, like you say, having a female protagonist in there, that does seem long overdue. I think that will add an interesting dynamic. And hopefully, as long as all of these characters and the mechanical approach to how you can switch between them is similarly ingrained in the structure of the game, like it was in GTA 5, where you controlled different people for different missions, different periods of times, and stuff like that. I think if you can expand upon that, you can get this. You can cast a wide net. Essentially, you can by having multiple different protagonists and characters and anti-heroes, appeal to every single GTA player, like they tried with GTA 5. And yeah, ultimately, I feel like, as much as I like the single protagonist in Grand Theft Auto, 5 kind of opened my eyes a little bit to this new world in a way.
And just for me, it's like you can do really cool things with it. Like I love the idea of someone being like an undercover cop, or like a Fast and the Furious Point Break style, where someone is maybe trying to help the mob or trying to help the gangsters out whilst they're being a police officer as well, and you can jump between them maybe during a car chase, things like that. I wish they would flesh more of like the opportunities out. Like there was that one mission in GTA 5 where you were going into the skyscraper and you were switching between people as you were all infiltrating at the same time, and I want them to do way more stuff like that. What do you think of them waiting? It'll be over a decade if the 2024-2025 release date is true. What do you think of that?
That's what I expect at this point, Scott Tilford. When there were rumors that it might come out in 2020, it might be announced in 2019. Like, I used to get quite perhaps naively excited for that and buy into them, where at this point it's just the reality is that's not going to come for at least a good few years now, and they don't need it. I think Tom Henderson even says in his video, like, GTA Online still makes so much money. Grand Theft Auto 5 as a game still sells really well. They don't need this yet.
Outsells brand new games every
it does,
single day.
literally does. Always cracks back into the top 10 somehow. And lest we forget, Scott, we've got that bloody GTA 5 remaster coming to next-gen consoles at the end of this year. So that's going to expand its lifespan even more. So yeah, I don't expect this thing for a long time. And then you look at Rockstar's history, you know, they had all of the teams working on Red Dead Redemption 2, which shipped in 2018. They were originally working on Bully 2, but that was cancelled so they could focus on Red Dead and then Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, they don't need it, and I hope when it comes out it will be big and expansive and hopefully worth the wait. And I think you know, I hope they don't tease it. I hope we don't get to 2024 and then they're like, yep, he's a trailer, it's coming out in 3 years. Like, don't, please.
Like, I wonder that, because Dan Houser left, like, that was, for me, that's there's two things. Like, one is, I said to you before we started recording, I don't buy that the entirety of Rockstar have only been working on GTA Online content, like, since 2013. Like, I mean, it's just, like, I know we got Red Dead Redemption 2, and that would have been an all hands on deck kind of thing at some point, or, you know, over time, but it's just, you've got so many people, you're Rockstar, you're humongous, and, like, the fact that they're only in early development now makes me think of the other thing, which is that I wonder how much Dan Houser's departure shook things up, because he'd be the guy that would be fighting for narrative investment, character drive, all the single player stuff, and just my headcanon for Rockstar and some of the stuff that I've read over the years, whatever, Sam Houser would be the guy going, we need to go down the multiplayer route and monetize everything and do that sort of thing. So I'm curious what the hell GTA 6 was, and I'm curious, like, for me, I think GTA 6 right now, because it says early in development, is a different thing than what it was over the last few years. I just think that they're now going to just steer full bore into GTA Online because the lead creative designer, who I should have just said before, Dan Houser is the dude who helped write pretty much every Rockstar game that you care about, just including all the GTAs, including Red Dead, everything else. So what do you think of, I guess, that split between the houses and like the Rockstar's company direction going forward?
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's like a question that keeps popping up, and it's one that I almost don't want to get too doom and gloomy about, because while obviously Dan Houser was a huge part... Mate. It is the season. While Dan Houser obviously was like the, you know, spearheading the writing of it, some of the creative direction, the story structure and characters and stuff like that, he still had a team. He still had a team of the writers, and, you know, I hope that even though his influence without his influence, they will still understand the importance of single player. They'll still understand the importance of, you know, interesting characters, the tone of Grand Theft Auto, and the fact that people do come here not just for the gameplay and the anarchy, but for the world, the detail, the stories that are in there that we still talk about to this day. I don't think you can completely lose that. I'm sure Online is going to get 100% more focus than it did last time round, but I feel like, you know, if they have a lackluster single player component, that will hurt them out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I still love, like, I love the older GTAs more when it was even more wacky kind of thing. I like you mentioned Vice City, like Vice City, San Andreas, like the two top tier ones for me. And so I kind of hope they can tap back into that Dan Houser style of writing. Like you said, he always did have a writing team. It was always 2 or 3 different people. But even Leslie Benzies was still there back then, and he's since left Rockstar. There was a whole thing. The final point though is platforms. It is on PS5 and Series X and PC only. Apparently this also ties into the release date, because apparently Rockstar want to wait until there's a time where the majority of people have the next-gen systems. They want to design something for those systems and make sure that people can actually get access to it. They're also prioritizing employee well-being after the Red Dead Redemption 2 crunch stuff, and they want to make sure that everybody is being taken care of going forward when they put the game together. And yeah, it just seems like they're kind of just taking their time. Like we mentioned the popularity of GTA 5 before, but yeah, Henderson does mention that, you know, hundreds of thousands of people play this game every day, and its sales numbers, it literally outsells brand new games every single day. So it's kind of ridiculous. They've, like, you know, Take-Two's Strauss Zelnick has talked about how it's this runaway behemoth that they didn't fully predict. Like, they knew it would be popular, but it's popular almost, these aren't his words, but it is almost popular to a fault. He has commented on the fact that it's such an insane runaway thing that, like, how do you phase it out? Do you try and transfer over to something else? What do you even do with it? Or do you just continually plug things in for the rest of time?
I mean, I remember like when I first started this job and we were talking about GTA Online and GTA 6 there, I remember he had a quote actually where he was talking about, at some point we're going to need to wind it down. We're going to need to give people time to miss Grand Theft Auto before we release the next one. And then about 2 years later, he was like, no, we don't need to do that. People love this game. We're making so much money. We're going to keep it on forever until 6 comes out. So yeah, I feel like, the other stuff you said in terms of the machines that it's coming out on, Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, I think it makes sense that, of course, it's going to be next gen only by the time 2023, 2024 rolls around. It'll future-proof them to no doubt make a version of it for the next gen that comes around in 2030 or whatever. And, the tidbit there about the well-being of the staff, I really hope that's right. I really hope that's true. Because, obviously there was the huge thing around Red Dead Redemption, but even before then, Rockstar's approach to 100-hour work weeks, or even if it's not that, pushing their staff to crunch and, really give everything to these games, whether it's Red Dead, whether it's GTA, whether it's Max Payne, whether it's whatever, that's well reported and well documented by then. So I hope that after all of those reports have come out, they have changed a few things around, and, at this point, I'm more than happy to wait a few extra years as long as the devs have a good time making it and can actually appreciate the product when it comes out.
Yeah. I think that's the whole side of it, where it's like the amount of money that GTA Online makes, like there is no rush. There is literally no rush whatsoever. There's obviously the whole fan side. There's obviously the reality of there being more than a decade before the next installment comes. I just wish they would do other stuff. Like it doesn't have to be this massive multi-year long thing where we get these huge releases that just feel really opulent and dripping in production quality. Just do little small things. Where's the Rockstar that just put their money into the Warriors? Like where's that? Just go find something and do little side projects and stuff. Like they have enough staff to be throwing them all at GTA Online. But Joshua friend, the biggest business acquisition in gaming history has just gone down, and it's not really a good thing. Turns out that GTA's parent company Take-Two have acquired mobile giant Zynga for $12.7 billion. It's proper little finger territory, left, right, and center. But like I said, it's the biggest gaming deal in the entertainment history, bigger than Microsoft buying Bethesda for $8.1 billion, and largely just marks the potential future for Take-Two, for GTA, for the likes of GTA 6 that is as yet unknown, but does come after the leaks pointing to GTA 6 having development hell. I want to mention a few of the things. One, Zynga are the people that you will already know from Farmville, Mafia Wars, Words with Friends, which I forgot was even a thing. But the statement from the acquisition is just, you can make your own thoughts up on what you think of this. But this is the official line saying that combining Zynga's expertise in mobile and next generation platforms with Take-Two's best-in-class capabilities and intellectual property will enable them to further advance their mission to connect the world through games while achieving significant growth and synergies together. Now, PR is a language.
Yeah, it certainly is, man. Like, you look at the kind of statements that have come from this deal, and you just kind of think that we are completely different, us people who play games and the people who are in charge of making the business deal that make those games.
What are you?
Well, this is the thing, man. Like, Take-Two obviously is the studio notorious for referring to their player base as whales, the people who are putting so much money into these games that they can essentially keep them afloat, because they're not just spending $60 on GTA 5. They're spending money month after month, day after day in GTA Online, and the success of GTA Online is pretty much, confirmed to this publisher that, like, box games are good. You can have Grand Theft Auto 4 sell mad numbers and make a business of that, but you can have the biggest entertainment property in the world that continues to make money for almost 10 years now. GTA 5 was still one of the best-selling games of all time last year, and that's not necessarily down to the quality of its single-player campaign. That's down to the longevity of GTA Online. So the idea of them buying into mobile in such a ridiculously large way here, for me, makes me worried about what the future of their biggest franchises are going to look like, because they're clearly all in on this monetized aspect and wanting these games to be as accessible as possible, which is a good thing. But only in as much as that makes them a lot of money because of it.
Well, so I do have other quotes. Now, I mentioned that I said the development hell of GTA 6 is ongoing. This comes from an account literally called Account NGT over on Twitter, who leaked Star Wars Eclipse before it was official, which meant a lot of people went back to that account going, what else have you got? And they said that, according to, in reference to GTA 6, some people don't realize how chaotic the development is. This also goes alongside French outlet Rockstar Mag, saying that there are big issues with the development of GTA 6, and apparently the team are struggling with Dan Houser leaving. Obviously, he was lead creative, he was lead writer on almost all the GTAs and the Red Dead Redemption. He's a big old deal inside Rockstar, and Dan Houser has left Rockstar, leaving the development of GTA 6 to be a bit of a mess. You mentioned, though, the likes of the success of GTA Online over time, and there is a hilarious quote from Strauss Zelnick, who is Take-Two's CEO, from back in 2018, saying that he was surprised by GTA Online's continued success, but did say that going forward, we intend to deliver the opportunity for people to stay engaged after release. That could be through multiplayer, or it could be through in-game engagement with in-game purchases. Now, if he's the head of Take-Two, and they're sinking $12.7 billion into a company that very much specializes in this stuff, I don't have the most rosy tinted glasses for Grand Theft Auto 6.
No, I mean, nor do I, man. Like, the more we hear about this game, of course I'm going to be excited because it's the next Grand Theft Auto game. But yeah, I think once Dan Houser left, that really did, in my mind, mark a turning point in Rockstar as a company because, for all of his problems, he was a creative driver of, like the narrative side of those games, the single player side of those games. And without that there, I just don't want to see GTA Online become all that franchise is, because that's the biggest way to make money, but it needs to have some kind of balance. So when I see an acquisition like this, I just see that balance kind of eroding away, especially with, the focus there on in-game purchases and stuff. And that to me does scare me a little bit.
Do you think, because if you were Rockstar and you've lost your lead creative, the guy that literally helped birth GTA over time and is responsible for some of the biggest releases in that franchise's history, how do you even approach GTA? Is it old school GTA, which they kind of lent on for the definitive edition? Obviously that thing was plagued by technical problems, but went down, was such a divisive release. Obviously it was a massive on fire mess, but you did get some people on social media just happy they were going back to old school GTA. Or do you try and ape the stuff that Houser was doing over the time, the more stylish stuff from GTA 4, or the more anarchic craziness from GTA 5?
Well, this is the thing. I am so pleased that I am personally not making GTA 6 because that might be one of the most coveted jobs in the entire world. But if you think about it for a bit, even taking this acquisition out of the question for a second, you're following up the biggest entertainment thing of all time that is still making money. You're going into this, creating something that's going to be in this huge shadow. And it's just I wouldn't know which direction to take it. Would you follow the money and focus more online in a multiplayer? Or would you try to go back to its roots and create something that is, single player focused and try to essentially hit the exact same vein that GTA 5 did and hope that lightning strikes twice 10 years apart. I go to bed so pleased I'm not the one making those decisions, to be honest with you.
No, I know, like you said, it's the most coveted design position in the industry, but at the same time, the more stories come out about the reality of what it's like trying to make a game on that scale, the amount of moving parts, and the likes of something like Cyberpunk or whatever. Like you said, I wouldn't want to be the person trying to be the next Dan Houser. Like the Houser brothers, the run that they had. Obviously, Sam Houser's still there, so he can sort of largely go, that's not what we used to do, we should do this instead. But I think overall, you think about where Rockstar are at right now, and they haven't been satisfying for a long time. We mentioned GTA 5 in 2013, it was remastered in 2014, GTA Online, Red Dead Redemption 2, even Red Dead 2, it was 25% of people got through it or whatever, and I know that those 25% of people had a lovely old time, but I just feel like overall, you compare that to the absolute manic energy that surrounded that company across the 2000s, and it's almost night and day.
I mean, I agree with you in part because I think that the games they have released over the past decade or so have still been stellar. I'm a big fan of GTA 5. I played GTA Online for a long time. Max Payne 3, obviously awesome. Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of my favorite games just ever made. So it's not necessarily the quality of the games themselves that I'm worried about. It's just, like you said, these behind the scenes issues that have clearly compounded things with the production of the games because they've released barely anything over the past decade. The games have been good, but like you said, we had GTA 5 5, we had its remaster, we had Red Dead Redemption 2, whereas, you know, a decade prior, we were getting L.A. Noire, we were getting Max Payne 3, we were getting GTA 4, we were getting a lot of different stuff and a lot quicker. And maybe that's just like the face of game development, maybe that's just the reality of making these games now. But with the absence of GTA 6, you kind of have, and the, you know, exit of Dan Houser, you have to think that something is going on behind the scenes with these companies. I mean, it was only the other day that there was the big, I think it was the Game Informer expose about Bully 2 in the late 2000s, you know, and that kind of seems to have been the start of these development issues where games like that would just not get a look in because they were focusing on Red Dead Redemption and, you know, the like.
No, and that's absolutely. I think, I mean, part of that will be because of the direction that Dan Houser took the company in. Like, no other company, maybe in the rest of human history, will ever make a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 that is almost has such an indie creative soul, but is, you know, big budget, AAA, over the top, opulent AF. I think that's what makes them so special. But when he goes away, it's like, how do you fill that void? You have your parent company making all these moves towards microtransactions and mobile gaming, which also means NFTs galore. So look forward to GTA NFTs at some point. But let us know what you think down in the comments below of $12.7 billion being spent by GTA's parent company to acquire a whole bunch of mobile games and assets and everything going forward.
It is finally officially confirmed. The world stood still when Rockstar finally confirmed that Grand Theft Auto 6 is in active development. It's something that we've known about arguably since 2013, as of course there'd always be more Grand Theft Auto. And Take-Two's Strauss Zelnick confirmed another installment a couple of years back in an earnings call. However, now we have official word from Rockstar themselves, and honestly, there's a lot to break down. Because the Rockstar of today aren't even remotely the same company as back in the day, or even a few years back when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. I'll talk about why as we go, but suffice it to say there's a lot more concrete info out there about GTA 6 once you start looking than you might think. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is GTA 6, everything we know so far. Number 8, the release date. 2023 or 2024. Yes, that's the window Rockstar are shooting for. Take-Two's own 10K SEC filing from 2020 laid out financial plans for the next 5 years. In it, the team said they plan to spend $89 million on marketing between April 2023 and March 2024. That huge spike is surely down to GTA 6, whether it's the actual release date or just a big old marketing push to make sure you know the game is then coming soon. Even if it isn't, you'll still be waiting a good while to get your mitts on GTA 6 from now. Rockstar will want to take their time over this game. They were wounded by complaints around those terrible definitive editions of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. Those titles received a lot of backlash, and the devs will not want a round 2. Console shortages for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS are also bound to have some impact on development. Rockstar won't be keen to push a product out the door that's not widely available to everybody who fancies playing, to put it one way. Patience sucks, but it's unavoidable in this case. Number 7, development restarted in 2021. Rockstar have a long road of development ahead. Rumors popped up late 2021 suggesting that Grand Theft Auto 6 was in development hell. That was not news that we wanted to hear, but there's more to the story than first appears. Former Vice President of Creativity Dan Houser left Rockstar behind in 2020, and that kickstarted all sorts of scuttlebutt. The truth is that Rockstar will plow on without Houser. His brother Sam is still with the company, and go forwards with GTA 6. There's a lot of cash on the table. One person leaving, no matter how important, was never going to totally derail the next Grand Theft Auto, but Dan's signature style was fundamental to the franchise from day one, and it's something to be mindful of. Rockstar as a team reignited on development across 2021. It might put them slightly behind schedule when it comes to announcing things like trailers, nailed on release dates, etc., but also maybe not. It is, however, known that Dan took an extended break from working in 2019 before departing the following year, leaving notes and frameworks for what the next Grand Theft Auto could be before departing altogether. Number 6, the first Grand Theft Auto without Dan Houser. Dan Houser was the lead creative mind for this series, so it's a massive deal that he's no longer around for Part 6. It's also notable that the development cycle was restarted. This wording hints that others remaining at Rockstar have scrapped what Houser was working on and plan a whole new different direction. Indeed, GTA 6 could be very different to GTA 5, something I will get into very soon. Tonally, Rockstar's controversial franchise has always been one to spit in the face of authority and wear rebellion proudly. The world at large has changed a hell of a lot since GTA 5 launched in 2013, and that could have some bearing on how 6's story, characters, and overarching world plays out. There is intense speculation from many that GTA 6 will be the first grown-up Grand Theft Auto game yet, although 4 did get pretty close. It's logical to believe that changes will be made. Dan Houser's fingerprints were all over Grand Theft Auto to this point, and he's just no longer around. Something has to change. Number 5, it's current gen only. PS5 and Xbox Series XS life cycles will be approximately mid-term by the time GTA 6 releases. That's why, regrettably for those struggling to get their hands on new hardware, Rockstar's full focus will be on current gen tech, rather than PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. This makes sense. The previous generation's memory capabilities probably won't lend themselves to GTA 6's full ambitions. That's why GTA 6 will be exclusive to the latest consoles and PC. You just won't be firing up the next Rockstar epic on your PS4 Pro. For now, just know that GTA 6 is going to hammer PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. The devs want this to be the biggest and best GTA experience yet, and they'll only be able to achieve their sandbox dreams on the latest systems. Number 4, GTA 6 will pull from Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 was the most mature Rockstar production yet. Sure, Arthur Morgan's outlaw tale still had its comedic moments, and the developers may never totally veer away from the ridiculous, but it was a much grittier experience than GTA 5. Rockstar will likely pull some elements from this western epic for use in GTA 6. One essential idea they're reportedly bringing over is the ability to store your weapons in the trunk of vehicles when cruising around the map. That would be similar to the horse mechanic Arthur enjoyed in Red Dead, and it sounds like the kind of thing Rockstar would port over for convenience, especially if the map is giant. Another element being considered is overall pacing. Red Dead Redemption 2 was slower and much more measured with its big action set pieces than most Rockstar games. So don't be totally shocked if the next Grand Theft Auto follows suit by easing up on the accelerator so that crucial story beats have more room to breathe. Number 3, it's set in America. Turns out we were almost playing Grand Theft Auto Tokyo a few years back. Yes, in 2016 it was revealed that Rockstar were considering Japan's capital city as a possible location for Part 6. That idea was scrapped following some early pre-production photo shoots in and around Tokyo that revealed the overall layout for streets and potential connective pathways just wouldn't line up with the level of car chases and carnage Rockstar want GTA to have. Since then, a lot has been said about a return to Vice City instead, with various leaked maps, graphics, and blocked insider breakdowns nigh on making this what we're getting. Nothing is set in stone officially, but GTA 6 will take place somewhere in the United States. The much-discussed Project America's leak also pointed to a game spread across many different locations as part of a drug smuggling story, and that feels like the perfect way to get back to Rockstar's take on the underbelly of Miami. Number 2, single player remains the focus. Anybody worried about Grand Theft Auto Online becoming Rockstar's main concern should sleep easy. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick said in a Q3 2021 conference call that creating powerful single-player experiences was always going to be the core goal for GTA's development. Zelnick spoke of strong story-driven narratives and pointed out that Grand Theft Auto's 3D titles have always hinged on crafting immersive worlds full of interesting characters. That's not about to change just because they're raking it in with GTA Online. He since followed up at an earnings call in 2022 after GTA 6 was officially confirmed, saying there was a time when a couple of our competitors were taking the position that single player was dead. We never took that position. We know that there's a role for single player. I believe there will be a role going forward. Zelnick is of course referencing the EA of the early 2010s, and went on to say that there are certain games that are meant to be only multiplayer. Rockstar is known for storytelling, and yes, Rockstar is also known for these fantastic open world multiplayer experiences. They clearly both do really well. Strauss highlighted GTA Online's The Contract story mission as a hybrid of their two design ethoses, which would be an interesting way for GTA 6 to feel as a game overall, but it's clear Zelnick and Rockstar are more than aware of what people want. And number 1, GTA Online. Over the years, Take-Two Strauss Zelnick has repeatedly talked about how surprised he and the team have been over GTA Online's insanely consistent success. Latest sales figures at time of recording are 160 million units just for GTA 5, beating the entire history of Final Fantasy installments combined. Zelnick has told various outlets that Online will always bring in the dough now it's a proven platform, but they're keen to push things along by upping the ante in GTA 6. Again, citing expansion The Contract, Zelnick noted that consumers are really excited about Rockstar's storytelling ability, and at the same time we had a great quarter with Grand Theft Auto Online. There's a lot of excitement there, so the answer is all of the above. The split of single-player GTA and GTA Online has been a hot topic amongst gamers for years. Grand Theft Auto 5 is about to launch on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS as an enhanced update on the old PlayStation 4 and Xbox One releases from 2014. With that game being refurbished versions of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions from 2013. Rockstar are clearly ready to modernize GTA Online's functionality in GTA 6 while bringing that base package to PS5 and Xbox Series X. Expect more hybrid approaches like The Contract and a driving ethos that attempts to deliver story alongside online connectivity and integration. Can Rockstar pull that off, especially without Dan Houser? Who knows? I mean, it's gonna sell tens of millions regardless. And that's everything we know about Grand Theft Auto 6 right now.
Josh, my friend, another day, another GTA 6 thing, but this one is far more substantial than usual as Bloomberg's Jason Schreier has got out there with a report on what's going down at Rockstar, including various details of what's happening with GTA 6 itself. Now, there's a lot of stuff to break down here. The working title for the game is Project Americas, which if you're following Grand Theft Auto 6 leaks, you'll know that thing surfaced back in 2019. So to quickly dive onto that, the leak from 2019 did say that there would be multiple protagonists, that it would be set across multiple time periods, that the game would be heavily inspired by Narcos, and it would have you building a criminal empire over time. Just to keep that in mind as we get into everything else. Back to the Bloomberg report in terms of what's now confirmed, we are returning to a fictional Miami, which is almost guaranteed the Vice City itself. With additional locations to be added over time. Now, this has apparently been done to address the crunch stuff that came out after Red Dead Redemption 2 and the quote-unquote 100-hour weeks that some members of the team were doing, and they want to make sure that the game is handled a hell of a lot better for Grand Theft Auto 6, nailing a main location and then including various side locations, and then adding stuff over time. That's apparently been put in place because of what happened with Red Dead 2. The original idea, though, was apparently for a much larger game with bigger swaths of North and South America, which, if you kind of parallel it with the 2019 stuff that I just mentioned, you could assume that they would have had various other landscapes and places to go over different time periods, and that's been scaled down to make sure that the workforce, that it's actually doable. It's not some insane 100-hour behemoth of a thing. What do you think of all this so far? And I'll give you more in a bit.
Scott, it's just like initially very strange to have as close to official confirmation about GTA 6 details as we're ever going to get until Rockstar actually confirm it. You know, obviously, like you said, from Bloomberg, from Jason Schreier, all of this is more than just kind of like a random leak on 4chan, but it is interesting that it does, like you said, corroborate some of the other leaks that we have covered, you know, the Project America stuff. For me, it's fascinating going back to Vice City itself. You know, I was always tantalized by the idea of having this kind of much bigger continent, essentially, to explore. You know, you're going to a bunch of different cities, but I understand going into the report why they have scaled it back. And it still will be exciting to get Vice City or, you know, the wider Miami area at launch, and then have things be plugged in after the fact. That should give it legs in a way that GTA 5 didn't have when it came to the map, you know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they've always talked about the idea of, you know, what do you do with the future of GTA Online, and maybe you try and twin that with the single player by making sure that our mission packs and story packs and whatever, you know, plugged into the city, so the single player side of things is satisfying, and then also have the GTA Online also, you know, making sure that space of land first day back after a week is gets bigger over time. But to go back to the character stuff, the Bloomberg report mentions that there are two main characters in a story that is heavily inspired by Bonnie and Clyde.
I love this.
I thought Bonnie and Clyde was that movie where they're in the car and they go over the hill. And that's that's a Ridley Scott movie.
That's Thelma and Louise.
It's Thelma and Louise. So Bonnie and Clyde was an actual couple in real life. They were, you know, stole from banks and did lots of stuff first day back after a week. And so one of the characters is a female Latina, which is funny because it reminded me of the rumor from 7 years ago that Eva Mendes was going to be in GTA 6. Now that's nothing is mentioned in regards to Eva Mendes, but there was a rumor doing the rounds back in, I think the earliest spot of it was like 2014 or something. That Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes were going to be two characters in GTA 6. Now, if that happens, I'm calling it right now, /7 years ago.
Like, if they do that, I don't want Eva Mendes and Ryan Gosling playing characters. I want to be fictionalized versions of themselves. You know, and then in this universe, in the GTA universe, Ryan Gosling is a criminal mastermind. You're going from bank to bank. I like that idea.
A guy with more than one facial expression. I mean,
Stop it, he's really good. He's a really good actor.
The Grey Man's terrible, mate.
Yeah, but you know, everyone's made bad movies. He's made some excellent movies. He's great.
He was alright in that one, the Blade Runner. He was alright in Blade Runner. I can't. We've got an extra wall now. I can't get out. I'm stuck here. But yes, 2 main characters. The idea being that you play as a couple, essentially, because it's heavily inspired by Bonnie and Clyde. So I'm guessing that's how they bring across all the bank heist stuff from GTA 5, and then center it on a more, I guess, more of a specific relationship between 2 main characters, rather than jumping around the 3 or the 4. Because there were 4 characters mentioned in the Project Americas leak back in 2019. The release date is the interesting thing, because in regards to the amount of crunch that's been going on at Rockstar, they at the minute have GTA 6 penciled in for 2024. However, it's Take-Two's financial year 2024, which could be as early as April 2023, going through to 2024. However, the Bloomberg report mentions that in speaking to the various developers, because so much of the game's production has been relaxed and how much of it has been, you can take time now. You don't have to crunch. You don't have to be up against the wall with this kind of thing. They're quite skeptical about hitting that date. And they do mention that the game has been in production since 2014, and that some developers have left the project because so many years have passed and no meaningful progress has been made. But that's where we're at with GTA 6. Vice City stuff, potentially Eva Mendes stuff in 2024.
Dude, it's exciting. First of all, I don't think it will hit that date, certainly not early 2023, but I'm fine with that. Like you said, the culture within Rockstar seems to be improving, and while I'm eager for another Grand Theft Auto game, I want it to have like a big rollout. I want it to have the time it needs to feel like a proper spectacle. There's going to be some ridiculous expectations on that game when it releases, 10 plus years at the earliest from Grand Theft Auto 5. So yeah, as long as they are able to realize their vision, that's exciting. I love the idea of having 2 main characters that are this Bonnie and Clyde style setup, going across the city, going across these areas, and robbing banks, doing crime, all of that stuff.
Taking a car over a hill.
Yeah, for me, that's how you drive the car. I've never driven a car. It's probably how you do it. For me, one of the most interesting things about GTA 5, right?
Yes.
Was the family drama between Michael and his terrible family. I love the stuff between him and his wife, him and his kid. Sometimes it got ridiculous, but I like the kind of criminals as family approach. It's why I love The Sopranos. It's why I really like Michael's story in GTA 5. And if they can do something similar where you have this odd couple, mixing business and pleasure and, romance and all of that stuff, to me that sounds neat.
Well, I mean, my mind went into the likes of Breaking Bad, for example, like that whole idea of like one member of the family getting carried away doing stuff and bringing those things in. And there was an interview with Dan Houser back in, I think it was 2015, and the idea of a female protagonist in GTA, and he said he was always up for it, but it was just the idea of making sure they tell the right story and making sure that they do right by, the idea of putting a female into GTA. Kazaki also did a write-up saying that, female protagonists have been in Grand Theft Auto since the original game. Right. It's just that we hardly ever talk about it because hardly anyone ever, plays Grand Theft Auto 1 today, but there were 4 main characters, female characters in the original Grand Theft Auto, which they could potentially pick from, I guess, if they want to bring someone back. But the idea being that, yes, you do a way more focused narrative on, there is a way more heavy story element on a couple front-loading GTA rather than just a career criminal or something like that. I like the idea of them still getting out there and mentioning this stuff because for as many of us have been terrified of the idea of a GTA Online only future, this seems like they have found a way to tick both boxes and go forward with, the campaign stuff in GTA.
So. I really hope so.
Without Dan Houser. So yeah, I like the idea of this being as a framing device, I guess. And I guess, what do you think of them bringing back the heist stuff as well?
I love the heist stuff. I love the heist in the online space. I like the heists in the main game. I want to see that more expanded. Go into the setups in a little bit more detail, maybe have a little bit more variety in how you're able to pull off those heists. I thought that was really cool. I wonder if they will bring it back just kind of verbatim or whether they will add like a certain twist in it, but I do think it's a kind of neat thing and a neat addition to completely discard, similar to like kind of multiple protagonist approach. Like I always thought that would have been a weird thing to completely discard, so the idea of them being 2, hopefully both playable, is really cool. I want to ask you though, what do you think, because this is where I am a little bit more cautious about them going back to Vice City, because when we've talked about these rumors in the past, I've always not lamented the fact that they just keep repeating the same cities over and over again with new hardware and realizing revitalizing them with brand new technology. But for me, the idea of kind of having more than just Vice City was the thing that was appealing, because I love Vice City. It's my favorite of the PS2 trilogy, and it would be interesting to see that city kind of updated in the modern day to see how it's changed from the 80s. But that said, it is a city that we've seen before, and would you have preferred something a little bit different?
I think it's kind of going to be in what they have actually focused on. I should have mentioned before that in regards to the map size being reduced, one thing that they do mention here is that there'll be more interiors than any other GTA, which is a nice wrinkle to, I guess, the idea of open world map design, because not that many open world games prioritize interiors, and especially in terms of getaways or in terms of, you know, factoring them into general gameplay. I was replaying Assassin's Creed 3.
Of course you were.
Because of course I was. Sorry, Assassin's Creed Unity, which started in 3.
That's worse somehow.
It is a little bit, but Unity's not that bad in 2022, let it be known. But still, Unity has that whole thing where you can just hold L1 and just go through like a building. You can just jump through a window or whatever, and that does expedite the idea of escaping from the authorities or whatever in a way that could transfer over to something like a GTA. So yeah, I think in terms of them reusing stuff, for me it's weird because I feel like they've missed their window. I feel like right now we're at the tail end of the 80s boom that has been going on the last few years. And it feels like if they landed in the middle of that, it would have made a lot more marketing sense. Whereas now I feel like there's a burgeoning amount of people going, oh my god, it's another 80s song, Thor Love and Thunder, do something else. And so I think it depends how they play it. The Project America's leak mentioned that the setting would be in the 70s and 80s, obviously, like I said, multiple time periods. And I wonder whether they are still doing a throwback, 70s, 80s type thing, because that lets them do a greatest hit style soundtrack, which was a big part of GTA, or if it's set in the modern day and then you distance it that way. The modern day Miami Strip is I can't think of the phrase, a stone's throw, what's the opposite of a stone's throw?
Far away stone
throw.
I don't know what you're trying to say here.
Well, I'm trying to say that it's got the modern day Miami Strip is quite far away from 80s Miami Strip.
Yes.
So if you do modern day Miami,
that's it.
That's a different thing,
It certainly is, and I do think it's interesting what Rockstar does when it comes to, evolving a map over a time period. We saw a little bit of that in Red Dead Redemption 2, which is set over the course of a few years, and you see things like, lumber mills being constructed, and then they're suddenly up. You see the landscape change, so it would be cool if we do have these multiple time periods to glimpse, Vice City as it was in the 80s, and then I always like the idea of seeing it in the modern day, maybe more run down, maybe more decrepit, maybe a kind of monument to 80s excess that's now just kind of fallen under hard times. I like that idea. And I also like, not to cut you off, is the idea of interiors, because we talk a lot about, what makes a good open world, and for me, as much as I do love my big open worlds, I also love ones that are dense, and I will always take kind of like a density over a kind of just a huge landmass that you just kind of like skirt through and you see for 2 seconds, and then you run to the next thing. I'd rather live in somewhere, and interiors allow you to do that while keeping it fresh.
I will always remember the original pitch for The Getaway
in
2000, saying you could go into a McDonald's to evade the police and sit down and get a little cheeky hamburger and they'd run right past you, which never came true, Sony. But yeah, I think there's more possibilities gameplay-wise by diving into interiors and stuff. It's interesting in terms of them sticking to the same, let's say like 3 locations, Liberty City, Vice City, San Andreas, which have been there since the original Grand Theft Auto, and being very hesitant to go anywhere else. But that's also because the lifeblood of GTA is this sort of parodic lens being applied to America itself, which came from the fact that Dan Houser and the guys were always, they're from Scotland. The developing team was always in the UK overall. So I wonder how much that's changed. How many different staff members are still there over time, how much the idea of what GTA is has changed over time. Rockstar themselves feel like a completely different company in terms of their output. And we mentioned the definitive edition loads, but just the fact that they didn't put the time in to make sure that was okay, and just how much time's been put into GTA Online. GTA Online isn't mentioned in this. In terms of that, must be a whole wing of development that I don't even know what they do with that, other than just kind of try and continue the momentum, maybe transfer your bank funds over so you can access them when you're in the new locations or something. What do you think they'll do with GTA Online?
I think they will just continue making billions and billions of dollars until they overtake the world. No, I think a lot of the stuff in this report, like you mentioned, the evolving world, adding in new cities. To me, that's like could be the bread and butter of GTA Online going forward. I think you essentially just don't change up the formula too much. Like, keep what works with the GTA Online, with how GTA Online is in its current form. Maybe cut a lot of the fat because so much has been added to it, and kind of just like start afresh in a new city with new modes being added to, you know, obviously more customization options, more game modes, and then the idea of the world evolving, I think, is the thing that would keep it alive, and that's what would certainly make me interested, because that's what I wanted from Grand Theft Auto 5's version of online. So to get that on like next gen, to me that's really cool. It doesn't mention next gen at all in here, because I imagine it would be next gen only, but that's just me, you know, speculating.
The sales side of it probably says that it has to be on old consoles, but yeah, I mean, again, if you point to the older leaks, the 2019, the Project Americas leak was a PlayStation 5 exclusive, which is there's no way that's going to be the case. Sony might put some money up to get some timed, you know, exclusive items or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think that they'll probably will do some version on old gen. I wonder if this is how it gets to Switch outside the definitive edition. I just think that might be something they take on, considering how long the development has been.
It's nuts to think that we're coming up to GTA 5's 9th birthday. The game seems eternal, but Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming, which was finally confirmed earlier this year by Rockstar and Take-Two, and even more tantalizing, the most reliable GTA 6 information yet was recently unveiled in a Bloomberg report by reputable journalist Jason Schreier. So with all that in mind, this is GTA 6, 8 confirmed details you need to know. Number 8, the original pitch was too ambitious. One of the more intriguing things about the development of GTA 6 is just how long Rockstar has been working on it. Bloomberg's report confirmed that it has been in production on and off since 2014, and unsurprisingly, plans for features and mechanics have changed in that time. One major revision from the original pitch has been to scale back the scope of the game's map though. Axios game journalist Stephen Totillo via Eurogamer revealed that initially the sequel was set to go bigger than ever, featuring 4 playable characters and a story that would take fans across 3 different American cities. This was also hinted at in the Bloomberg report as well, which detailed that the original vision for the game had it featuring a map comprised of quote-unquote large swaths of North and South America. This also corroborates the 2018 Inside Gaming report, which leaked that South America itself would be an explorable area in the title. Now, while all of that does sound tantalizing and the kind of ambition that would justify a decade of development time, Rockstar has understandably since scaled things back to focus on just one city. And that makes sense. I mean, creating just one of its intricately detailed sandboxes takes years of hard work, and 3 would have only resulted in an even longer wait for GTA 6. Number 7, more interior levels than ever. The star of each GTA game has always been the setting, and according to the Bloomberg report, Rockstar is attempting to go bigger with the next game by actually going denser. Unlike previous entries, the 6th installment is apparently set to feature way more interior levels in the city environment. While big sandboxes are impressive, for my money, the most memorable ones pack greater detail into a smaller space, creating the sense of a lived-in place. With more interior locations to explore then, GTA 6 should achieve just that. Now, this area is admittedly something that Rockstar has been building towards over the past few releases. GTA 5, of course, featured plenty of interior locations, primarily shops that you could hold up as well as mission-specific areas. The same is true for Red Dead Redemption 2, which had plenty of towns and shacks out in the wilderness that you could find and explore. Essentially, more interiors means more opportunity for greater mission variety and more memorable level design, and that can only be a good thing. Number 6, every Rockstar team is working on it. Now onto something confirmed by Rockstar themselves and parent company Take-Two. Grand Theft Auto 6 is in full production, and it's pretty much all hands on deck from every studio in the Rockstar family. Though Rockstar North usually takes the reins on this franchise, the company's games have become so ambitious that recently they've required the resources of more than one studio. Red Dead Redemption 2, for instance, was worked on by every Rockstar studio, and GTA 6 looks to be no different. Recently, the company confirmed that support for Red Dead Redemption Online was being all but stopped in order for the developers to migrate to working on GTA 6. There were also rumors that remasters and remakes of GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption 1 were both put on the back burner because people were working again on Grand Theft Auto 6. Consequently, don't expect any other game announcements from Rockstar anytime soon, as while there may be small teams planning other titles, the bulk of all the company's studios are currently collaborating on this beast of a project. Number 5, the jokes will be more tasteful. One of the main talking points in the Bloomberg report surrounds Rockstar's internal work mentality becoming more progressive and less exclusionary. And that is apparently an approach that is making its way over to the content found in GTA 6. Rockstar's franchise has always been a loud, crass attempt to satirize American life and pop culture. Famous for its cheap gags like transforming a computer's mouse cursor to resemble a hand flipping you off, or allowing you to choose an audio clip of sex moans as your mobile phone ringtone, which I definitely did not do when I was 14. Unsurprisingly though, this South Park-esque approach has seen major releases caught controversy for other kinds of jokes that play up to harmful stereotypes. As such, the Bloomberg report says that, quote, developers are also being cautious not to punch down by making jokes about marginalized groups in contrast to previous games, end quote. GTA 6 will no doubt still wear the franchise's irreverent humor on its sleeve. It's difficult to see that going away, but in a positive move will hopefully avoid any lazy low-hanging gags that come at the expense of marginalized communities. Number 4, 2 playable characters and the first female protagonist. Now, I previously mentioned that the scale of Rockstar's ambitions had been reduced from having 4 playable protagonists. However, the new game will still apparently feature 2 criminals that we'll be jumping into the shoes of. According to the Bloomberg report, unlike GTA 5's intentionally mismatched trio of outcasts, GTA 6 will focus on 2 characters with a more intimate relationship. The pair are reportedly inspired by Bonnie and Clyde, and one of the lead characters has been described as a Latina woman. Now, this of course is noteworthy, as it's been long rumored that Rockstar would look to introduce a female playable character into the series, and it seems like they finally pulled the trigger on that idea. The report didn't detail anything else about these characters, though previous rumors from earlier this year did suggest that the game will feature both male and female playable criminals, and that the pair would also be siblings. Whether that turns out to be true remains to be seen. However, for now, we can at least begin to speculate what this so-called Bonnie and Clyde style pair will get up to in GTA 6. Number 3, a Vice City setting. Confirming another long-time rumor that's circulated for close to a decade now, the Bloomberg report states that GTA 6 will be set in Miami and quote-unquote the surrounding areas. This all but confirms the return of Vice City, which was last seen in its 80s neon-soaked glory in the PS2 game of the same name. As mentioned, Vice City's inclusion was taken as a foregone conclusion. I mean, Rockstar's previous 2 installments reimagined key areas of the PS2 era, namely Liberty City and San Andreas, leaving only Vice City in need of a do-over. Like GTA 5's Los Santos though, expect to see way more than just the locations featured in Vice City in this next game, as the fictional version of Miami is no doubt going to be expanded upon massively, with boroughs not seen, or even possible to be seen, on PS2 hardware. Of course, other rumors from Tom Henderson suggest that players will be seeing Vice City in the modern day as well, as opposed to the 1980s. Seeing how this environment has changed across those decades in itself will be tantalizing, and should make for an entirely different playground of opportunities. Number 2, live service elements and DLC cities. GTA Online is never going away. The live service has made far too much money for it to be suddenly dropped in GTA 6, but what's interesting is that the multiplayer suite's ever-evolving nature is seemingly being applied to the single-player campaign of the next game. The Bloomberg report noted that while GTA 6 will only feature the one city rather than the initially conceived 3, Rockstar has plans to add more to the game over time. This was backed up again by Tom Henderson too, who explained that he heard from sources that the map would be ever evolving. This expansion will hopefully make GTA 6 the most ambitious installment yet and serve as a way for the developers to realize their initial vision of the title over a longer period of time. However, it is unclear whether this live service style sandbox is part of the sequel's multiplayer or single player component, but he is hoping that it's both. For as great as GTA 5 was, it was a major disappointment that the single player experience received no substantial new content post-launch. Online shark cards might bring in the money, but it would be a travesty for Rockstar to once again neglect this part of the game. Number 1, a 2024 to 2025 release date. The actual release date for GTA 6 has unsurprisingly been hotly contested over the past decade, but the assumption has been that it'll drop around 2024 based on comments made by Rockstar's parent company Take-Two. Though some were hoping for a surprise drop in 2023, that no longer looks like the case, as developers speaking to Bloomberg said they anticipated, quote, at least 2 more years of development, taking the earliest release date up to the second half of 2024. Of course, we know how difficult video game development is, and it wouldn't be a Rockstar release without some kind of delay, so 2025 could be more likely. Either way, Take-Two wouldn't have confirmed the game after shrouding it in mystery for so long if it wasn't on the way, and a launch in 2 or even 3 years' time is much preferred to earlier rumors which suggested that the sequel wouldn't drop until deep into the second half of the 2020s. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think about these GTA 6 details? And are there any other rumored ones you wish would come true? Let us know, and while you're down there, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
After the years and years of jokes about Grand Theft Auto 6 and the elongated wait for its release, not to mention countless untrustworthy leaks and rumours along the way, it was pretty remarkable to recently get not just a sneak peek at how the game is shaping up behind the scenes, but a boatload of stuff we were never meant to see. It certainly seems that Grand Theft Auto 6 is still a long time away from release, but we already have many reasons to get excited thanks to early looks at the title's gameplay. Whilst we can't show any of the leaked gameplay footage, there's plenty to talk about what we know for certain and what we can ascertain from what is being called the biggest leak in video game history. I'm Cy for whatculture.com, and this is GTA 6 10 confirmed gameplay details. Number 10. Jason and Lucia. Ever since Grand Theft Auto 5 broke the series mold by featuring 3 equal parts protagonists, fanbase chatter has wondered what that meant for the future of the series. Would this become the status quo moving forward? Not only do the recent video leaks confirm a pair of playable characters, their presence calls back to a more recent report from Bloomberg about the game's story being framed as a Bonnie and Clyde tale of 2 criminals with an intimate relationship. Now we have our first look at the pair and their names, Jason and Lucia. More than just chatter about the number of characters, the idea of a female lead for the series has been a long-standing discussion in the GTA community that only got more intense in recent years. Lucia is the first female protagonist for the series since the original game, but back then it hardly mattered since everything was top-down and there was a far lesser emphasis on character. Like GTA 5, it appears that swapping between Lucia and Jason can be done at any time with the push of the down button on the D-pad. During certain instances, there's also footage of the game informing that R1 will allow the player to check with the other character nearby to make sure that your criminal activities are going off without a hitch. Number 9. Robberies. Perhaps the most tasty and widely shared piece of early gameplay from the GTA 6 leak is a scene where the player, as Lucia, robs a fast food joint. It's unclear whether this is part of a mission or just done during normal gameplay, but it does seem likely that this is something that the player can do at any time if they're willing to take the risk. Lucia can be seen to hold up the cashier. At one point, the player takes aim at a civilian and picks the option to restrain them, tying their wrists together, something new for the series. During all of this, a timer bar counts down at the top. Shortly after it depletes, the cops arrive at the scene and the pair steal a vehicle to escape with a 2-star wanted level. This might be a good, if slightly risky way to earn cold hard cash in GTA 6. It makes one wonder just how far the robbery gameplay element might go. Sure, stealing from the local Cluckin' Bell is one thing, but how about a bank? Number 8. More adept police. Whilst the robbery is all well and good and interesting to watch, it hides an alluring piece of information as Lucia gets in her stolen squad car to flee the scene. Text in the top left reads, "Any vehicle you are seen entering will be known by the law." Previously in GTA, escaping a wanted level could simply mean getting away from the police and hiding out somewhere. Once the blinking wanted level had vanished, you were free to roam the streets in the car that had just been through a high-speed chase. This little text box seems to imply that that may no longer be the case, and that GTA 6's law enforcement will have an eye out for the vehicle that their previously wanted criminals were last seen using. It's likely that this kind of notoriety that exists outside of the traditional wanted level can be overwritten by swinging by the classic pay and spray stores to repaint your vehicle, but all the same it'll put more pressure on the player to keep moving and abandon anything that might flag up on the VCPD's records. Number 7. The map size. Whilst not necessarily a gameplay detail, having confirmation on where Grand Theft Auto 6 takes place is a big deal. Speculation that the game would feature Rockstar's Miami equivalent has been rife for years, with the 2022 Bloomberg reports finally confirming that that would be the case. As seen in the leaked gameplay videos, it's most certainly the vibrant and tropical Vice City, as noted by the VCPD marked police cars, the Vice City Metro, and various buildings in the background. Whilst we don't know precisely how big the map is yet, it's likely that Vice City itself will be a lot larger than you remember it from the PS2 if players are being given the option to use a metro to navigate it. However, various other leaks, some that go as far back as 2018, have stated that whilst Vice City is a key location, the game was going under the development name Project Americas because it would also take players to Central and South America. Whilst the gameplay we have seen through the leak seems to all be in Vice City, this development name has been confirmed via a short clip of windowed gameplay that featured the file name Americas. Ergo, it's entirely possible that this is going to be far and away the biggest GTA map, one that takes us right across the continent. Number 6. Vice City's Bayou. Whilst we never see it in the leaked videos, there's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that we will have an opportunity to explore the countryside of Grand Theft Auto's Florida. Like how San Andreas and GTA 5 both really made the area around Los Santos more than just a cityscape, we can expect to see the surrounding areas of Vice City as confirmed in the Bloomberg piece earlier this year. To build upon this, there were a few blink and you'll miss the moments in those numerous gameplay leaks. First and foremost, the existence of drivable airboats. We don't get a clear look at it, but it appears to be a totally new design from the hoverboats of GTA's past and more in line with bayou and swamp boats of the real world. They would be perfect for exploring Vice City's wilderness. By looking through text that appears alongside the gameplay, it appears that wildlife in Vice City will feature raccoons, boars, and alligators, which further points to the possibility of swamp-like areas. Finally, there are mentions of fishing spots and bait shops, which would be a totally new gameplay mechanic for the series, although something that Rockstar has experience with now thanks to Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 5. What Up Texting. In the past, GTA was famous for moving around the time periods of America to set its stories in various decades of cultural significance. Vice City hasn't been seen in the GTA canon since the 1980s, so there's going to be lots of changes for fans to soak up in the 6-numbered title, as it seems pretty clear the game takes place in the modern day. Not only do leaked videos show pedestrians using smartphones, including one who is very clearly taking selfies, a piece of text that appears when Jason walks around a strip club informs the player they have a new What Up message, Rockstar's nod to WhatsApp Messenger. The return of the mobile phone isn't surprising since it was a clever way to hide various menus and information and not clutter GTA 5's user interface. Plus, setting the game in this time period means that GTA Online, not to mention the main game as revealed by the Bloomberg report, can grow post-launch in truly interesting and modern ways. Additionally, in terms of when the game is set, a conversation between two NPCs in the leak mentions the fate of Life Invader CEO Jay Norris from GTA 5, confirming that the next installment will take place after 2013 at the very least. Number 4. More realistic character animations. At the time of writing, it's been a full 9 years since Grand Theft Auto 5 initially launched, and in that time, gaming has evolved in the technological department. Considering that Rockstar has all of their studios reportedly working on GTA 6, as they quite rightfully should, we should expect high quality in all areas from the finished product. The leaked gameplay videos we have seen are very early alpha builds of the game, and it looks so much better than it should already, so it's exciting to think what the finished product will look like when it eventually arrives. This isn't just limited to graphics, but clearly there is a strong emphasis on high quality animations so that characters in the GTA 6 world move realistically and interestingly. Leaks have shown us lots of new animations, not just reinventions of the expected, but also things that are new to GTA, including switching weapons between hands, swiftly being able to drop guns and pick up new ones, as well as slinging rifles onto a character's back when not in use. Putting those weapons to good use also looks a lot smoother too, with an extended clip of drive-by animations that look more varied and more fluid as Jason stretches out of the window of a vehicle in a variety of ways to get a more accurate view around him. Number 3. Limited inventory. In the past, Rockstar has let us run riot with as much mayhem as we could possibly produce. There's a line with realism, one that video games often ignore for the sake of fun. It doesn't matter how Trevor fits a handgun, shotgun, machine gun, machete, rocket launcher, stacks of grenades, etc. on his person, we were just happy to ignore the logic. Red Dead Redemption 2 was such a step forward for the company and the industry's view on realism in games, with divisive opinions, and it'll be interesting to see if that impacts how GTA 6 plays. We already have our first look with several clips that show us early versions of the game's much more reduced inventory. For now, it seems that Jason and Lucia can carry 5 firearms and 1 melee weapon each. That being said, it seems that this can be upgraded, as we do briefly see Lucia with a duffel bag that increases her inventory space by 2. It'll be an interesting change, and whilst it's a reduction, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Combining this with the ability to drop and grab new weapons on the fly, it'll present combat in a different way to players, especially in harder and longer shootouts. Number 2. Stealth gameplay. Because a lot of the GTA 6 gameplay leak is without context, we're yet to see stealth in action, but it seems, judging from several new ways that the player can move, that it's going to factor into the franchise for the first time. New for GTA 6 is moving prone and crawling across the ground. In fact, there is a frankly incredible animation of Jason smoothly moving a crate out of his way as he does so. Additionally, in a short section, the player can be seen carrying an NPC over their shoulders in a fireman's carry. Whilst this has been a part of Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption series for lassoing folk to take them to your horse, there's not been much reason for Grand Theft Auto to integrate this until now. The ability to sneak past hostiles rather than engage with them is certainly something that could be improved upon for the upcoming title compared to its predecessors, giving players more options on how to approach situations. More than that, picking up and hiding downed bodies to maintain your stealth could be something really rewarding. GTA 6 won't just be about super smooth graphics and frame rate, it needs to add to the franchise's gameplay formula, and this is certainly a feature that the series really could integrate with great ease. Number 1. Modes of transportation. Through the near hour of gameplay that has been leaked so far, keen-eyed GTA fans have picked out plenty of vehicles that they recognise from either gameplay or on-screen text. Whilst many are of course subject to change, classics like the Picador and the Sanchez dirt bike seem to be on the list to be making comebacks. Found in the source code are a couple of particularly interesting transportation methods, one futuristic and one more old school. The first of which will be making a grand return from GTA Online and San Andreas, as text exists that says "Equip Jetpack." Perhaps even more exciting and unexpected, however, and yet another connection to the franchise's sister series, are the words "Mount Horse." With a brand new countryside to explore, it absolutely makes sense to include this, especially as the team have experience doing so with the Red Dead series. It'll be interesting to see how much of the same gameplay dynamics cross over, and if they change, whether GTA's protagonists will be able to jump on wild horses or have to seek out trained ones. Either way, expect all kinds of chaos to ensue when players rob grocery stores and try to escape down the street on a horse. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below, and how excited you are for Grand Theft Auto 6 now that we've gotten our first taste. Whilst you're there, let us know of any gameplay details that you saw from the leak that we missed. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I've been Cypher What Culture, and have a good week.
Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, you can't go a few weeks without knowing something else about GTA 6. Never the full picture, though.
Not in this office, you can't. Certainly not in this office.
Not in this office. So we have this report written up by IGN that came from Take-Two, issuing a earnings report accompanied by a press release for their fiscal year 2025, beginning April 2024, mentioning, or at least dancing around the idea, the assumption of GTA 6 filling in this big billion-dollar gap that they are referring to in their press release. So to quote the press release, for the last few years, we've been preparing our business to release an incredibly robust pipeline of projects, and in fiscal 2025, Take-Two expect to enter this new era by launching several groundbreaking titles that they believe will set new standards in the industry and enable them to achieve an $8 billion net booking and over $1 billion in adjusted unrestricted operating cash flow. It's a lot of PR work.
Here's the thing. I'm not sure if you know this, Scott Telford, but $8 billion is a lot of money. That is GTA money. And I know Take-Two obviously have a bunch of other other games in the pipeline that we'll no doubt talk about in this video.
Yes.
But if you want to hit a number as astronomical as that in one fiscal year, you need a Rockstar game. And specifically, you need a GTA game to go along with it.
So the thing here is IGN have noted that Take-Two's previous net bookings were way lower. Fiscal 2024 was 5.3 billion, obviously 3 billion lower, and the year before that, and also the 5.3 number came with the acquisition of Zynga to get them to that number. The year previously, it was only 3 billion. So we're talking about something that would bring in a few $1 billion, and it makes sense for it to be GTA 6. Now, it could be some other acquisition. IGN talk about, the possibilities of how they would hit that number, but the fact that they're out here mentioning this, and we saw GTA 6 leak, I think it was last year?
Yes,
the year before?
it was. Time's a flat circle.
Time is a flat circle. It leaked recently, though. We know that it's been in development for a hell of a long time. There's gameplay footage out there in a primitive enough state, but it makes sense for it to be dropping between April 2024 and April 2025.
It does, absolutely. There's been a lot of reports since the big leak, suggesting that the scale of the game has slightly been reined in, so they managed to hit a reasonable release date and don't push it off into the ether. It's been a long time, 5 years this year since Rockstar released Red Dead Redemption 2, so they've been working on this for a long time. We've seen the early build in the leaks and what have you. It would make sense. However, I don't think this is going to be the only game that Take-Two have to release next year, or maybe, early 2025. They've got BioShock, the next BioShock that's been in development for a long, long time. They've got Ken Levine's new game, Judas. They've got a bunch of other projects in the works that could be ready to release, and maybe to supplement this $3 billion excess that they want to bring in on top of the $5 billion they brought in over the past year or so. They release a $1 billion game guaranteed in GTA 6, and then they supplement the rest and try to hit that level with a new BioShock, which won't do GTA numbers, but will do numbers.
That's the interesting part. Yeah, I want to reel off a few release dates here, because I feel like in regards to the previous release dates that Rockstar have used for their major games, even if you go all the way back to GTA 3, that released in October 2001, you've got GTA 4 in April 2008, but most of the time it's later in the year. GTA 5 September 2013, Red Dead 2 October 2018, so it seems like in terms of the overall, the fiscal year stuff, if we want to talk about when this big wad of money is going to come in, and then I guess they'll map their year out around the titles that you mentioned.
Yes.
There should be a big GTA release towards the end of next year.
The thing is, though, that's the optimistic view I'm sure Take-Two have. Get this thing out fall next year, 11 years after GTA 5, dominate sales, bring in $1 billion. But I ask you, when was the last time a Rockstar game did not get delayed publicly at least one time? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news or anything, but I wouldn't put hard money on this coming out next October. I do think it might get pushed potentially to early 2025, but at the very least it's cool to know that they have a window that they're aiming for, seemingly aiming for, and whether that is late next year or early 2025, as long as the game's good, as long as the game comes out, as long as we appreciate it and enjoy it, I'm fine waiting that extra few months. I've already waited 10 years and counting for this thing.
It's so... There's like a whole generational gaming gap transition thing happened where you got a whole next generation of gamers have come up on GTA 5 or picked up a copy of GTA 5, and that game's been re-released twice on PS4 and Xbox One and then PS5 and Xbox Series systems.
It was back in the top 10 just last week. It re-emerged back in there, making millions and millions of dollars once again. God. And I thought... stupidly, Scott Tail, but I thought it would run out of steam at some point. Not totally run out of steam, but I thought it would fall out the top 10 and then maybe struggle to get back in even if it was making money. But no, 10 years on nearly, it's just continuing to just rake in the cash. And that's why Take-Two only needs to release like an NBA game and some mobile games. Because it's got GTA 5 supplementing everything else.
Another thing that's worth throwing in here is the kind of, I don't know if there's like a lethargy around GTA. Not necessarily personally, I'm very fascinated to see what the hell GTA 6 is. And like I said, we had the leaked bits of gameplay, there's mentions of heists and character names and things like that. But I don't know, like whenever I talk to people in the office or talk to friends and stuff, it's just kind of like GTA is just this background thing now. Like it doesn't have obviously didn't have the constant release schedule of the 2000s, and Rockstar as an overall entity aren't anywhere near as exciting as they used to be. And so it's not like GTA isn't going to shake the earth when GTA 6 does finally come out. But I am curious, let us know what you think down in the comments below about the state of GTA, because I feel like that's an interesting talking point as well. Like they've waited so long.
Yes.
And there was a whole insider report, I think on Bloomberg, excuse me, about the state of the game and how because it's making so much money and because it's still in the top 10, there is literally no rush whatsoever to turn this thing over because GTA Online makes like $8 million a day or something. And there's just no rush whatsoever. But it's just weird that GTA can coast by, be massive, and yet no one really talks about it.
Well, I think it might be because of what you mentioned earlier, Scott Tilford. We don't talk about it.
True.
Because we played it 10 years ago, and then we bought it again for the PlayStation 4,
again,
and then we bought it again. You know, we've experienced GTA 5 a lot at this moment in time. But like you mentioned, there seems to be like a new generation just getting into GTA now who won't have the lethargy maybe that we have. And I'm in a kind of weird place with the franchise overall. Like when it is properly announced, when we see a proper trailer, some gameplay and stuff, I'm going to be absolutely falling over myself to do videos talking about it, you know, pulling it apart, dissecting it, hopefully praising it, because I really have enjoyed Rockstar's, you know, admittedly few previous games. Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and I've loved GTA 5. I played that thing to death, loved the online component as well. So, but with that in mind, I do agree that it's in a weird space because it just has been so long, and there have been so many leaks and rumors that some have potentially come true, some potentially have not, that we just have talked about GTA 6 for a decade now, literally ever since GTA 5 came out. And I think...
Since before either of us worked here.
Since before either of us worked
that's
here.
How long this has been going.
Since before I was, like, even a grown-up, more or less. But I think now it's at the point of, like, you know, it's been this long. It's kind of becoming a Half-Life 3 thing, where it's like, okay, at a certain point, the conversation stopped being all that intriguing until we see something, until we see something, like, official or substantial, like the leaks from last year, where everyone kind of was like, oh my god, it's real. It's actually a thing and not just a concept that we all have in our minds.
Yeah, I think it's worth talking about as well the things that you started to bring up at the beginning about, you know, Take-Two's wider portfolio and the fact that they do have the next Ken Levine game. Because it's been so long, again, that's another 10-year in development game.
Yes.
You know, you've got Ken Levine's last major work was BioShock Infinite, and ever since then, Ghost Story Games, I think, is the name of the devs that he formed by taking some various people from Irrational, from the BioShock development, and making his own separate thing. Judas finally got revealed, and it just looks like another first-person BioShock-style game.
It does.
But that game's apparent hook is this sort of way of, this innovative new approach to storytelling where everyone's individual story is unique, etc., etc. Believe it when I see it. But that seems to be the thing that they are going for. And I think Take-Two, it's interesting that they have this massive legacy franchise that's been in development for 10 years that everyone's going to go towards, and then they're making these massive billion-dollar projections that do factor that in as well. The fact it's something like a Judas in. But whether that, you know, how much of that is going to contribute to that billion-dollar number, and how much do people even care about Ken Levine now, and with 10 years passing since BioShock was in full flow.
Well, that's true, man. I think, you know, I have no idea what their expectations are going to be for that title. You know, there was a kind of report doing the rounds a little while ago, investigating what was going on in that studio.
Yes.
It was essentially saying that it was such a small team that Take-Two was just like, go on, do whatever you want. We're not going to be pushing you for results yet. And then we saw the game last year, and like you said, it looked like a BioShock spiritual successor, which is great, but it's kind of maybe deflating depending on what, you know, what you had thought that game might be with the studio breaking away from that franchise. And yeah, I don't think that's going to be as successful as GTA, but you want to hope it does well. You know, any new IP, I hope does well. I don't want the 2K or Take-Two or whoever to just rely on the franchises that they have and just give us that forever. You want to see these studios to kind of do something new. So if you get a Judas that supplements the likes of, you know, Red Dead, Grand Theft Auto, Mafias from 2K, your Borderlands from 2K as well, and Gearbox, like, I want those to kind of be able to fit in there and kind of help bolster the portfolio, like you mentioned.
Hashtag bolster the portfolio. I feel like overall, it is worth flagging, if you want to take this with a bigger pinch of salt, that they do have enough IP that they could then shadow drop or drop those things without that much of a run-up. The amount of games that you just mentioned there, in theory, if they played their cards right on the marketing side or the timing side or whatever, could start to make up that amount of money. It's just that overall, we're talking about a $3 billion deficit, and that feels like a GTA-sized number.
That's exactly right. Like, all of those games that we mentioned, they are big games. People are looking forward to them. But are they even taken together, are they $3 billion big? I don't necessarily know. And I worry that if you were wanting the next BioShock or the Judas game or whatever to make $3 billion, you might be setting them up for a fail.
Yes.
You know, you might be putting too high expectations on them, and you'll end up in a Square Enix scenario where you're like, uh-oh, these great games that made a load of money didn't make enough money.
Oh, God. I don't want anyone chasing
using the Square Enix model right now. We'll see how things shake out. Let us know what you think down in the comments below of GTA 6 though, and follow this video right here for all the latest information on GTA 6. Like I said, there's a bunch already leaked. There's various hints of plot points and gameplay mechanics, etc. that'll all be in there. For now though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye bye. Goodbye.